On his 16th birthday, the hero dove into adventuring for real, and now 4 crazy years have already flown by. The gates are cracking open, and you can feel something huge about to burst through. The tall warrior whips around and starts to craft. He drops the bomb on the shocking hero. He's been expelled and tells him it's only temporary. The warrior can't stop wondering, did the craft really turn real life into magic? 3 adventurers jump the hero in a ruthless ambush, shouting that he's completely useless for the job. They're even ready to swear his magical crest is fake, because Kraft can only pull off basic magic, and he just tightens his grip on his staff. One of the adventurers locks in a sharp conclusion about Kraft's real profession. He claims he's got 0 talent for adventuring, and the hero can only swallow that truth. So yeah, Kraft gets kicked out of the group again, and now he's stuck wondering, how many more times is he supposed to get tossed around before it finally stops? When Kraft steps into the room with the guild secretary, he already knows what went down. No questions, no hesitation. And the hero only breaks harder, tearing up as he confirms it. Then the secretary steps in and politely tells Kraft exactly what he thinks. She's dead sure this craft isn't meant for adventurers, and it's definitely not the first time he's been kicked out of the team. Kraft pushes himself to become a powerhouse mage, but every time he jumps ship and leaves the team before it can even gel. He has nothing to say to the secretary. His magic is so weak that even those little monsters keep getting him in trouble, and he's constantly the one someone has to rescue. Kraft only managed to grasp the barest basics of magic, summoning water, then hit a hard wall and couldn't learn anything beyond it. He's completely stuck. Then non-stop rejections slam into his head like flashing memories that won't stop. Suddenly, the secretary bursts in and tells him the Builders Guild just filed a request. This request isn't like the usual ones. Our hero perks up, fully intrigued. Construction is about to kick off on a brand new village, hidden along a secret road near the border. They're looking for someone who can hold that position long enough to get the job done. The hero finally realizes he can't pull this off without walking straight out of the Adventurers Guild. He knows quitting the guild won't change a thing, and he refuses to take the offer, while the secretary swears this job fits him perfectly because it barely demands any fighting skills. Because Kraft's a terrible mage with 0 skill for adventure, he has no choice but to give in and agree. He tells the secretary he'll take the request, then leans in and demands every detail, step by step, explain it all. The secretary stares in shock at how smoothly it all goes down, then snaps into action and starts handling every last detail, so Kraft ends up getting cut right out of the Adventurers Guild. Kraft feels like it's been lit by inspiration. He's convinced this moment is about to flip his whole life upside down. He's got one dream burning in his chest: becoming a professional builder. He's ready to take the leap and build his own business, but the non-stop noise keeps hijacking his focus. Loaders sprint past, shoulders straining under a huge, heavy bundle. Kraft looks around and realizes the whole world is roaring with life all around him. He froze dead in the middle of the bustling square, surrounded by everyone rushing past. Someone yells his name from across the chaos. The man closes in, baffled and curious about what this Kraft is doing here, and he can only force out one question: where the registrar is. Rage still burns in his chest as he snaps, asking who Kraft is trying to register, as then the moment he hears the hero came from the Adventurers Guild, his whole attitude flips on the spot. The stranger pulls Kraft into a tight hug and blurts out his thanks, then tells his coworkers he'll be gone for a bit, before stepping out to personally see the guy off. At the Builders Guild, the stranger steps in and tells our hero, "I've been waiting for you." Turns out this guy is the guild leader. When the hero announces his full name with that craftwalk strut, the guild leader lights up even more and blurts that it's an awesome name for a builder. He's absolutely thrilled, and even the Kraft can't resist the fun anymore. As the guild leader fills out Kraft's paperwork, he clocks that Kraft is a mage, but Kraft laughs it off, insisting he's just talentless, and after 4 years of training, he still can't pull off a single thing. The leader doesn't buy it for a second. He corners the hero and demands proof. "Have you tested what your crest can do?" And when the hero admits he hasn't, the whole moment collapses. Kraft was born in a village soaked in magic, so a coat of arms appeared to represent it, though that's all he can say about it. Now the leader pushes a plan: head to a priest who will test exactly what that crest can do. The hero balks at the plan because it costs a fortune, but the leader slams the worries down and promises they've got everything under control. Then Kraft can't shake the feeling they're being strangely nice to him, and the leader answers, "Just wait. If you really have the mind of a craftsman, this is going to be huge." Kraft gets that, but he's dead certain his coat of arms just isn't built for magic. He says he'll think it over. Then the leader suddenly calls out to a guy in a tall cap who's sitting right nearby at the counter. A priest steps in, the herald's loyal servant in tow, and with a courteous smile he asks Kraft, straight up, if he wants to test what his coat of arms can truly do. Kraft nods along, and the priest kicks off the ritual. They're running tests to figure out the code behind arms' powers. Suddenly, the attendant snaps to a stop, stunned to the core. He can't believe what he's hearing. Kraft is completely baffled. The priest admits he's never laid eyes on something more incompatible than his own craft and the coat of arms he wields. The mismatch is so brutal it can even wreck the guy's health if he uses the coat of arms, and Kraft is left completely stunned by the news. The crowd around him stares in shock just like he is, and the Kraft feels like it's one breath away from knocking out cold. The minister demands they change the coat of arms right now, because an incompatible one shouldn't work at all, unless it's one of those rare, freak chances. Kraft still can't wrap his head around it. Right there, in front of stunned spectators, the priest promises to rewrite the coat of arms on the spot, and Crafts finally agrees. The hero lines in and asks, which coat of arms is really meant for me? The attendant says the crest with the most special power is the perfect one for crafting. Twilight Alchemist's craft is a total mystery. Nobody even knows what it really is. Everyone's left stunned. Then the guild leader snatches the craft with pure, unstoppable excitement. He'd never even heard of the Twilight Alchemist. Turns out this crest tweaks the usual alchemist in a subtle but real way. So the alchemist crest is rare and priceless, but the Twilight Alchemist has never shown up here before, and the only thing waiting in the shadows are higher-rank crests, built from the basic one. Twilight Alchemist works the same way as the basic alchemist, so right now, the main character stands at the very top, stronger than every other alchemist. That name sounds so weird because it's only temporary. Nobody ever had a coat of arms like this before. The minister cooked up this plan to prove one thing. Once the protagonist masters alchemy, he'll be able to forge gold. When asked straight up if he'd agree to change the coat of arms, Kraft freezes for a beat, then finally bites the bullet and says goodbye to the old one. Finally, he grabs the priest and demands the coat of arms be changed, so the old one can be freed from its suffering. The minister reassures him, then kicks off the conversion ritual. At last, the minister blurts out the name, Twilight Alchemist **, and with the final words, the ritual snaps shut, leaving a brand new emblem etched onto the hero's hand. His hand ignites with light, and an insane wave of magical power crashes through him, filling every inch of his body. He can't believe his own magic, like what is even happening. That hand's coat of arms gleams gold, and the priest says the golden crests rank first above every other color. He's never seen anything like this, and once he's done staring, he's racing to tell everyone about the pattern. The hero clocked the servant and grilled him, then the servant just shrugged and said, I was only doing my job. A total stranger girl suddenly blurts out a loud, shocked exclamation. This is her first time meeting an alchemist, and not just any alchemist, one of that terrifyingly high level. The guild leader steps in and introduces her, and her name is Letha Hemen. Leafa's part of the crew barreling toward the border, until they come face to face with Kraft. As Leafa gushes about how awesome it'd be to have an alchemist in the party, Kraft shoots back, asking how a tiny girl like her could even make it to the border, and the guild leader just laughs like it's all perfectly adorable. He says Leafa isn't just walking in, she's leading the whole group, and Kraft is stunned. Then the leader snaps that it makes zero sense to send a top-notch alchemist to the border, and Leafa erupts back, blasting a loud objection. She snatches the hero into her arms and presses in tight, clinging to him like she has zero plans to let go. Kraft is totally thrown off. Leafa and their leader are still in the middle of a heated fight over where they should send him. The leader clocks Kraft's confusion and snaps that Leafa is half-dwarf and way older than she seems. Leafa snaps into a rage, snarling at the leader and raising a massive hammer like she means to smash him. The leader bows and apologizes to Leafa, and Kraft can't help but think he's far weaker than he lets on. Kraft begs Leafa to let him go, still squirming with awkwardness. Then the leader cracks another joke about Leafa's age. She slams the floor with a hammer, and the impact hits like a nightmare. The entire building shudders like it's about to die, and then the beams crash down. Leafa declares the repair money will be pulled straight from the Builders Guild, and everyone nods in agreement, while Kraft seethes that the leader himself is the one to blame. The Builders Guild boss brags with real pride about Leafa's raw power, but his smile tightens when he starts worrying about the village manager. The border count's direct lineage is at the center of this case. Kraft can't wrap his head around how a nobleman gets to rule just one lonely border village, and the chapter lays out exactly how he negotiates to make it work. But he figures half-dwarf in one corner, a Twilight alchemist in the other, they've got this, yet Kraft can't shake the awful gut feeling creeping up on him. But this is his first real job as an alchemist, and he's going to throw everything he's got into it. The next morning breaks, and everyone can't wait to get moving. Lifa shoots them a confident smile and promises, "We roll out the moment those wagons are fully loaded." The place was packed with carts and overflowing luggage like the whole guild had hitched themselves to the journey. But it only looks that way because they roll in and cart off everything the settlers will need in their new home, and the hero just stands there watching as the wagons get loaded up. The hero's luggage is tucked away in a spatial storage, and the moment Kraft awakens as an alchemist, he somehow masters the skill overnight. When he tells the headmaster and Lifa about it, their faces go wide with shock. Kraft never saw this reaction coming. The leader has no clue that kind of skill even exists, and Lifa swears it's so rare it feels unreal. They push Kraft to use it right now, and the leader spots a chance, hunting for someone to try it on. It's a mountain of bricks in his cart, and Kraft scrambles to talk his way out, only for the boss to keep pushing and persuading like he won't take no for an answer. Lifa backs up the leader, and he snaps that these bricks are packed tight and heavy enough to let you instantly gauge just how much Kraft storage can actually hold, because this is the perfect way to put the skill to the test. Sure, he can't handle this with his own power. The hero launches a spell and whips it straight at the cart. To his shock, it all goes flawlessly. 1 second the cart is right there, the next it's swallowed by the vault, and everyone's left staring in total disbelief. It wasn't hard at all, and honestly, it's wild that the skill even works on a cart this heavy. The hero charges back to its spot, pushes it into place, and nails it. Kraft's grinning ear to ear. He can't believe it, because he's never once wielded magic this powerful. The hero figures, if my alchemy flops, I'll at least become a loader, while the leader snaps, "Bring every card together, Kraft is going to get used." It hits every single card at the same time, and the whole place erupts in pure, overwhelming joy. Kraft and Lifa are ringed by a crowd of fans, staring in awe like they've just witnessed something incredible. Their joy slams straight into the hero's nerves, and the guild's leader still hands him money to transport the goods, even while all those Kraft objections are flying. And if word gets out that an alchemist on this level is working for free, Kraft is going to hit a whole new level of trouble fast. Greeted by grateful faces, the hero pauses and thinks he's finally banked enough to coast for 2 whole months in comfort, proof that one skill can change everything. Then he can't stop admiring his brand new coat of arms. Lifa calls out to Kraft and orders him to drop the formalities from here on out. Now every guild member is basically family to him, and he can finally call her by that cute short name. Everyone's buzzing because the team just got stacked with insanely strong teammates. Lifa leans in and wishes him good luck, then he flashes a grateful smile and thanks her back. So the hero became a Twilight alchemist and dove headfirst into a whole new life. Meet Kraft Walken, an unlucky mage who keeps getting kicked out of teams over and over again. But then boom, he finds his true calling, and once he earns the strongest magical crest, the Twilight Alchemist, he heads straight to Kaitaku village and becomes a full-time alchemist. Kraft and Lifa head to the ceremony where the Pioneer Corps gets sent off, and the hero, totally lost about what's going on, until the girl reassures him it's just a long-standing tradition. He's praying the ceremony burns out fast and keeps pushing Lifa to wrap it up right now. But just when they expected emptiness, the square exploded with marching soldiers, shining armor, and unstoppable force. The guildmaster seethes because he asked to make the ceremony simpler, and the warriors' leader snaps back that someone traveled all this way, so they'd better be welcomed with dignity. A towering noble slips out from behind the soldiers and steps straight up to the leader, greeting him with confidence, Zaid Gassadal Vale. Every single person drops to one knee. Lifa leans in and whispers the whole situation to the kneeling Kraft. "You don't have to kneel. This isn't some official visit. It's just a simple meeting." Zid starts to blurt out that his little brother is behind everything happening in the village of Kaitak. Kyle Gassettle Wade steps forward too, just a tiny kid, and the crowd erupts in puzzled whispers. The leader feels crushed. His leader might be just a small kid, and Kraft and Lifa stare on with pure irritation, while the hero can't shake a gut-wrenching bad feeling. Turns out Kyle isn't alone, he's with a little girl, his younger sister Mina Vale, and when Kyle starts talking, he hints that there are certain circumstances. Because of them, the boy dragged his sister along too, and when the leader tried to block it, he shot back, "Zaid, think about the kid's safety. This village is brutal." Then he smirked because he already knew. Zaid leans in and asks the boy if he's ready for the hike. He shoots back that he is, and Zaid grins like that settles everything. And the aristocrat snarls that if anything goes wrong, the expedition leader will take the blame. and every single one of them will be punished. Kraft realizes Zaid's plan is really a trap. He's trying to let his little brother shine with words, but it's set up to be impossible, and it's going to wreck Kyle's reputation. The boy tightens his fists with iron resolve as the aristocrat keeps tearing into him, and right when it peaks, Kraft cuts in and interrupts Zaid. Right in front of a shaking Lifa and Glava, he thunders that he's 100% sure this plan is going to succeed. The girl's nerves are screaming, Zaid leans in with interest, and Kraft drops the bomb that the boy reminds him of his own childhood, so he's stepping in to help Kyle. At least, unlike Kraft, this boy isn't stuck on his own. Kraft is about to prove that kid isn't useless, because he's dead certain that before long they'll crush every problem, come out on top, and claim victory. Zaid snapped still with pure shock, while the guild members threw their hands to their heads like they couldn't believe what they just saw. Suddenly, the aristocrat erupted into wild laughter. He calls the Kraft's bravery out, and his own rudeness too, but deep down he's sure the settlers are about to face a disaster. He whips around, heads out, calls the guys good luck, and fires one last warning: whatever happens, the result matters most. The hero swears this is the worst goodbye send-off he's ever seen, and as soon as the head and Lifa smack into him, they demand how he could pull a stunt like that, while Kraft finally snaps and can't hold back. Kyle finally cuts in mid-showdown, and the moment Kraft steps in, Kyle demands to know what sparked his intervention. The leader and Lifa both drop to the ground in an instant, yanking the hero down with them, and they beg the aristocrats not to be mad, but the boy just shrugs and says there's no reason to bow. Kraft leans in and tells the kid, "I've been exactly where you are." He spills the whole truth about his pathetic adventurer days, and after everything Kraft has endured, the hero finally feels connected, and he's determined to help Kyle. Kyle admits he's a total weakling, but he swears this time he'll go all in, and he's counting on making some kind of difference. At last, he blurts out that he can't do it without Kraft's backing, and his sister instantly steps in to back up his brother's words. Kraft tells the boy they'll make it for sure, and his promise sparks a wave of loud, general jubilation. The guild members still remember Kyle's kindness, and they burst out cheering, yelling that they're thrilled to be on the same team as him. So the boy's reputation skyrocketed overnight. The team stormed out of the construction guild, then took a detour, because charging straight ahead was a death trap. They tore through it for 2 whole days, until the forest finally loomed in front of them. Kraft and Lifu are sprinting so hard the others can barely chase them down. Exhaustion is hitting everyone fast. People keep asking how much farther, and begging for bread breaks, but Lifa fires back with a bold plan: stop for a whole day, because this road has been dragging on and on. Night drops and Letha starts grumbling that keeping a schedule is brutal. Then Kraft jumps in with a plan: brew a stamina potion so everyone can stay awake way longer. The endurance potion is the cure that floods the whole team with strength, easy to make, and with the right craft, everyone can brew one. Lifa says every potion needs a full bucket of herbs, and they're running out fast, but Kraft grins when he realizes that with a crest as brutal as his, he can brew the right potion using only a single spoonful. He's dying to prove his theory, so the boys grab a glass of water, then toss in a spoonful of herbs they dig out of the Kraft storage. Crafted as his very first brew, the stamina potion gets stirred up inside the bowl, right after he finally becomes an alchemist. The potion starts glowing in the dark. He shoves the bowl into the girl's hands, and she focuses hard, using magic to judge its quality. Kraft is on tenterhooks, waiting for the verdict. Then Lifa bursts into a shocked scream, and she can't even wrap her head around how Kraft brewed a potion that special. Turns out that potion he brewed wasn't just good, it was legendary. Both of them freeze in shock. Herb grabs the hero's attention and says the potion he made is magnificent. It only lasts half a day, and then it can be stored for a mind-blowing 1,000 years. Lifa beams with delight, and the next morning they hand the potion to everyone. Then the settlers take one sip of the soup and instantly stare like, "Wait, what happened to the flavor?" Everyone crowds around, mouths watering, and demands to know what new seasoning Kraft slipped into that soup, because once the potion hits, the flavor explodes into something way more delicious. Last night everyone sprawled in pure exhaustion, but the moment morning hit, the fatigue vanished. Hell, even the horse gulped down a potion and snapped back to life. Kraft hands Kyle and his sister the potion, since they haven't even tried it yet, but just as the hero goes for it, everything gets cut off mid-moment. Alfred and Persia, those kids' bodyguards, can't stop worrying about the children's health. They're convinced the potion works way too well, and that makes them suspicious. Meanwhile, the other settlers are thriving, and the boy trusts Kraft too. His grit even shocks the knights. Alfred downs the potion himself, then clutches his chest and gasps right after he finishes the bottle. Energy surges through him, and even Persia frets that something might be wrong, until Kraft steps in and swears the potion has 0 side effects. That potion hits like a truck, but the backlash punches back just as hard. Then bam, the alarm screams as goblins swarm the camp. Persia scrambles to gauge the defenders' strength, and the verdict is brutal. They're woefully outmatched. One lone fighter bursts forward at the goblins, yelling that he'll take them on. Goblins are surging forward, closing in fast. Alfred barrels into the goblin swarm and smashes through them with brutal, power-packed strikes. No matter how brutal the technique, the knight never wears down, and Kraft can't stop thanking him for saving the day with his help. The settlers are rolling with fresh fire, already smashing their schedule, what they planned to take a whole month. They're their way ahead, and they didn't even see it coming. The team hits their goal in just a week, but when the image finally unfolds, it's nothing but bad news. They stare in disbelief at the towering, overgrown wrecks of houses. Turns out Leafy didn't just visit, he grew up right in this village. Kraft stares as her fingers brush the rubble, and childhood memories slam back into her mind. Then someone calls out, "Leafy." The guys spot the perfect spot and start rebuilding the village right here, starting now. Kraft figured he'd have to forge everything from the ground up in the wasteland, so he's thrilled, but Leafy's not convinced at all. She swears this village used to belong to the dwarves. Kyle rolls in, and as the manager, he has to corner the whole crew and talk to everyone before work kicks off. Leafy fires back that the settlers already adore Kyle, and if he gave a speech, it'd make everyone's day. Right after, she bolts to round up the people, while Kraft quietly spirals over the idea of showing up in Leafy's hometown. Kraft wants to lift the girl's spirits, so he's all set to speak up, but Kyle first slips in politely to address the hero, and the hero doesn't even realize he's an aristocrat at first. Then Kraft quickly bows and apologizes for the rude answer he gave. The boy says it with full confidence. He wants to get closer to Kraft. Kraft tells him to drop the formalities, but Kraft shuts him down hard, because their status gap makes that impossible. But the boy digs his heels in and refuses to back down. He's got charm in his back pocket, and his plans locked in, ready to go all in. They lock eyes, and after a beat, the hero finally gives in and nods. Kyle's grinning like nothing can touch him, but his security team is fuming, like they've just seen the impossible. Kyle steps up to the settlers and launches into a fiery speech, laying out plans to draw and demarcate the border. They've got to start developing this land, like yesterday. He orders his people to go all out and leave nothing on the table to make it happen. The crowd erupts in applause. Kyle's bodyguards straight up tear up, and the boy soaks up all that love with total confidence. The hero spots Kyle's sister way off in the distance, hanging back with shaky courage as she supports her brother, and then the hero whips his head toward her. He tells her she can come stand right beside him if she wants. Then the girl bolts over to the Kraft, snuggles up to him like there's no tomorrow, and while she does, Kyle turns to the settlers and orders them to look after the alchemist. Kraft shoots back in shock, and the boy quickly clears it up. He says the hero's already been a huge help to everyone, and he's only going to matter more from here. The settlers want to honor true craft. He drives it into their heads. Everyone needs to work their hardest, right as the crowd starts closing in. The builders can't stop smiling as they hoist the boy up and start chucking him into the sky, while Leafa watches from safety and snaps that now, crafting doesn't just make things, it has to answer for these people too. Even with everyone yelling and protesting, it kept going for nearly a full hour. The moment that guy finally gets out, Leafa is already locked in, juggling organizational duties like it's her next mission. Leafa decides to reward the bodyguards who rode with them, and all they want in return is a single bottle of a stamina potion. Kraft hands them a bottle, but Leafa cuts him off, insisting a special one is required to lock in the potion's quality so Kraft can brew it right. Kraft snaps it out right away. This potion can last for 1,000 years, and the whole room erupts in shock. Locked inside a special bottle, that potion stays preserved for a mind-blowing 1,000,000 years. After gulping down the potion, the adventurers bolt out, while the builders are already hammering away, raising new houses right there. Lethia's led to a house she can finally live in, but she can't shake the feeling she's being shoved toward Kraft for a reason. Then she spots it. This place is way bigger than all the others. So you really don't want us living together? He asks. The girl blurts out a shaky mumble, cheeks burning with embarrassment. Kraft cracks an awkward joke, and it only makes her faceplint harder into embarrassment. He brushes it off, admitting living together feels weird, then adds that they're both in the guild, so they're comrades. Still, the girl seethes at how painfully naive the young man is. Leafy says sharing the same room feels totally up in the air, like nobody really knows what to expect. But the builder swears this place is split into separate rooms, and they'll each move into their own, living worlds apart. So she's got nothing to fear, because this girl is absolutely mortified. Kyle rolls up because he's got business with both of them, but Leafy's occupied, and with a rage-fueled snarl, she hurls Crap's head into the dirt just to make him pay for humiliating her. The boy's terrified, but he spins to Leafy in a hurry, because the village has no well, and every single trip to the river is a total pain. Kraft agrees that the village needs at least one well right inside it. Leafy's convinced they'll never crack the water vein that easy, but Kraft grins and swears he can make water. Leafy won't buy it, because that kind of magic belongs to mages, not alchemists. Yet Kraft's already got the spell for creating water burning in his mind, the exact one he learned earlier. With that brand new coat of arms, magic surges through him, and he's ready to unleash everything he's learned. Leafy and Kyle are thrilled, but Kraft pulls out an even crazier plan. He suggests using dowsing to find it. The guys are totally lost. They don't have a clue what it is. Leafy suspects they're hunting for water or buried ore, and she's right, because Kraft is dead set on using alchemy to turn plain stone into a magical pendulum. This pendulum swings, hanging right over the underground veins. So they can hunt for water with no craft at all, but right when they're ready, a huge problem slams into the plan. Crafting can't tap into magic stones. There's simply nothing there to make them in the first place. Monsters drop these stones, and the tougher and rarer the monster is, the better the loot you get, and alchemists use them everywhere. The orcs will only back off when they get their magic stone, and that thing is brutal to snatch, so if Persia and Alfred go after it, who's even going to watch the kids back home? You can grab stones in the city, but you'll be fighting an endless supply problem, because they're needed in massive amounts all the time. Kraft declares he's ready to go stone hunting, and right then, one of the settlers comes sprinting in, yelling. Reconnaissance just reported an orc village right nearby, and Kraft is grinning because this is pure, unbelievable luck. At least 20 orcs are rampaging through the village, and the settlers, just normal villagers, are shaking in their boots because they know what orcs do, yet Lafayette refuses to flinch even when there are 20 of them. She tells him, I may be retired from adventuring, but I can still handle a few orcs. Then Kraft fires back, no, I'll go alone. He's a former adventurer too, so he refuses to let that girl dive into something this dangerous. Then she snaps back, me, I was an adventurer too. Kraft steps in and demands that the reconnaissance be left to him. Nobody saw it coming. Kraft claims that his downright awful magic is exactly what pushed him into reconnaissance. So he had no choice. He had to handle everything else himself, cooking, mending, and hunting down herbs. He even ran reconnaissance missions a lot, so let them leave that heavy lifting to him, because Kyle and Lifia admit that this Kraft has taken a brutal beating. He throws a final goodbye to his comrades, then tells them he's trained enough to stand on his own and protect himself. So Kraft heads out to explore, and right away, the forest fights back, slowing him down hard. Without that stamina potion, he'd be totally done for. He moves like a warning sign, because the forest could be packed with traps, and he's always taking extra steps to make sure he never gets lost. Right then, he feels danger closing in. He followed his gut and stumbled straight into an orc camp. Orcs are roasting game over roaring fires and tearing into it. Kraft even makes it clear it's not 20 of them, it's about 30. Kraft didn't waste a second. He launched a recomboscence mission to prove the top-tier magic he'd finally unlocked as an alchemist. He was still all unsure, so he shut his mouth and refused to tell his comrades anything about her. At least he'll give it his best shot, and even if it ends up doing nothing, it still won't scare him. Huddled in the bushes, he weighs his next move, clinging to the power of his coat of arms, because if anything goes wrong, he's already planning to bolt like the moment he does. And then Kraft finally pushes himself up and slams out his brand new move, ice prison **. A thunderclap booms, and then the orc clearing erupts as ice surges in. The hero can't believe what he's seeing. Those orcs are trapped, frozen solid in ice streams that just slammed into existence out of nowhere. Kraft erupts into excited cries, unable to hold back the hype. He finally landed a devastating offensive spell that turned the tide. The best spell he had was nothing special, just strong enough to shove stuff around. Now his true power is finally unleashed, and he's grinning because he gets to pull off dangerous magic, while the snowstorm his spell summoned still swirls around like it's got a mind of its own. There, Kraft suddenly realizes he's freezing, like ice is swallowing him whole. He packed the spell with raw power, and now he was stuck right in the middle of a raging snowstorm, one wrong breath away from freezing to death by his own doing, so he snatched up every last stone and sprinted back to the village. Kraft tears back into the village, clutching his hard-won loot. Everyone gapes at him, eyes popping wide, and then he blinds the builders, claiming he nearly froze to death before dropping the real shocker. It wasn't 20 orcs at all, it was 33. The hero leans in and swears that his powerful attack magic is what tore through everything. Lifia snaps in protest because Kraft got booted from the guild as a useless mage. But somehow, after he changed his crest, Kraft started using magic again. With a mountain of orc magic stones in his hands, Kraft could finally crawl back into adventuring. Then he glances at Kyle and drops the dream. The hero can't wait to prove to Kyle's brother just what they're capable of. Now with those stones, Kraft forges a magical pendulum, and together they race out to find where the well is hidden. You've got to shift your position, picture a water vein in your head, and the moment the artifact nears the mark, it'll start glowing. So they do it, and then out of nowhere, the crafting grind just stops. Right where it finally ground to a halt, the artifact blazes with its brightest light. They start digging, and Lifa blocks the craft from jumping in so he can catch his breath. Then they tear through the soil with wild speed, and suddenly they halt, frozen in shock. Everyone erupts with joy because they've finally found water. The builders stared in disbelief. They hit the vein on the very first try, because finding it is usually a total nightmare. Lifa goes off on a rant, swearing Kraft earned the title of hero by taking down monsters and snagging that well. So the builders grin and say, "All right then, we're building him the best well ever." Morning breaks and the hero gets hit with the news. Someone just finished building a brand new well. Right as Kraft digs into his breakfast, he spots aristocratic kids closing in on him. Mina, Kyle's sister, pops in and tells him good morning, and Kyle shoots back, saying this is a rare situation because it means that Mina's now latched onto Kraft. But she won't step near the crafting. Shyness clamps her down, and good manners keep her frozen. When the boy asks what he's doing today, Kraft grins that he's got nothing scheduled and will probably dive into potion research, and Mina's heart practically melts from the thought. Kraft sighs. The girl brushed her fingers over his cloak, but he couldn't get a read on what that aristocrat was after. She was way too silent. And right there, Belcia, the girl's bodyguard, kept a sharp eye on everything. She's claiming that girl is clawing her way closer to the hero. Kraft leans in and tells everyone that Belcia is nothing like Lithia. The bodyguard's jaw drops as Kraft taps into his spatial storage, yanking out several magic stones like it's pure magic. The young man grinds the stones to dust, forges a healing potion, and then crafts a barrel. Now it's just a matter of waiting, because soon enough, the potion is finally ready. Because it won't spoil the potion, they're rushing it to the warehouse, and the girls are watching every second. Minus locks eyes with the young man, and Belcia snaps that they need to stop distracting the hero and get back to work. But he shrugs it off, smiling like it's the greatest honor in the world just to hang out with beauties like them. He tells the girls they can stay as long as they want, then he turns around and instantly catches it. Belcia's demeanor has flipped, and she glares at him with pure rage. Blushing hard with embarrassment, she lashes out at Kraft, spraying him with complaints like it's the only way to breathe. Then Maina grips the boy's cloak again, eyes snapping to Belcia. She snaps her head side to side, rises to her full height, then strides after Persia, clearly letting him know, through sheer presence, that those compliments have gone way too far. Time slid by, and the young man churned out potion barrels nonstop, until he filled an entire cellar all by himself. He stops mid-thought to test the potion's power, careful not to put himself in danger, then a scream rips his focus away. He bursts out of the house and spots Gitaro, the wounded hunter, being carried out of the forest, and the moment they drop him on the ground, they lean in, demanding to know what happened. Turns out the hunters had only just stumbled into a goblin skirmish. They cut the goblins down one by one, but the fight still smashed them harder than they expected. Alfred snaps into action, barking orders for the village defenders to form patrols at once, and for the rest of the residents to vanish inside their homes. With his assistants in tow, he hustles Detero to the shelter and turns to Kraft. "Got any healing potions?" Kraft answers, "Yes." Those fresh wounds cut deep, way deeper than anyone should be able to survive. Belcia grabs Gitaro and demands why he didn't bolt when he spotted the goblins, but he says they were right on top of the village, and the hunters knew messing with things would be worse. Plus he tells Belcia she's his big sister. Belcia flushes with embarrassment and snaps the topic away, while Kraft kneels down, cleans the boy's wounds and studies them, then realizes they're still dangerously deep. Things are falling apart. They're losing Gitaro. Belcia can't pull out any potion that's guaranteed to save him, and the team is terrified the wounds will turn fatal once the blood keeps draining. Kraft stood there, lost in his thoughts, torn over whether to gamble his life on those untested potions. But their village has no doctor who can treat it, so there's zero option left. So the guy hands the potion straight to the hunter, and Letha is already hauling the finished barrel in her arms. Kraft grabs the potion with a ladle and slings it onto the patient, then blasts into a burst of steam, vanishing for a few intense moments. Everyone's in full shock, because what's happening right now makes zero sense. Kraft had never witnessed anything like this, pure, explosive steam in the air, and the whole reaction was off the charts. He's already chalking this up as a potential disaster when bam, out of nowhere, the boy snaps his eyes open and shoots upright. He swears it doesn't even hurt, those wounds already sealed up like they never happened. But yeah, he could be right. Healing potions don't kick in that fast, and still, Gitaro somehow isn't hurt. The young man grabs the hero's hand and thanks him, because he's completely healed now. This is Kraft's first time getting hit with a potion, and the second it kicks in, joy explodes in him, because it's working insanely well, and Kraft swears this is a once-in-a-lifetime case. They can't wrap their heads around it. This potion is supposed to bring back what's gone, but the boy looks completely fine. Kraft tells him to keep his guard up and watch every move until tomorrow. But Jotaro charges into the field like he never even heard a word. He bolts off shouting Belzia Big Sister. At the end, then her temper flares like a match to oil, yet somehow the young man looks completely, fully back to normal. Belzia snaps that potions this powerful must be reported straight to the military, and Kraft shrugs, saying it's not that bad. Maybe the village will finally get orders. Yet Belzia can't shake her doubt. She asks the hero, "Are you ready to swear this next part stays between us?" Belzia drags the hero to a hidden spot and lines up a quick meeting with Lefia, where she wastes zero time and blurts out that she's got something huge to tell them. Even though she doesn't want to get wrapped up in Scaracraft, the nobles over in the borderlands keep tearing into each other or plotting the next strike. If that kind of power potion lands in the wrong hands, one side could spark a brand new war. They know the army will fork over a fortune for this potion, but they're keeping it locked down for the sake of peace, and secretly using the time to test just how powerful it really is. The hero nods and agrees, but he still insists that potion has to hit the market, sooner or later. Belzia smirks and says she'll hold off on reporting for now. Alright, here's the game plan. Belzia's stepping in to guard the aristocrats, Lifia's busy building a fence, and Kraft is going back to Gitaro to try talking him around again. The truth is, this young hunter has been doing this forever. No goblins landing a hit on him that easily. Goblins aren't some unstoppable nightmare for people who actually know how to fight, and Belzia wrestles with that truth and openly admits Kraft is right. So the hero storms into the field, hunting down Jotaro. He asks how the working youth is holding up, and the kid laughs, healthy as a bull, then even swears he'll go hunting himself, but the hero quickly talks him out of it. When they press Gitaro on how the goblin hurt him, he snaps back that his weapon's ancient, and it keeps going dull over and over. The hero realizes the truth. Yeah, the metal's already rusting, and Kraft wastes no time, sprinting straight to the barn where the young man left his blade. And just as Jotaro's about to jump into workouts and sword practice, Kraft swoops in again and smothers his momentum, straight up banning him from any physical work that day. Kraft spots the blade in the barn, and in an instant, everything clicks into place. That cracked machete the guy has, it's cheap as hell, so even after he fixes it, it'll keep snapping again and again. Kraft scours for the perfect alchemical practice and grins because he's stocked with enough stones. Then he dives straight into testing. While that's happening, Jotaro is busy bragging to the other hunters about how his wounds are healed. He rips off his shirt and shocks everyone. There isn't a single scar left. Everyone's buzzing with excitement. Kraft is amazing. They cheer because now they can take risks without fear, and Kraft absolutely hates that they're catching on. Kraft drops by Lafayette at the forge, and there she sits, hammer in hand, forging something new from the heat. He tells her to put his brand new invention to the test, using the ancient ammunition she's been painstakingly fixing. He shoves a bottle of special hardening oil into her hands. Liffy's eyes go wide in pure shock. She drops that she's heard the rumors, and once you do, you realize every blacksmith in town is using it. Even so, it's insanely rare. Only alchemists can craft it, and that's exactly why the girl lights up with pure delight. If you use it for forging, the power shoots up like crazy. With Leafy's skills backing him up, this result is about to be incredible. Kraft even says he absolutely admires blacksmiths. But forging is Liffy's real job. She still refuses to sit back and wants to mend everything here. The girl kicks off her forging. She grinds her blade day after day, pushing it sharper with every swing. Once the blade is ready, they hand Jotaro the weapon, and he lights up at how sharp and solid it feels. He whips it around and starts slicing stuff, and the boys immediately shout for him to slow down and watch his grip. Lifa lines in and inspects the machete blade with razor-focused intensity. The blade's untouched, yet the impact is huge. If they'd tempered it the simple way, the blade would have shattered like glass, but that oil supercharged it, and it performed far better. Craft's done, now he's ready to crack open a totally new potion. They slick the blade with that potion, and Craft drops this eerie hint that Jotaro should take the machete to a tree and test it. He leaps sky high and smashes into the jutting branch. With zero strain, he slices through the branch like it's nothing. After that branch, the tree itself sways, because the blade accidentally grazes it, and Jotaro grins, knowing now everything will slice like butter. Right here, everyone spots it. The tree is going down too, and it sends the kids into total shock. They stare at the toppled tree trunk like they've been hit with ice. Jotaro yelps at the top of his lungs, and Craft grins, because with that blade's new bite, it's no longer just a machete. A fresh potion's already cooking up sharpening oil, and the hero can't resist roasting Leafa, the first one to blurt it out. Leafa's freaking out, she's dead serious, and Craft rushes in, apologizing to her right away. She begs Craft to spread the word next time, so nobody gets hurt again. Then the boys finally release Jotaro, ordering him to use the oil with extreme care and handle every weapon like it could bite. The young man bolts off laughing with pure joy, yelling that he's finally going to show everyone what he can do. Leafia shields her face with her hands. She'd warned them how brutal it would be, and they stare as that machete slices through everything like a magic sword. Leafy, the blacksmith, sizes up the sword's true power, and Craft insists that the sharpening oil should stay effective for a full day if you're using it normally, but only half a day when you're chopping down trees. If you use it on every tool, the bottle will keep going for a whole week. Sure, they can craft more with magic stones, but right now that's not the real issue. Leafa yells that Alfred has to be stopped. Craft shoots it down instantly, saying it's impossible. Night falls and Craft slips out for a walk because sleep refuses to come. He smugly declares his day's finished, then scrambles to refill every last potion supply. Some groans are creeping out of Kyle's room. The hero peers in and spots the guy tossing in his sleep, breathing like he's trapped in a nightmare. He's hunched over, shaking with pure agony. A thunderous voice from the Craft calls the boy in. The hero lunges in, slamming to wake the boy before it's too late. Then Persia shows up, grabs his silence and whispers, "Don't you dare wake the prince." She insists nothing's wrong, and Craft is left staring in shock. She says things are finally better than they usually are. He can sleep like a normal kid, but only thanks to restorative potions, and when the medicine fades, the attacks still slam back in. Craft's shocked because Kyle's condition is way worse than he expected. Kyle keeps it hidden most of the time, so the girl says it's hard to spot that anything's even wrong. Turns out the boy's got a serious heart problem, and that's exactly why Craft finally understands why the bodyguard clings so tightly to the aristocrat. Persia can only throw her strength behind the boy, and even though she's trying to ask for something, he reads her mind fast, so he blurts out his answer immediately. The alchemist is dead sure he can craft a cure for this disease. The hero straight up tells everyone Kyle's his little brother in spirit, so he vows to do anything and everything for him. The girl shoots up with inspiration and begs him to start right now. Craft agrees. He storms into the library, hunting for the exact answers he needs. He tracks down the exact plants he needs, but grabbing them won't be simple since they grow in brutal, hard-to-reach conditions. You've got to head into the swamps, because the monsters down there will chew you up. Craft finally gets why those special medicinal potions barely ever hit the market. Getting the ingredients is a nightmare. A swamp squats just nearby, and Craft wastes no time. He decides he's heading straight there. The swamp churns with enormous, deadly hydras just waiting to strike. Craft keeps his distance and studies them through magic, like he's hunting secrets from the shadows. That tracking magic lets him spot things miles away, and the moment it kicks in, he realizes the swamp is crawling with hydras. Hydras' strong bodies, tons of heads, own the swamp and command a huge stretch of land like they're born for it, and Craft knows one thing for sure: getting those herbs without being spotted is impossible. When he finally comes back, Leafy snaps, asking where that boy disappeared to. He admits he went hunting for herbs to brew a new potion, but the hunt ended with him finding some and still coming up short. Craft says the hydras trapped him. He can't drop them with a single shot because his huge field of view won't let him lock on. Lefia's eyes go wide when the hydras get mentioned, and Craft wastes no time asking why. She fires back that he has no idea about the gnome village that used to be here before. Tears spill down her face as she shouts that the hydras are the ones who smashed the village to the ground. They usually stay put and mind their own business, harmless if you don't get too close. But this time they suddenly swarmed in and attacked the gnomes for some reason nobody could explain. Lifia swears that even now, they still show up sometimes, and every time those brutal memories hit, the girl spirals into pain. After Lifia spills her story, Kraft just sits there beside her, stunned into silence, scrambling for the words but coming up empty. The girl grills him about his plan, and he tells her he's hunting herbs. He'll grab them by himself to stay hidden from the hydras, because he's not looking to fight. Those things only go after you when you mess with them. Then Lifia shoots him a determined look and declares she's going with him. She begs Kraft to stop overdoing it, and she places her full trust in his hard-earned experience. She nods and swears she'll back his leadership. Then, just like that, they decide to finally assemble a team. He rounds up the right people inside the house and announces, "I'm heading into the swamp for herbs. Now brace yourselves, because here's what's waiting out there." He won't even mention Kyle's illness. He just needs teammates right now. After a quick pause, Persia steps forward and volunteers. Then she grabs Alfred's attention and tells him, shocked, to watch the kids. Alfred clocks that Persia's got her own reasons for leaving, and he nods, ready to back her up. Jotaro's in too. He's a bit shaken by how people reacted to his candidacy, but he's not backing down because he's sure he'll make it. Jotaro's going to take up the bow and rain support from a distance, so if Leafy and Persia charge at the front, they'll team up to guard the craft while everything closes in. Now there are 4 of them, and Kraft immediately clocks that Leafy's got something else on her mind, but he doesn't even get a second to ask. At last, everyone's set. He insists on only a tiny bit of hand luggage, because the hero will pack up everything he needs inside his storage. He pushes the whole team to stay razor fast, and Persia doesn't bother changing. Her light armor fits her perfectly. Lifia strides in front of her companions in full metal armor, gripping a giant hammer like a threat. Rage flared in Kraft because he wanted the companions to relieve themselves as much as possible, but the girl snapped at him to just watch. She springs up high and darts around with insane agility in that outfit. Kraft's jaw drops because he never saw this coming. That's left Jotaro. He's upgraded his gear, and now he looks like a full-on bandit or pirate. Turns out he's dressed in all his finest clothes. Kraft just can't bring himself to say the truth, that the kid looks rough. Kraft grins, telling Jotaro to smear the oil on the arrows. No panic if it doesn't hit right away. They'll swing back and try again. Then he tells the whole squad to quit hesitating and grab every potion they want. No limits. Persia hears how the army tells them to reach for potions only as a last resort, but this isn't the battlefield anymore, and the settlers' lives matter more than anything. And trust me, there's more coming. Persia flashes a fearless smile and flat out declares she has zero intention of getting hurt. So the whole team trudges through the swamp, and Kraft spots the only route with the fewest hydras, because he's not trying to get them tangled up in a fight. If it happens, every hydra in the area will start crawling in, and Kraft kicks off his plan. Leafy's going to charge the hydra head-on, Persia will swing in from the right, and Jotaro will back them up from a distance. Then if things go bad, Kraft steps in as the final backup. Once they hit the right spot, Kraft grabs the herbs and they all scatter together, and that's when Leafy snaps, "Everyone be quiet." They watch the hydra clamp down on the crocodile and start squeezing it for its life. The hydra lunges and swallows the crocodile whole, gulping it down like it's nothing. The monster looms over the swamp like a living nightmare, so massive it feels unreal. So this is what the hydra feels like. Lifia snaps orders to everyone, "Stay on guard." Lifia charges straight at the hydra, and the thing is so gigantic it feels unreal. Because the hydra turns out way bigger than they ever imagined, Kraft yells for a retreat, but Leafa blasts back, saying they've got this, and the chance to back out is already gone. The monster looms over the tiny girl like it's about to crush her. She slams her hammer up just in time, stopping the monster's vicious headbutt cold. Kraft and Jotaro stare in shock as she doesn't even flinch, and Kraft can't stop wondering, what kind of crazy technique is that girl using? Leafa's crest is built for crafting, but she still rips through combat techniques, like she's trained hard enough to do both without breaking a sweat. At last, the bodyguard lunges in from the side, and her sword is slicked with sharpening oil, ready to slice through anything. Kraft still isn't convinced this plan will hold up against that massive monster, so the girl snaps into a technique called the Phoenix Whirlwind. She whips her blade across the monster's neck, carving through it, and rockets past him like a blur. The shock hits all 4 at once, because the hydra doesn't just weaken, it straight up rips itself apart right in front of them. The bodyguard crashes into the water, and right behind her, chunks of her shattered neck splatter into the swamp. Then Jotaro blurts out how much he's into the girl. The girl swears the potion works wonders, and while she's talking, Jotaro pulls the monster's magic stone out on the spot. Kraft can't help but clock that the boy looks straight out of a bandit story. Then right out of nowhere, Lifia bursts into laughter. She keeps laughing, louder and louder, until her companions start to panic. The girl springs up and sprints off into the distance as fast as her legs can carry her. Everyone is stunned. At nightfall, the whole crew yells that they have to catch up fast, and she barrels forward, chasing her target at full speed. She sprints after him like her life depends on it. Kraft and Jataro scramble after her in hot pursuit. But when they finally catch up to the girls, they stumble into a full-blown scene of carnage. They both lunged on the next Hydra, hacking it apart right in front of those stunned young men. Even with their deadliest moves, that stamina potion won't let them lose power. Then the monster panics and tries to slip away. But Lifea is absolutely certain this monster's out of chances and can't slip away anymore. Kraft and Gitaro stare in shock as the carnage explodes all around them. They've got to dodge it on their own, and they're cursing the girl's total carelessness. In the dead hush of the swamp, the mutilated hydras just lie there, still and broken. The whole team stares in shock, totally frozen as the scene unfolds. Just like that, Lifa snaps back to her senses and whirls toward the guys, and you can tell they're terrified. She looks relieved but admits she regrets messing with the plan, so Kraft panics and quickly tells her he's got it. There's absolutely no issue. She plants her hammer with proud confidence, because now she's finally ready to strike back and get payback for the gnome village. Kraft locks in with her, and the deal clicks into place. Lifea, thank you, and thank you for giving me this chance. The night cuts in two. She claims she had no choice but to join the fight, but it rings hollow and nobody buys it. And that's enough for her. Kraft isn't furious over the plan going wrong, because they still managed to get the grass. Kraft wonders if Lifea's rampage is why she got shipped here, but nope. Then everyone heads back to the village. The young man finally forged the legendary medicine, ready to unleash it. No tests means Kyle can't get it. Problem is, there's nobody left to test on. Every villager's healthy as can be, and then the bodyguard who'd been waiting for the potion to finish bursts in. She hears the whole problem, then vows she'll stand right under the waterfall herself. No gloves, no escape, just so she can get sick. Kraft starts to really chew on what he just learned. He asks the girl if she's ever been sick like this, but training has forged her steel, and that waterfall can't take her down. Her determination just brushes off the attempt, and then Kyle barges in, barking at everyone to calm down. Everyone's stunned like, where did you even come from? Then they greet him bright and early as Kyle heads to the table with the test tubes. Somehow he just knows asterisk, those potions were brewed for him alone. Yeah, Kyle locks onto the young man's presence and thinks like, this is him. The boy snatches the bottle and chugs it down. No one can stop him. Everyone can't stop staring, totally blown away. Lifea scrambles to warn them the potions haven't even been tested, but it's already too late to stop the boy. So if that's true, then there's nothing left to worry about, because the boy puts his faith in his craft and refuses to break. He tells them he's finally feeling way better, and the whole crowd lights up with joy. Then the boy turns to Kraft and gives a heartfelt thanks. Still, the guy speaks to the aristocrat with total, rock-solid seriousness. He grabs him and demands he stops lying. The boy begs him to believe it. No joke. That potion really did make him feel better. But Kraft digs in his heels and orders Kyle to spill the truth. Spreading those lies about the potion's effects will blow everything up, and Kraft's words will scare the bodyguards off. Kraft wasn't fully convinced that the potion could actually save the boy. Potions like that one blasted away sickness fast, wiping out colds and the flu for good. These aren't the kind of sicknesses you catch. They flare up from outside forces, and Kyle was born with one of them. Kraft couldn't shake the doubt that this potion might do nothing against his congenital disease. The bodyguard snaps at Kraft, refusing to believe Kyle will keep standing like this for good. But the second the hero pitches his next plan, the whole room goes dead quiet, like everyone knows it might actually work. Kraft whips around to Kyle and pleads for patience with the stamina potions, and Kyle just nods, saying he's already used to it and won't keep lying anymore. The bodyguard snaps around and readies his blade. She blurts out an apology for snapping, and he waves it off. It's fine. That reaction was only human. The girl tells her she's done hiding in the village, so she grabs her stuff to start her crafting and runs off with the boy, only for Lifea to slam into shock when the legendary potion doesn't do a thing. Kraft shoots back that it's probably some rare disease, because the doctors couldn't do a thing to help. He knows healing magic can't touch congenital diseases, so he thought maybe they'd get lucky. Then he learns there's another route, and it's going to be a total hassle. For now, Kyle can slam recovery potions into the disease to keep it under control, and the settlers need to push past the limits and expand the village. He's already plotting to build his very own adventurers guild right here. This matters more than you'd think. Every last person in the village is going to need strength, because they're going to fight to protect it. There's a potion that can save Kyle, but the swamp herbs won't cut it, and the real ingredients are so rare they might as well be myth. The only grass that matters grows in the most lethal spot imaginable, deep inside the dwellings of dragons. The guy clenches his jaw and swears, Kyle is getting cured, no matter what. A band of travelers trudges on after a brutal journey to a border village, monsters clawing at their courage the whole way, and now they're terrified the settlement at the end is going to be wrecked and empty. Then one of them leans in and whispers, I just want to meet someone. Travelers brag that they've already braced for the cruelest conditions the world can throw at them. But when they finally arrived, they stared in shock, because a booming city was right there in front of them, thriving beyond anything they imagined. All around, towering mansions line the streets, everything spotless, and they've even built a brand new well. Lifia meets the travelers, and one of them can't believe his eyes, blurting that the village is only 6 months old. She innocently nods and insists, yep, it's true. Then she admits she's expecting big things from the new arrivals, and they're completely blown away. During this stretch, the village practically buzzes with life, cheers everywhere. The settlers start pulling in pioneers to kick off a local adventurers guild, and just when the energy peaks, someone yells out, Kraft. That's his buddy Reddick, an all-out adventurer, and Kraft gapes at him like he can't believe what he's seeing. The hero once teamed up with him in the same crew, and now the young man leans in, demanding to know how Reddick ended up here. Was he really only here to watch the new arrivals? Reddick nods and says, yeah, but then drops the truth that it's so much more. Reddick shows up to clock in for his work, and Kraft jerks in shock, like he didn't see it coming. Reddick's a C-rank adventurer, but his whole party is packed with battle-tested warriors, and Kraft just can't wrap his head around why they'd come this deep into nowhere. Reddick fires back, there are monsters everywhere here, and now that this village popped up, we can hunt them to our heart's content without stressing over supplies. Reddick also admits he's crushed about Kraft leaving the band, while Kraft panics, mortified, and can't figure out a single thing to say. The hero's got a message he's desperate to deliver to Reddick. He still remembers hooking up with his group when he was brand new, back when everyone was just starting out, and life felt like pure magic. Then his friends leveled up again and again, and he just couldn't catch them. Kraft started to feel like dead weight, falling behind the whole crew, so he snapped and left the group. After that, he jumped from team to team, but the same brutal fate kept hunting him down wherever he went. Kraft leans in and tells Reddick all about it, warning that this kind of imbalance never ends well. Then he fires off a question. Does the hero even know what they call him in the guild? Kraft already knows the nickname, self-proclaimed mage. Turns out only a tiny handful used it for real. Everyone else barely touched it. And even after all that, they were still dead weight. Yeah, and on top of that, there was another nickname too. Kraft was hailed as the mentor for every aspiring adventurer out there. The fresh adventurers who ended up in his crew refused to even bring it up, pure embarrassment. And Kraft had honestly never, ever heard of anything like that before. Even after Kraft helped them soar, they still had to kick him out of the band. And to this day, a lot of them can't shake the guilt. Kraft goes back and relives the days when he trained brand new adventurers and teamed up with his comrades on real missions. He remembers it all. People started drifting away, then everything finally fell apart and they broke up. The hero can't believe it. After feeling like dead weight, he learns that even inside the guild, real people still cared about him. Reddick says him and his friends are ready to return Kraft's kindness, the only way they can, by jumping in to help build up his village. The guys trade firm handshakes. So yeah, the village is exploding with growth, and the biggest reason is simple. The Adventurers Guild just got founded. These lands have been crawling with monsters since the beginning. Now the place pulls in adventurers who come hunting for glory. Because of that, the village thrives on its own, and suddenly jobs start popping up everywhere. More and more people kept pouring in, until there weren't even enough houses left to shelter them. So now the whole village is busting its guts to expand the hotel. And that's not even the best part. Now a shop packed with potions and weapons has popped up, and the place is overflowing with people. A packed horde of adventurers crowds the whole shop, and the owner just stands behind the counter, staring in shock at the flood of customers. She's completely at a loss for what to do. The crowd hangs on her every word, and Kraft just clocks it. Most people don't care about anything except seeing Silura, while the whole place buzzes at full volume until Kraft gets called out. This is little Kyle. He grabs the hero and drags him straight into the negotiating room. Kraft pours a cup of tea and asks the boy what's going on, only for the kid to shoot back that he needs to talk about something important, with his sister and their bodyguard Belzia right there too. Turns out the village has to be named, and that demand leaves Kraft absolutely reeling. He didn't even realize there was still no name, and every earlier try to settle here had crumbled in failure. Kraft then threw out the idea. Call it by the manager's name, Kyle's Village. Alfred and Belcia are already on board with the same plan, but Kraft is still blank. He says Kyle's wins are public, so nobody's going to complain, and he's pretty confident about it. Belcia jumps in right away, yet Kyle pushes back, insisting they built the village together. As more and more people flood in, the whole thing starts shaping itself without any help, no stopping it. He worries his name doesn't fit the village, but Kraft swears it's perfect and pushes them to think it through together. Then he turns to Belcia, begging for ideas. But she shoots back, stubborn as stone, that there's no other choice, only the village of Kayla. Then the hero whips around to Mina and throws out an even nastier name, Croft of Village. Even though Kyle likes that name, Kraft immediately pushes for Lithia Village. But they insist the real credit is all on him, and even Belcia is ready to back it up. Then bam, someone starts knocking at the door. Lethia barges in, convinced Kraft and Belcia are squabbling over who rules the village, and she plans to slip in later, until Kraft yanks her inside. She zeroed in on the problem fast, and then dove straight into the creative process herself. She proposes the name Twilight Village, and they immediately shoot it down, saying it sounds like the place is sliding into ruin, yet it's actually a perfect fit, since the name ties straight back to the main character's coat of arms. After all, he's the Dark Alchemist, and it was this power that hauled the whole village up to its thriving life. Kyle thinks Kraft is a solid name, but Kraft shuts him down. Belcia drops the hammer next, saying the setting sun is a brutal omen. Kyle blurts out a brand new idea, Dawn Village. Lithia realizes it's the start of a whole new journey, perfect for a border village, and Belcia nods along, since Kyle was the one who came up with the name. After talking it over with Mina, the boy steps up and declares the place a new name, Golden Dawn Village. The moment Kyle's name hits the air, everyone starts gushing over him. Then they completely ignore Kraft and tune out every word he's saying. After the boy slips away to fetch the documents, the hero finally hears this. He tells Lifa he wants to name the village after Kraft. More time crawls by, and then Kraft realizes this is the moment he's been waiting for. He strides up to Lifa and tells her what he needs to say. The hero grabs Lifia's attention and tells her, "I've wanted to hit those mines for ages. This is the perfect moment." He's heading out to dig iron, copper, mithril, and adamantite. Then he pulls out the map and points to the exact spot he's aiming for, inviting her to come with him. Based on the Artisan Guild's predictions, that spot screams with the best shot at rare minerals, and when Lithia studies the map, her frown deepens like she's hunting answers with every breath. Kraft says reaching this place is a nightmare because the forest is packed with monsters. Then Lafayette finally gets it, and you can see why the village begs for adventurers. Yep, you can slap in an escort request with the Adventurers Guild, pay their fee straight from the village budget, and get mining on the ores, but don't expect it to be quick, because that grind will take ages. But you can forge it from top-tier steel, dunk it in sharpening potion to supercharge its edge, and with Lithia as a dwarf at your side, finding ores gets way easier. The hero blurts that he wants to try something different, and Lithia leans in, studying him like a hawk, because she's sick of him hiding stuff again, yet the Kraft just won't spill the secret. At last, everyone's geared up and ready to go. Radak, now in their group, breaks in to thank Kraft for setting up this new quest, and Kraft just grins that he picked the best people in the village, only for Gitero to somehow show up too, even though Kraft never invited him. So the whole team straps in and heads out to snag the ores. This is also the first move to save Kyle's life. Radak watches Lithia like a hawk, then asks why she's glued to Kraft, until he waves it off. With the Radak squad at their side, the crew blasts off to hunt rare metals, and Radak, leader of the pack, steps in to introduce his crew. He had the swordsman's crest right on him, and he stunned everyone by casually dropping that he and Kraft used to be teammates. In their group, there's another girl, Salal, watching with a creepy, sinister stare, and she's a ranger. Kraft nods at her like they're just acquaintances. Sure, they met in the village, but life never gave them a moment to actually talk. They grin at each other and blur out, "I'm so happy we finally met." Kraft caught feelings for her while he teamed up with a group of adventurers, but once he saw how things were going to shake out, he knew they just wouldn't work. She's got a soft spot for Radak, so he tossed those thoughts aside. Then somehow they ended up meeting again. Radak brings in the others, Priest Bep, Magician Bardak, and Warrior Morta, like he's unveiling a team built for war. Turns out Kraft knows that truth from both sides, because the mess mage is still terrifyingly strong with magic, even without a coat of arms. And that mug, it's stronger than anything a normal person could handle. He's quiet as a locked door, but when it counts, he always spills every detail you need. Then Jataro bursts in, shouting his name like a battle cry, and declares he's just a young hunter. Radak doesn't waste a second. He snaps right away and asks the young man if he's a bandit. He snaps because those are his best clothes, and Radak rushes in to soothe him, saying it looks like a nobody bandit, just like all the people he loves, so Gitaro fires back in protest. So the crew pushes deeper into the forest, battling monsters at every turn. Reddick blurts out, "Are we gonna be allowed to take those incredible magical stones and all the other stuff packed inside the monsters' bodies?" And Lifia nods, giving a clear yes. Kraft heaps praise on the adventurers, gushing that they blew right past even his wildest expectations. It's all thanks to the stamina potions, because the warrior and the rangers swear they turn every fight around, and the mage grumbles that he doesn't get anything like that, until Kraft steps in and says, "I've got something for you too. This is a mana potion. Drink it and feel your power surge." Kraft hands it over to Bardak, and the room erupts, because this isn't just pricey, it's legendary quality through and through. Reddick claims this plan could beat even a Cyclops. Lifia panics, worried he'll curse their luck the moment he says it. Suddenly, the travelers spot a cave right up ahead. The heroes don't have a choice. They've got to dive in, because that pendulum is screaming that the ore down there is loaded. The magician and the alchemist fire up glowing spheres at the exact same moment. Then the warriors snatch torches, and since the heroes finally crack the lighting, they charge into the cave. The travelers push deeper into the cave, no turning back now. Water dripped from the ceiling while lizards scurried along the walls. Only this tight, narrow passage stood between them and what waited next. But when Lifia stares at the dirt, she spots ore in it like it's obvious, and Kraft can't wrap his head around how she pulls it off. Even in total darkness, Lifia, being a dwarf, can spot ores like they're glowing. As the drop begins, Lifia tears into the soil's quality step by step, because everyone's leaning on her, praying this spot didn't turn into a living nightmare of a dungeon. Reddick insists there's zero dungeon vibe here, just a plain cave. Bro, monsters that are pure chaos thrive in dungeons, those strange otherworldly places, but that's not all. You'll score a ton of rare treasures in there too. Meanwhile, the path suddenly opens up, stretching wider with every step. The heroes stumble into 3 hulking stone lizard monsters, their skins so tough they look basically unbreakable. The adventurers snap into action at once, smashing the monsters with a tight, coordinated assault. The lizard lunges forward and rakes the warrior's shield with a savage claw. The ranger snaps his bow into position, praying the arrows he looses are slick with pure, cutting sharpness. The arrow slammed into the reptile's forehead and dropped it dead instantly. Fueled by this, the adventurers lock in and start tearing through the cave, hunting for whatever's waiting inside. The fight with the lizards is still raging on. The ranger fights alongside a warrior who slams his shield in front of her, blocking every hit that comes her way. At last, the fight finally crushes shut. Reddit confirms the lizards are wiped out. Now they just need to grab their materials and head out, and Kraft can tell the guys are a solid team. Crafter lets out a soft, bittersweet sigh as he talks about the day he was still an adventurer himself. Reddick scoffed that the lizards were a cinch to handle, because nobody can doubt his reputation as a top-tier adventurer. But they both admit the scorching heat, and oil helped seal the damage too. Redox thrilled the craft finally shifted for the better, and the hero nods in full agreement. Then the priest from Reddick's squad steps in and says he wants to test his own abilities too, and they agree to try it later. Out of nowhere, Lifa snaps, saying the earth has shifted, and she's uncovered brand new ore. There's a bit of methyl mixed in here, but it's barely there, low concentration only. The artifact tugs the girl deeper into the cave, and she blurts that she wants to go in. They spot an empty patch of space, and just like that, the girl lets out a scream of pure delight. The colossal cave rages with glowing ore crystals everywhere you look. The girl sprints straight at them, yanking caution out of her mind. This is an absolutely massive stash of mithril ore. Lifia could feel it the second she came here. Everyone crowds around the girl, shouting congratulations. Then boom, a massive loud noise slams the air out of nowhere. A glowing eye bursts out of the darkness, and Kraft snaps at Lifia to come back, right now. A giant cyclops barks at the girl, and she shrieks in pure terror. The monster claws its way out of the darkness and towers over the heroes. The boys yell at Lifa to come back, because their fear is so thick it practically chokes them. The adventurers finally catch a glimpse of who he really is. That right there, a full-blown cyclops. The monster surges up to its full height, and Lifia, fearless, lifts her gaze straight into its face. Reddick rockets forward, grabs the chance to stop the monster, and throws his own body in front of the girl. He barks for Lifia and Sora to fall back, then turns to Morta, demanding she back him up. He insists Bardock should unleash every ounce of his attack magic, and Bep will back them up without hesitation. Then the adventurers lock in and start the mission in perfect sync. Morta's axe lands a brutal hit, but the craft instantly clocks something's off. The Cyclops snapped out of the way, springing backward like a spring-loaded shadow. The monster unleashes another bone-crushing, long roar that shakes the air. He slams himself in the attack, and somehow the boys break free and get away. Then Morta throws the hit onto his shield. The warrior, motionless, gets flung backward through the air. Bep shrieks, desperately trying to reach him, then a shield-bearing hand clamps onto his shoulder. This is an alchemist. He shouts to the warriors to keep swinging, then races to the wounded and mends them with his potions. He crouches over the fallen Morta, yanks a potion bottle from his chest, and slams it to use. The warrior snaps back to his senses, and just like that, the pain lifts and he feels way better. He snaps up to his feet and rockets straight into the fight, landing blows instantly, and everyone's left staring in disbelief as he bounces back faster than the adventurers ever thought possible. Turns out the Cyclops is way faster than anyone expected, so Reddick grabs Cyril and begs her to shoot the monster straight in the eye. But the moment she locks onto the Cyclops, right as it's getting pounded by Morta, she snaps out, "No, this can't be, because that monster is moving way too fast." The Cyclops lunges back again, straight at them. The monster is an absolute beast, and Reddick says this fight is a complete one-sided slaughter. Kraft wonders if he's truly out of options. Fire and wind are way too deadly underground. Earth magic still feels like a locked box, and he can't even recall any area attacks. An idea sparks in him, and the alchemist snaps his hand up. Snowflakes burst into the air like they've been waiting for the signal. Every head snaps to the hero, and you can practically hear the awe hitting like thunder. Kraft deftly molds an elongated weapon-like object right in the palm of his hand. This is his brand new move, Ice Fang Dart. He hurls the dart straight at the monster like it's a blade. A wild magic projectile rockets in and rips straight through the monster's chest. A Cyclops screams as pain wrecks his body. Everyone stares in shock. This kind of magic has never happened before. Then the impact site starts to freeze over. Reduc rallies his crew, snaps Sora into aiming for the eye, and he and Mordor smash forward toward the Cyclops with double-bolted fury. The warrior unleashes the storm sword, then hammers down with the wolf's devastating strike, one violent attack after another. The warriors piled onto the Cyclops and rained down brutal hits. Sorrel finally draws the bow, fires, and nails the target dead on. The monster drops still, then starts to tip. Reddick snaps into action, screaming for everyone to back off because the giant is about to slam down and crush whoever's too close. The Cyclops crumpled to the ground, Sorrel arrow jammed in his eye, and a craft projectile sunk deep in his chest. The guys finally nailed it. They burst into cheers and slam into hugs with Kraft, thanking him for everything he's done for them. Lifea can't stop grinning because those adventurers just crushed a monster that was built to destroy them. Kraft praises Reddick like a champion, saying he crushed it and he'd expect nothing less. Then Reddick immediately fires back with objections. Reddick swears it was Kraft who crushed the monster and saved the day. Reddick claims the alchemist has mastered insane magic, and Sorrel nods like, "Yeah, this is real," confirming they've just delivered the final finishing blow. The hero can't help it. Pure relief floods his chest when he hears this. Kraft is finally grinning. His magic and him are actually doing something that matters to the guys. With the cave finally safe, Lafayette can't wait to start mining ore, so they send her in to do it. Meanwhile, the adventurers turn their sights on grabbing materials from the monster. They wasted zero time and got straight to business. The adventurers trade promises, plenty of materials, they say, but then the air turns putrid and everyone recoils from the monster's stench. That's when someone yells, "Kraft." Lifea swings her pickaxe, yelling at the hero to drop everything and join her, because they've got ore to mine right now. But still, with pure inspiration driving her, she handles it all on her own. At last, they've got 4 barrels of ore, but Lifea won't settle yet. She's craving more. The girl grimaces as she points out the stone should have held more ore, but her pickaxe just can't bite into the rock. Kraft's pumped up for this. He's about to test his brand new weapon, and Lifea glares at him like he just crossed a line. When the girl asks what happened, the hero blurts out that it was a magical explosion. Then he admits he unleashed magic he couldn't control, and it detonated and wrecked everything around them. Lafayette is convinced this is about to go horribly wrong. Kraft snaps back that without his go-ahead the blast can't happen, but she isn't talking about the countdown at all. She's terrified of the explosion itself. Then Kraft flashes his charm and swears, since he's never missed once, he'll never miss now. The adventurers rush in, craving to know what fresh tricks the hero cooked up, but Lifia snaps and orders them to back off right away. She panics for everyone's safety and orders them to duck behind the rocks. Kraft snaps that there's nothing to fear, while Gitaro can't wait to check out the hero's brand new invention, and Leafy insists they'd better not see it at all. Radak is baffled by how ridiculously skilled Kraft is, but Lifia can't shake the feeling that the hero's holding back something way too unreasonable. She pulled off the win with Sorrel alone, while the others swarmed around Kraft, staring at his brand new device. Kraft is seconds away from starting the countdown. Then he tells Lifia, right to her face, that she's worrying herself sick. He clicks off the numbers, clamps his hands over his ears, and peers from behind the rocks, glaring at the girl with pure suspicion. That explosion finally has to go off, and the explosion roars like thunder. The blast wave still clips the girls who huddle behind a pile of stones, even as they try to duck out of it. They spot the poor adventurers, and before they can even react, they scatter into the air, blasted backward by the explosion. Smoke blankets everything so thick that all you can do is cough. Lifia spots Kraft coughing through the smoke, and she marches right up to him. Kraft says he's relieved he didn't go anywhere near the Cyclops, but she snaps back that the kid took it way too far. Kraft slams into Lifia's anger with a sharp jab of his finger, pointing behind her, where crystals glitter in the crevice, and just like that they can pull out even more ore. Kraft grins and says it's perfect they tested his magical explosive. Lifia starts laying it out. If you use explosives the right way, they're deadly useful. Shove them into a rock hole, set them up just right, and watch them blast straight through the rock. Kraft's stunned she's made it this far with just one explosion, but Kraft can't swing the conversation her way. She snaps that the jokes are done, and right after, the hero hears something creeping up behind him. From the dust, furious adventurers crawl back to life. Then they demand a meeting with the hero because something big is burning in their hearts. That night, Kraft knelt for 2 whole hours, drowning in safety lectures, and the trust he'd just clawed his way into got instantly ripped apart. A few days later, they stormed back into the village, and everyone lit up because the Cyclops was finally defeated. The kids practically bounced with one question: did you find Mafrel? And for them, it felt like they'd stumbled into a full-on holiday. The guy greeted Kraft, and Maina slid right into the seat beside him. He shot back a greeting, then the young man leaned in and demanded, "Where Esli Fawn?" The traveling merchants in the village refused to believe they'd really snagged Mithril, so they demanded a start date for the sale, while Lafon tried to shut them down. That's why it's running late. Those traders are clawing for Mithril, and they'll pay any price to get it. Kyle pushed to delay the report until Lifon showed up, and the hero instantly nodded along. Then the girl plopped down right beside him. Is it really okay if she isn't around Kyle? She's usually glued to him, and now she can't even meet his eyes. Soon, Lifon finally showed up, panting and apologizing for the delay, yet the crowd of merchants nearly crushed her in their rush. Kraft even clocked her messy, tangled hair. 9. Lafont pushed the idea that they should drop the talk and head straight to the report. They tore into the cave they'd pinpointed, and boom, rock lizards skittered around, will-o'-the-wisps drifted overhead, and giant pillbugs clung to the walls like they owned the place. Kyle pointed out that the cave looked deadly, and the girl nodded, then said the crazy part. Somehow they pulled out a huge stash of ore fast, and here's why they had 5 big reasons. First comes magic explosions, second the oil of sharpness, third special storage, and fourth a rock-solid escort that never drops the guard. Kraft shut down the tale by calling the 5th reason Liffen, and her crazy skill with hands. Then, thanks to the Redox group, they handled it all fast and clean, with 0 injuries. And the stamina potions, those were the real game changers in every fight. Without them, they never would have had the power to bring down the Cyclops, the monster people also call the adventurer's killer. Cyclops hunted people down with 0 mercy. Those who weren't ready didn't make it. Kyle let out a breath of relief that they'd pulled it off. Then Kraft leaned in and brought up Mithril. He said it looked like someone had already slapped fresh ones on it. Then the girl snapped into a cold, shaking sweat at the thought. Kyle demanded they keep him in the village for now, and Lifon nodded, because lately the Mithril blacksmiths had sparked a revolution. Craftspeople who once couldn't work with Mithril suddenly mastered it, and the price of that metal shot up overnight. So they should sell it the moment the price hits its peak. Kraft said it was just a personal request, but then, could they also offload some of their gear to the adventurers who just came here? Kyle threw out the idea and pushed for a real plan, because with the money they were raking in, Reddick's team could upgrade their gear fast. Then Lifon better start forging the Mithril ingots tomorrow. Kraft was itching to get that girl to do something. A few days later, Leffing tracked the guy down. She told him done, then rang his phone and pushed him to come see it himself. She's praying he'll finally like her, and the hero's praying right there with her, so impatient he can barely stand it. while the girl is absolutely 100% convinced. Lafon thrust the alchemical crafting cauldron in front of him, showing it off like it was the next step in a deadly masterpiece. The young man stared at it, then burst out, "This is incredible," and the engravings, absolutely breathtaking. "This feels like a masterpiece. She's pure talent, a real master craftswoman through and through." The girl urged, "Put it in the alchemy room. No, store it in his." And as the hero seized the thing in his hands, the world around him started to split and crack. Kraft had no idea what just happened. He went down hard. Leafin rushed over and asked if he was all right. Kraft gasped that the second he touched his head, information started pouring in so fast it felt like it was overflowing. When she forged her very first special anvil, the exact same thing hit her, and it totally threw her for a loop. Was this some secret perk hiding inside the artisan's coat of arms? His brain got slammed with so much info it felt like it was about to explode, and right when the pressure peaked, this fresh data hit, so he decided to test the boiler right then. Kraft started dumping in all sorts of liquids, then churned the brew in the cauldron like he meant business. Inside it, everything blazed with light. Leaf's thoughts screamed that it was impossibly beautiful. The young man cast his magic, and the whole place lit up like a flashbang, and the girl hurriedly asked, "Is it ready?" He grinned and said, "Yeah, it worked. Now we've got a hardening oil made for mithril. Slather it on high-purity mithril, and it turns into hard mithril, a metal bumped up one whole class." Leafin cracked open her analysis and swore this method would forge metal at its absolute best, so they didn't hesitate and tried it immediately. She stormed out, then came back a bit later, yelling that she had amazing news. She'd set out to forge a whole new hammer and anvil, and she'd hauled in a ton of fresh info about weapons and tools. Now she can do a ton of stuff she couldn't even touch before, and Kraft calls it incredible, but the girl shoots back that he's the amazing one. 38. They're in his debt, and she wastes no time. She thanks the guy right then. He cringed hard and started swearing he'd done nothing, just a stupid accident, then told her if she was happy, he'd be fine too. Lafont pitched the idea of making something new, and the second it hit, he realized she'd been so busy, she never actually listened to a word he said. After that, 2 whole months slid by without a single problem. The knight told the craftsman that he'd already headed there, and he even showed the boy the ambrosia flower. Kyle leaned in and asked if this was the legendary flower. Kraft cut straight to the chase and asked Reddick himself, because he needed to find out if that flower was truly real. The girl stares at the heroes posted by the wall, and they stare right back, fixated on the ragweed flower in front of them. The knight snaps that they've stared at the clues for ages, yet they finally pinpointed the exact spot. If you go straight, the trip drags on for days, but take the right turn and you'll be there in just a day or two. Kraft demanded to know if they hadn't used stamina potions, because with those, they moved quicker than a running horse at full gallop. For a normal person, that trek would have taken about a month, so the guy asked if he'd been there, and the knight nodded, saying they'd pushed as close as they could while trying to stay invisible the whole time. A dragon appeared out of nowhere, and the air itself started to shake. Everyone in the room froze. No feathers, just a green body looming there, and yeah, it looked exactly like a green dragon. Kraft basically said, "We're lucky I can't fly," and then people started whispering that he's got a crazy strong defense and raw power, because once you understand your enemy, everything gets easier. That boy just couldn't rest until he figured out the truth. Kyle demanded to know if they were already plotting how to take him down. Kraft shot back, "Yeah, something along those lines." They hammer out a plan to take down the dragon, then Kyle snaps, saying it's way too dangerous. "It's a dragon, why are we even fighting that?" The hero shot back that they needed a ton of these flowers, because they're the key ingredient to a medicine that can actually cure Kyle on elixir. Kraft promised they'd take down the dragon, brew an elixir with this flower's power, and finally crush Kyle's sickness for good. That night beamed, finally thinking they'd cure Mr. Kyle's sickness. Then Kyle cut in and said the hero couldn't do it. He's not letting that happen. No way he risks his life for him like that, and he sure as hell won't go along with that plan. Kraft expected Kyle to drop something just like that, and Kyle basically said, "Of course." After all, they're risking their lives for him, so the girl swears she'll sacrifice hers for him too, and the young man just understands. But he can't bring himself to handle his illness if it means endangering anyone else, because if something happens to them, he'd never forgive himself. Kraft didn't just lie. He showed he could be an amazing, genuinely caring leader. But this wasn't just for him. This was about something bigger. The young man didn't get what the hero meant at all, so he demanded, "Show me the map." The dragon's lair sits exactly where they're about to lay the road. This settlement's got a mountain of work ahead, but the real prize is building a road to the city, especially because the route they've planned could link them to 2 neighboring countries, and they can't pull it off until they take down the dragon. But could they truly beat the dragon? Even a whole army would rather back away than face one alone, yet Kraft said they actually had a shot. A whole squad of monster-slaying experts has packed into this place, so this is why he founded the Adventurers Guild here in the first place, because they've got the fighting power to back it up. And yep, they've got healing potions and brutal hard mithril gear, so nothing should go horribly wrong. Alfred nodded along with the hero, while Kyle swore it wouldn't happen. Then out of nowhere, Kraft blurted that he had yet another reason. If Kyle helped brew 2 elixirs, and then handed one straight to Margrave Vaylord, wouldn't that be the kind of win that makes him instantly legendary? Alfred and the girl kept echoing the hero's words about that ghostly medicine and the offering, and Kyle just stared at them. The words hit them hard. This would be a massive win for Mr. Kyle, and you could feel the achievement coming. Despair clung to the boy as his fists trembled in midair. Then he pleaded for them to wait. Kraft promised he could forge the elixir that would save Kyle, and if he pulled it off, it would be an achievement no one had ever seen. Alfred and the girl backed the guy's plan, swore they'd help any way they could, and Kyle told them to hold up for a sec. He burst out in front of them and snapped, "Don't you dare talk however you want." That's not what he wants. He doesn't need merit or medicine, and he refuses to let everyone suffer because of him. He can't take it anymore. He begs them, "Don't throw your lives away for me." And the boy breaks down, crying at the top of his lungs. Kraft's worries were written all over his servants' faces, so he finally decided to march straight up to Kyle and apologize for scaring him. He ruffled his hair, grinned, and promised he'd finally show him their secret plan. They rushed outside, and the hero grilled Gitaro about the preparations. Gitaro grinned and swore everything was set, no problem with all that space, and he was ready to start. Liffen immediately clocked what the kid was planning. He stopped her mid-sentence and told her, "This is what you're thinking," but he'd hammered it again and again with Chitaro, because his goal is simple: calm Kyle down, and he makes the girl listen and finally understand. Kraft ordered Kyle to keep his eyes glued, then warned him he'd be stunned. Chitaro yanked the bowstring the moment the shock hit. Then he ripped the trigger and let it fly. A blinding explosion tore through the air, shaking everything in its path. Everyone stunned. He somehow blasted out an explosion using nothing but a bow and arrow. The hero quizzes the kid about that magical blast. He nods and says the report mentioned it after the boy brought it up. Then they slap an upgraded version onto an arrow, because even if they can't drop it exactly where it needs to be, they can still fire the arrow straight at the target. And get this, Liffan's hard mithril bows can blast out crushing shots even when you barely put any strength into them. So mix that with the distance they keep, and the enemy can't rush in. Then you rain down deadly power from afar. Kyle said it sounds like an absolute beast of a weapon, and the knight's already convinced they've got a real shot. Belzia turns to the master and begs for permission to jump into the fight, right then and there. 86. Alfred even demands permission, and the knights plead with the boy, while he just can't shake his doubts. Kraft orders the kid to give up, then lanes in and drops, "We love you so much." And they're not the only ones. Every person in the village knows he's sick, and everyone's scrambling to find something that might save him, even though nobody dares to speak it aloud, because failing would feel like a disaster. All these people showed up for one reason, so he doesn't have to do it alone. Kyle got him to agree, so they could finally save him. The boy broke down in tears, confessing he'd embarrassed himself, then admitted it was pure panic. He couldn't hold it together because he loved every single one of them, and now his decision would decide their fate. Live or die. And since he's the one running the village, he'll get even stronger too, because with a single nod, he grants their permission. And if they want this deal to happen, they'll have to swear they'll come back safe and sound, no exceptions. They made the promise, and now their preparations were finally finished. Then the day finally hit, time to strike and bring the dragon down. When Kraft stepped out, he spotted a crowd of people, and he hurried up to ask if every adventurer had shown up to wipe out the dragon. The knight grinned and said just showing up for the quest would earn them a mountain of glory. And honestly, they're thrilled to help both him and Kyle. Kraft finally saw the whole picture. Every single one of them looked rock-solid determined, and he understood exactly what that meant. The thrill of saving someone who needs you hits hard, so Liffen tells the boy, "Step out of the village and let us handle the rest." And he answers, "I'm counting on you." Suddenly, he snapped around and stared you dead in the eyes. Maina grabbed him by the cloak, and the young man demanded to know what went down. She promised she'd wait for him, then begged him to come back safe and sound. The young man ruffled her hair, told her she'd be okay, and promised he'd be back for sure. The adventurers snapped to attention and set off right away. And with their hearts pounding, the the whole crew charged out to take down the dragon. The adventurer peered at the dragon through his binoculars, and then his whole world went still as shock hit hard. The green dragon towered over everything like a living nightmare. Even from this far, you can feel just how massive his greatness is, and though the knight has seen him before, facing him again makes him downright terrifying. He spun toward Kraft and demanded, "Is everything ready?" He gave a quick, confident nod and told them, "All right, let's start." That guy barked orders at every adventurer, then they kicked off the first phase of their plan. He says, if you can't pull this off, they should release you right away. Don't even fight if you know your strength isn't enough. They launched a brutal assault on the dragon. The dragon clocked the adventurers the moment they stepped in. Redox blared, "Get ready, this is where we start." They slammed toward the fight with battle cries, and the knight shouted that they were joining in, while Velsia fired back with what she'd understood. He unleashed a soaring strike, and Belsia snapped into action with a rapid skypiercer. Other adventurers charged in too, piling onto that dragon like a storm. The adventurers in that crowd kept glaring at the dragon like it was already a target. The girl's eyes snapped to it. Blood was pouring from the dragon. The knight roars at them to keep going, full steam ahead, with that same unshakable spirit. Suddenly, the dragon shot its head up, and Kraft instantly realized it was about to unleash its breath. The protagonist lunged forward and planted himself right in front of the roaring fire. He dropped to the ground and called forth the mighty earthen rampart. A monstrous creature slipped into view right behind the wall. Kraft still remembers the instant he pitched their plan, and when the hero feels his breath on the air, protective magic snaps into place. As soon as the dragon gets boxed in, the flames will ricochet off the walls and swallow it whole. The walls started to split apart. The horror hissed in terror and swore it wouldn't hold up for long. That night, it felt like the whole world was screaming, "Grab the explosives, get ready." They loosed arrow after arrow straight at the dragon, and then unleashed a blazing volley. An explosion ripped the air apart, and the dragon launched into a blood-chilling scream. Pain ripped through him as Belsia yelled that they were holding strong, while the creature's strength started to crumble. That night felt like the whole world was pressing down on him, again and again. They have to strike together. No hesitation, no mercy, all out. Suddenly, the dragon snapped upright and roared. Then a blinding light blasted across the adventurers. They're totally lost. Then the dragon's horn flares with sudden light. This is his attack. Someone shouts as everyone scrambles to get ready. But still nothing moved. The dragon just stood there, chin lifted to the sky like it was daring the world to blink first. Kraft realizes absolutely nothing went down. So what's the point of summoning this magic circle in the first place? People brushed it off as an empty threat, but others panicked, because they swore they'd strike again the moment the danger came back. But that arrow never made it. Some barrier slammed it to a stop. One of the other magicians lunged in to attack too, but his magic fizzled out before it could land. The spell failed again, so Kraft gritted his teeth and started tearing it apart, piece by piece. He finally clocked it. This was protective magic, guarding him with every pulse. The hero yelled to Radok that this light might wipe out every spell, including that magic explosion, and if it really does, nobody yet knows what it could hit next. Reddick shouted that they had to fall back, right now. Suddenly, the dragon jolted awake, then drew in a brutal breath, because Kraft already knows the great earthen rampart can't shield them from that far. He kept roaring at them to run. He clung to every word those guys threw at him. "We're counting on you," and he swore he wouldn't let them die. Kraft spun around and locked eyes with Reddick and Bep. He demanded they wow him with their skills. No time for explanations. 150. A sudden speed boost slammed the guy in the back. Then the shoulder grab hit like a punch. He screamed. Then he tumbled along the ground, and the dragon unleashed its deadly breath. Kraft crashed down and immediately tore into the great earth shaft once more. A massive wall slammed up from the ground and cut off the dragon's flames instantly. The hero barely scraped through and somehow made it happen. They can't take him down. Trying is pure futility. They can't take down that dragon, so should they bolt? If they flee, they'll pay in blood. Then Belsia whips around to face the hero. She leaned in and demanded to know every last weakness the dragon had. If we rip off his horns, he won't be able to neutralize magic anymore. The girl demanded that the boy drop his head to the ground somehow. He froze, completely baffled, like he couldn't figure out what the knight was asking of him. Belsia Fomelhout said she'd take the shot and try to pull it off herself. Belsia grabbed the boy and ordered him to shove the dragon's head to the dirt, because she was going to slice off that horn. The young man thinks she's asking him to act, but the dragon slams his magic into nothing. Then the girl bolts forward to strike, leaving him frozen, until he finally spots an explosive arrow. He remembered the instant the dragon got hit, and even though there was no blast, the arrow still landed, proving magic explosives wasn't just show. It was a magical attack that should have been fully blocked. Then physical hits still land, and if they swing right, they've got a shot. But the guy didn't buy it. Red Hat shouted to the hero, demanding an answer. He told me if there's even a sliver of chance, grab it, because if you don't, everything's only going to spiral downhill. From the very start, he was already willing to give his life up, because beating that dragon was the only payoff he cared about. The young man stared at his fighting comrades, clenched his fist, and begged them for forgiveness. He roared that it was only one breath, just one, and they'd have to hold on with his breath right to the bitter end, and the comrades nodded and agreed. He's putting everything on them, because right then, he's about to pull every last bit of his magic together. Now that I really think about it, he and Bartek can still cast magic, so that proves there's a crack in whatever cancels dragon magic. It only fires up within a tight radius. Then they might actually make it. Reidoka screamed that the dragon was priming itself to unleash a blast of fire. The knights don't back down. They hold the line to the bitter end, and Bartek and Kraft hit with totally different skills. Bartek guards against fire and heat, while Kraft goes bigger with power beyond the shield. They back each other up, fighting tooth and nail to take down the dragon. The creature roared and spat out flames, and it kept closing the distance on the heroes, faster and faster. They fought to keep their blasts in check, because even with the full might of the Redox group behind them, that attack was pure devastation. Bartek barked a command, summoned his Kraft, and lunged in. Kraft slammed into him. Then he rushed in, threw out an apology, and immediately checked on his comrades, demanding to know how they were holding up. Adventurers burst out of the smoky screen, their silhouettes snapping into view like they own the night. Kraft summoned them. They jump in and help anyway. One of the girls spotted the dragon gearing up for another breath, and the hero snapped that it was already too late. A massive stone hovered right above the dragon, and the guy grinned and said this moment was his chance, one everyone had somehow handed him. And no way is he letting her go. He swings and drops the rock right onto the dragon. A massive boulder crashed down on the dragon with a deafening roar. If the magic won't work, carve a shepherd out of cobblestones. Then the creature drops into a deep bow. Kraft barked at Belcia to cut it out, now, and hurled a potion at her. She snatched it out of the air and gulped it down in one go. This special potion lets you blow past human limits for a brief, explosive burst of power. This is a breakthrough potion. Drink it, and it'll work. She shot up into the sky, and in the next heartbeat, she severed the dragon's horns clean off. He erupted in a brutal roar of pain, and thick foam spilled from his mouth. The girl started to drop, and the boy screamed her name. She begged him not to worry and to go finish the dragon. Kraft blared the news, defenses are down. Now everybody can go all in and smash with everything they've got. The adventurers are back on the offensive. This is it, the final strike. Kraft hurled out Heavenly Thunderclap, and Reddick slammed back with Great Boulder Smash, because the dragon could feel, deep down, that this was the end. The battle raged on, no letting up. The villager rose to their feet and waited on the edge of hope for the heroes to come back. Seeing them crumpled like that, they figured they'd lost. No way they could pull this off. Kraft blurted that they'd come back. Kyle sprinted over and grabbed the guy for a huge hug, blurting out how relieved he was that the hero was still alive, only to leave the young man totally stunned by the sudden kindness. Then Leifin launched into his arms, clinging tight as she told him he'd endured so much, and hearing that, it hit him hard. At least he'd made it back home. He tried to make a report, but the second those two broke down in tears, they shook their heads and said, "It doesn't matter, you're alive. Everything else can fade away." And yes, somehow he didn't lose a single one. Retreat wasn't cowardice, it was courage. They fought with honor, and the hero finally went, "Forget explaining, I'll show you faster." He snatched the proof of their victory right out of the vaults. A dragon's head plummeted out, and Kraft snapped that it was too heavy to handle, so the hero scooped it up and tossed it into his vault, and everyone in the room went absolutely silent in shock. Leifton's eyes went wide, then he collapsed in pure horror. The hero jolted at how wildly unexpected it all was, apologized on the spot, and admitted he never saw it ending like this. When the dragon's head was hoisted up in the town square, Liffin's fury exploded in an instant. She won't admit it out loud, but she pushes him to trade places with her and picture what it looks like from the outside. Right then, Kraft, still on his knees, rushed to apologize. The young man never expected everyone to be that shocked. Then, out of nowhere, Mina slid up to him and dropped onto his knees, and he immediately tried to get her to move, because his legs were already starting to go numb. But the guy's mind lit up when he noticed that sweet-looking girl asking if she couldn't sit on his lap, so the hero finally gave in and let her keep right there. Kyle told him to slow down, grab his thoughts, and spill everything about what happened. Kraft nodded, then decided to lead with the battle. They crushed the dragon with 0 losses, and even with the gear battered to pieces, Liffen couldn't believe they still pulled it off, somehow winning against a dragon without a single casualty. They smashed the main mission too, snagging plenty of ambrosia flowers and other rare herbs. And yeah, beating that dragon was the real prize, the herbs were just the side loot. They also hauled in a pile of priceless ores and magic gear, and Kyle snapped that if it's truly that valuable, every adventurer in town will come hunting. So he told them to wrap it up with the guild, then leave it to her, and she swore she'd handle it. Kraft told Reddick to spill every detail of the battle as the hero kept talking, and Mina lounged comfortably on his lap. As evening fell, the hero planted himself by the sign, claiming it like a trophy, victory over the dragon, right there for everyone to see. But the young man stared at that name and couldn't figure out what it even meant. One of the adventurers swore that everyone threw in to decorate, and right in the middle they'd laid the dragon's head, so Kraft figured they weren't just setting the scene, they were gearing up for a dark ritual. Kyle burst onto the stage and demanded everyone's attention, then told the crowd, "Thanks to all your effort, we finally pushed back one of the horrors that lived here, right out of our borders. Until now, this place was cursed as the monster lands. So many settlers tried and failed to make it home. But after they crushed the dragon, everyone can finally spread out across a far bigger territory. So here's his heartfelt thanks to the adventurers and merchants who pulled it off, and to every resident of Golden Dawn Village." The boy calls for immediate celebration, no delays, right after they crushed the dragon. He lifted his glass high and invited a drink with a bold grin. Every villager's cutting loose in their own wild way. Some are chugging drinks, others are desperate to get the hero hammered. And then, out of nowhere, a stranger bursts in and shouts at him. It was Ridoka. He leaned in and asked his comrade if he'd already written it, and the guy shot back, "No, I didn't get drunk." That night instantly latched onto the real reason. They pulled it off this time, and deep down, everyone knew it was because of him. Kraft claims he just did what he could, while Radok insists he laid everything out perfectly, setting up the case, the adventurers, and the gear with razor-sharp planning. It all came down to one reason. He stared at his own hand, where that sign burned like a message, and Kraft couldn't thank her enough. Reddick nodded, yeah, sure, but he still felt like he could have cooked up a better idea even without that cross. It's tough to pin down exactly, like, say, a crew of adventurers without him. He still would have made it, and that night was right all along. The hero locked eyes with Kyle, chugging drinks and laughing with the residents, and said he really pulled all of this off by himself. So yeah, like Reddick said, this time it all went perfectly because he made it happen. Kraft sat on the grass, staring up at the night sky. Then, out of nowhere, someone closed in on him. It was Lee Fun. Then the hero blurted that he'd had one too many, and the girl cracked up and plopped down right beside him. She stared into the distance and pressed the boy with one urgent question. Now that the dragon was gone, who was going to stop the village from being attacked again? The young man stared at the girl in shock, then snapped back, "You're telling the truth." Then he flat out said, "At minimum, we just crushed the odds of this happening again." She burst into pure joy. At last, it was finally over. After a while, the girl slumped against him and crashed into sleep, and through her tears, she kept whispering for her mom and dad. The hero stayed put, refusing to wake his friends and ruin their sleep. A few days later, Kraft burst onto the scene and declared the elixir was finally ready. A tiny jar sat right in front of Kyle and Mina, and the boy leaned in, asking if it was cream. Then he grinned when Kyle confirmed it. Then he barked that he needed to eat it, straight up, with his mouth, and Alfred and Belcia were hit with pure shock at that crazy demand. The hero tells him Kyle's disease is congenital, so they have to fight it from the inside right, the cross insisted. Belcia warned the guy, "Mess this up and you'll pay the price," and Kyle swallowed his fear, grabbed a spoonful of cream and put it in his mouth. Alfred and Belcia instantly tackled him with non-stop questions about his condition, and the hero shot back, telling them to calm down. The boy was about to say it was nothing special anymore, just sweet, and then a strange jolt hit him, and suddenly his nights filled with worry. Could things really get even worse? Tears burst out of the boy's eyes, and nobody had a clue what was happening. Kyle said the pain and the winds in his heart feel like everything, every struggle, has finally vanished, like it never happened. The boy's sobs erupted like thunder, and Belcio rushed in, wrapped him in a tight hug and fought to soothe him. She swore with her whole heart that this day was coming, and nothing would stop it. She was glowing with pure joy. Then Alfred dropped a tear, too. The hero slipped out to avoid getting in the way, and Alfred snapped after him. The man bowed deep, thanking the boy for saving Mr. Kyle, then pressed, "What can I do to repay you?" because charity alone just wouldn't cut it. The hero lets out a relieved breath. The medicine finally hits with zero trouble, and the knight gushes that it's absolutely miraculous, yet the sting remains. They just wish they had more of it, at least one more bottle. 256. Kraft said Mr. Kyle can still be cured, and if everything goes right, he'll finally be completely healthy, with that being the best possible outcome. The elixir still kept piling up, but the man stood there stunned, like his world had just shattered. The kid laid it all out for him, everything he'd scavenged after wiping out the dragon. 129 bottles of Sura, that legendary drink that spikes your abilities for a short burst, and 73 bottles of Amrita, with one bottle that can turn back the clock by a whole year. And don't forget, 47 bottles of elixir. Kyle blurted out, "Is it wrong?" And it felt like those tears were wasted. Then Belcia snapped at the hero and he just shrugged, saying he only went a little too far. Still, those are rare potions. If the city sells them, they'll rake in the money and get even richer. Kraft said, "We'll get burned either way," and urged them to just hand everything over to His Excellency, Margrave Baylord. Afraid, Belcia and Kyle froze in shock, like the world just flipped upside down. Baylord Margrave, Kyle's own father, slumped at his desk, eyes locked on a stack of papers, and his oldest son finally turned to him. The man shot a grin at Zid and told him he'd just gotten a message from Kyle. Zaid heard Kyle talk like he owned the world, but he was probably knee-deep in settlement trouble already, so he shot a question. "Is your brother already crying?" Baylord shook his head. "No." He said Kyle had sent something unreal. Then the moment he grabbed what his brother delivered, shock hit him hard. They finally slayed the dragon, then rushed the legendary elixir brewed from the gathered herbs straight to the Margrave. They're about to crash into Margrave's territory any second now. Kraft clapped Kyle on the shoulder, sent him to the shift like a hero, and demanded he show them what they'd pulled off. Kyle lit up, nodded, and agreed. Kraft told them that a breathtaking view suddenly burst open in front of their eyes. It had been ages since Kyle last set foot in Gandhara, and then it hit him. His older brother had been there before. When people heard the kid call the hero, "my older brother," shock just rippled through the crowd. Kyle finally understood the disaster he caused and blurted out an apology to the hero, then admitted he'd promised he'd never tell anyone else that. Belcia stared at him with a cold, murderous glare, and the young man scrambled to defend himself, insisting the girl had misunderstood everything. The hero still remembers when Kyle stepped in and offered him a spot as his older brother. Then Belcia blasts into the scene, yelling that the guy needs to face his limits and quit grabbing that title. They closed in on the city where the Margrave rules, teeming with people, packed with knowledge. Kyle even told me the capital is even more jammed with folks, but here the gates stay wide open since so many travelers pour through that nobody has to pay a toll. The hunter snaps that if he'd known, he'd be here hours ago, and the boy even offers to let him look around while they're here, something Kraft once found himself thinking about, only to barge in uninvited and plop down beside the nobleman like it's no big deal. This guy still blows my mind every single time. "Listen up," Belcia demanded. "You've already got that nerve. Now you need to crank it up even more, hero." The heroes bolted out of the carriage. Guards demanded if they were tied to Margrave Baylord, and Kraft shot back with, "Who are you?" The girl answered, "We're the gate guards," and Alfred nodded right along. The guard told them to ditch the main street because it was packed, and Alfred thanked him. Then, right on cue, Kyle burst out of the carriage and thanked the men too. People were utterly stunned by what happened. The guards spotted Mr. Kyle right away and greeted him with big, loud welcomes. They clocked that the gentleman looked perfectly healthy, so he smiled and said that, thankfully, he was doing great now, and the men immediately congratulated him, swearing that the fresh country air must have healed him. Alfred told them it would be a quick return, and the guards nodded like they'd heard it all before, promising to lock every last detail away as a strict secret. The hero's carriage rumbled onward, and the hunter couldn't get enough of the breathtaking scenery. They pulled up at Kyle's place, and the boy admitted he didn't go inside much. Since he was a kid, he'd been shipped off to some country residence. The hunter snapped that nobles didn't come back to their own homes. Then Liffen ripped into the boy with a furious shout. Kyle told them, "Don't listen to anything, just let me handle it." If everyone there helped him out, he'd report back to his father with good news, and he made sure they knew he was grateful. The hunter blurted that the boy was super cute. Belcia nodded along, and Kraft swore Belzia's inner thoughts were spilling out loud. Liffen pushed for them to go inside, and the hero muttered that they really shouldn't have rolled into the ruler's territory in a carriage. Then the young man told Mina to stand up off her knees, but she refused. Leifun admitted she was starting to like him, and the young guy just couldn't wrap his head around why she was acting so stubborn. The gates blasted open, and the crew surged straight into the territory. The heroes grinned at their new treasures, then a chilling gaze from somewhere above, from someone's windows, locked onto them. Zed and Fretten were there. The heroes were shut inside the mansion, bracing for what came next. Right ahead of them sat Margrave Baylord, along with Zed, his second son, and Fratten, his eldest. Then the man stepped up and greeted them. So the Margrave told Kyle he'd sent a seriously interesting answer, but now the big question hits. Did he really come all this way just to clear his name? That young man didn't waste a second. He said yes, and demanded a straight, face-to-face meeting, because he had a ton to spill. Baylord demanded they start with potions, so Kyle spun to Craft and told him to show him every single one. The hero grilled him about just tossing them aside, then snapped. He totally botched his own words, and now he stood there in front of the nobleman, shaking with nerves. The hero dumped 44 elixir bottles, 129 suras, and 73 amrita on the table, and Kyle's family members stared in pure shock. He hauled in things you can't even wrap your mind around, then doubled the madness with the sheer amount. And when Kyle said it was too much for him to handle alone, he decided the smartest move was handing it straight to his father. Kyle's father could tell this wasn't going to be easy to handle, but he'd still pulled off something huge, and he deserved to be proud, so Kyle turned and thanked his father. The Margraves told them to take a chunk straight to His Majesty, because if they dumped it all on the market, the whole economy would crash in an instant. Now let's talk about killing that dragon. Sure, the potions are just circumstantial clues, but does he have real, direct proof? Kyle said they'd snatch the dragon's head and haul it along, and the man stared in shock, because they didn't even have a cart with them. It's all because it's locked away in Craft's special storage. So the boy jabbed his finger at the hero, scratching his head in mortified embarrassment, while the second son just couldn't believe a word of it. Zaid told Kyle everything finally made sense to him. By dragon, he didn't mean some mythic beast, just a plain lizard, and somehow Kyle had picked up the habit of bragging like he was born in an aristocrat's palace. Craft remembered those special storage places usually couldn't swallow something this huge, so Margrave pushed for the back garden, only for Kyle to snap back that it was way too small. One of the sons pitched the idea of using the front garden, the one everyone walks past, and said, if it's really that huge, regular folks will love it. Zed always knows how to piss everyone off. All Fraud and Belcia would have cut him down already if he wasn't Kyle's brother, so Craft asked permission to speak to the Margrave. He said it wouldn't matter either. Once they were done, every flower bed would be smashed flat, and Zed burst into laughter. Then he said there were zero problems with it, and Baylord let them do it right there, so the young man turned back and thanked him. Craft stormed into the front garden because the dragon's head was trapped, and he had to free it. The Count's family stared from the window, and the young man caught it, then let out a long, shaky breath. He snapped his fingers and unleashed special magic. It was like a blaring loudspeaker. This young guy shouted at everyone passing by, begging them to look his way, and Liffen couldn't believe she could hear his voice crystal clear. The hero leans in and says that just recently, the Margrave's third son, Lord Kyle Baylord, pulled off an absolutely massive feat. He didn't just survive the monster lands, he clawed his way to authority, rallied everyone with sharp leadership and tight unity, and together they crushed the terrifying beast, so his claim couldn't be questioned. He made them witness the results with their own eyes. They have to hail Kyle, the young, promising ruler. Then right after, he rips the dragon's head straight out. The head was so massive it could barely squeeze into the front garden, and everyone watching went silent in shock. People started cheering for Mr. Kyle, because this was the biggest monster he'd ever laid eyes on, and somehow he still looked incredible. So Mr. Kyle smiled, relieved he was on their side, realizing how fired up everyone had become. He snapped his gaze toward Kyle's friends and family, and Zed's jaw dropped in shock, while Belcier and Lafon wore that he's done something again look, like they'd been bracing for impact. The young man finally clocked it. He'd messed up again, and he knew it. Crowds surged toward the dragon's head, while the guards barked, herded everyone into a line, and yelled, "You can look, just don't you dare stand there." The butler marched the hero to the right spot, and Craft caught the guards whispering that they couldn't get this mess under control if only they'd gotten a heads up. Now it was extra work for them, and the guy looked genuinely crushed by it. The Margraves were digging into dinner when the hero slid in with them. Then one of the sons threw out the idea of charging people a fee to come gawk at the dragon's head as a tourist attraction. Baylord snapped back that trying it without prep would turn the whole thing into a powder keg, and honestly, it was smarter not to brag about the achievement. So he walked away, leaving every dangerous consequence to Fomalhaut. Craft instantly knew which Fomalhaut they meant, and at the same moment, Belcia snapped her gaze away, plainly furious and disgusted. Kyle's father told him he'd done an amazing job caring for the dragon, then thanked everyone who'd backed Kyle. Turning right to the numbers, the report said the settlement already hit 1,000 people, but Kyle admitted they still didn't have enough housing. They can't handle a single new arrival anymore, and the man swore he'd already blown past every expectation. Then, out of nowhere, screams ripped through the air. The dining room door burst open, and every single person in there snapped their heads toward it. Two girls barged into the room and straight away blurted out apologies for crashing the place. The Margrave spun toward Vela and Rayla and told them they were about to have a big, important talk, and Vela just grinned, saying she already knew, and giggled. Even if she doesn't belong in this conversation, the woman still steps in to say what she thinks. Kyle calls Kraft. He leaned in and told the guy, "This is my old second lover, my first wife now, Vela, and her daughter, Rayla. Rayla's my mother." The woman shot back that nothing was wrong, and the man nodded along. Vela said Kyle's achievements were nothing short of magnificent, and when the words landed, the boy's cheeks flared pink as he stared in stunned disbelief. He thanked the woman, but Kraft couldn't figure out why the boy looked 10 times happier than the moment his father praised him. But this new generation grew up at lightning speed, so how could Kyle handle it? Still, the woman refused to admit it. Luckily, the new village sits close to Zaid's territory. Already proving he could run things, Vela stepped in and offered to hand the whole settlement to Zed. Everyone froze when they heard that, because nobody expected it. Sure, his territories close on paper, but between them sits a massive stretch of land that makes zero sense at all. Vela went on to say the medicine crushed Kyle's illness and broke the grip of his innate weakness, so wouldn't it be smarter to have Kyle help out right here in Gandara? Her points sound legit, but it's just her using her power to play favorites for her own son, nothing else. Zid confirmed her words straight up. Kraft suddenly got it, they were moving in to cash in on Kyle. Zid told him, "I vouched for him to settle," and then boom, Kyle's illness vanished, so Kraft didn't have to stress anymore. He can toss the rest to his brother and move on. A young man erupted into laughter, and right then Frat knew he had to pitch an idea. With Mom's idea in mind, why not hand this settlement to Zed and toss Kyle a brand new one too? The Margrave barked at the butler to bring the map, and there it was, unfurled across the table. Lifon stared, stunned by how detailed that map was. Kraft shot the thought, "Isn't this a secret weapon the aristocrats are hiding?" And Fratton started hunting for a better spot to put Kyle. He jabbed a finger at a spot near the dragon, right by the Dubatin Empire, while the Zevius Federation sat on this side of the mountain range. Right around those three were a handful of smaller nations too, and together it made the perfect playground for growth and development. Kyle has a real gift for building settlements, so why not ship him straight there? Vela whipped around and faced Fratton. She pressed him straight up, asking if her son was truly incapable of pulling it off. Then he shot back that even if Zaid tried, taking on this task and scoring a fresh settlement at the same time was asking way too much. Kyle will head there just to plant a new settlement again, like always, and Rayla practically beamed when she said her brother's proposal was brilliant. If they both kick off at the exact same moment, won't it finally reveal who's truly the best? The room fell silent, and the Margrave's face turned ice-cold serious. Vela said this might finally be Kyle's moment to prove it wasn't just luck. Then Kraft exploded in anger, furious that they even dared to question him. The boy didn't hesitate. He agreed to the proposal. Alfred, Dulcia, and Lafon are stunned. Then Zid cackles and blurts that his brother has gotten so smart. Kyle drops two requests. First, he insists on keeping the name Golden Dawn. His brother lets out a chuckle. Then his father presses him on the second condition. Starting with Kraft, he's already been through hell with the people in this village. So Kyle decides he'll take anyone who wants to jump in and move with him. Most peasants are stuck in the patch of land they're born on, but settlements like theirs are a rare, dangerous exception. Vela promised she'd shut down anyone trying to haul off resources or property from the village, and Kyle's rage exploded. He snapped that it was too much, no new area without resources, period. And the woman shot back that if that's the case, she wouldn't grant permission for either one. The boy finally got the whole picture, then demanded that the rules let guilds and lone individuals carry their own goods wherever they go. Baylord shot Kyle a quick question, and Kyle nodded, saying it was totally fine. Zed dropped the word that it was all settled, and Kyle finally snapped into place, acting like a proper aristocrat at last. Kraft leaned in and hissed to Kyle exactly why he said yes, then flashed him a smooth wink. The meeting finally blew shut, and it was over. The Margrave called Kraft over and demanded a private talk, ordering him to come into this room later. Kraft froze, stunned. After a while, Kraft finally showed up at the meeting spot, heart pounding, and Baylord practically ordered him to sit down. The boy sipped his tea while the Margrave watched like a hawk, and nerves chewed at him the whole time. Panic crushed him. He couldn't take the pressure anymore, so he begged the Margrave with his thoughts to say something, and then he blurted out that wild line about being a twilight alchemist. The man bragged that he just knew medicine, but it was clear he was crazy good at it too. The young man thanked him, and then Baylord leaned in and asked whether the kid had ever heard of Jarvel Galen. Javril is the country's top alchemist. She's shattered the old rules with groundbreaking fertilizers, and she's also a celebrated doctor. The hero swore she's a legend in alchemy, and he's devoured her books like they're the answers to everything. He pictured her face in his mind like a blazing memory. Margrave said Jarvel was working for Zaid, and that she was desperate to meet him, while the hero just couldn't wrap his head around why he kept evolving people. Baylord can mark exactly where her mansion sits, so Kraft decided to bolt right then. His nerves were screaming inside him when, boom, the Margrave suddenly ordered the boy to take care of Kyle. The young man froze in shock, snapped around, and then, without hesitation, gave his agreement. After a while, the craft finally docked at the Jarvel mansion, and the place felt downright eerie the moment they arrived. Suddenly, the statue beside him sprang to life and pointed him straight toward the way. Kraft gaped in shock. This monster was a masterpiece made for one thing, destruction. To pull it off, you'd need top-tier alchemy, and Jarvel, he can do anything. The statue buzzed that the mistress had finally delivered Mr. Kraft, then snapped that he was late and ordered her to take him to this place. He greeted him with a simple hello, and then his jaw dropped when he saw Jarvel standing right there. She spun around and declared, "I'm the one and only Javril." And the poor young man couldn't believe it when he realized she was just a little girl. The little girl stepped up and said, "I'm Javril." Then she pointed at the boy in front of her and asked, "Are you Kraft?" He nodded and confirmed it. Kraft Walken's name hits like a bell, and he already knows all about her thanks to the reputation she's earned. He studied every word she said, then grinned like he'd just won the world, grabbing her hands right there. Panicking at what he'd done, the young man blurted out an apology, claiming he was only acting that way because he was overflowing with joy. And Javril nodded, realizing he got it, even if he was still so young. Suddenly, the boy spotted it, Master Jarvel's wild invention, a device that purifies river water, and it's called Ranbeck. Kraft had never laid eyes on him before, so he watched as the girl said he'd clearly studied hard. He just had that kind of sharp focus. She laid it on him with real book knowledge, and the guy thanked her, because those lessons were pure gold for brewing medicines. Then the girl leaned in like it was destiny and said Kraft would be the happiest man alive if she made him her apprentice. For a split second, the girl went quiet. Then she said the boy's name, and he jolted with a sharp shudder. Javril leaned in and promised, "As a special favor, I'll take you as my apprentice." But there's a catch. She'd heard from His Excellencies that he'd pulled off a miracle cure and saved Mr. Kyle. To prove he was worthy of being her apprentice, she demanded he learn how to make it, and Kraft swore he'd been carrying the recipe all along, then thrust it into the girl's hands, leaving her stunned. She couldn't believe it. He just sauntered around with it tucked in his pocket like it was nothing, and she shot back that she was reading it right now. She dove into the recipe, then looked up and declared they'd take him in as their student, while Kraft sincerely thanked the teacher. He'd love to stay nearby and study with her, but he's stuck. He has to live in the settlement. Javril snapped back that he was still chained to a guild contract, and that she worked for Mr. Zed under strict terms. Plus, she was even living on his turf right now, so the guy immediately fired the question, "Does that mean you're moving with her too?" Kraft laid it all out for the girl, and she clutched her head, shouting that Mr. Z had to get to the Golden Dawn settlement. That was all she needed. Then the hero clocked it. Even the teacher was struggling too. He'd signed a guild contract, not with Mr. Kyle, so he probably couldn't move, but that didn't stop him. He still pushed to follow. Javril pushed for them to take it to the guild, because if the talks went south, she'd step in and back him with a strong word. The boy felt it ignite. He couldn't believe how fiercely the girl cared for her student, and at the same time Javril was staring at the truth. He'd already helped her research more than he'd realized, but it still didn't even come close to what she'd done. Staring at the guy's recipe again, she leaned in and demanded to know why he hadn't published it yet. Then he just blinked at her, totally confused. Then he shot her a question. What did it even mean? She froze, shocked he'd never heard of academies at all. HE blasts that knowledge everywhere, and she's right in the middle of building a system like that. So he straight up can't figure out how to shape or present his work, and the young man admits it. Then she tells him to write about him. But if she wanted in, she'd have to put her name as a co-author too, and even when rage flared because she'd be added to his paper, he'd still do it for the sake of humanity. Kraft stepped in front of her and asked straight up if she was truly ready to be his co-author, and yeah, he insisted he deserved that kind of honor. Javril didn't shut it down. She told him she was fine with it. Then the young man burst into heartfelt thanks and urged her to go ahead. The alchemist kept asking himself why he couldn't even suspect others, and every second the fear in her chest only got heavier. 40. R.I.P. The very next morning, LaFawn shoots awake and grabs the guy by the collar. He shot up, apologized to her, and still couldn't stop. He hadn't slept a wink all night, stuck in that teacher-assigned book. Suddenly she gasped, blushed, and stared, then snapped, "Why are you naked?" He told her don't freak out, just the top part, then added, "The panties have to go too," because he definitely wasn't gonna sleep in his clothes on this insane bed. The boy begged LaFawn to look away so he could get dressed, and LaFawn snapped, "Hurry up." Mina was perched on the chair where his clothes were still scattered. He told her to move, but she just wouldn't budge, so he scooped her up and snapped that she had no right to sit on his clothes. Freshly dressed, the young man asked Liffen why she'd come. Then she snatched his cloak and yanked him off like he didn't have a choice. Without warning, a stranger stepped right in front of them and demanded, "Are you headed to the guild?" It was Belcia. She flat out declared she'd go with them. The hero figured she was just bored, but rage flashed across her face. Then the young man pressed her about Kyle's protection, and she snapped that anyone who dares to lay a hand on His Excellency's mansion would regret it. Liffen insisted the girl was shielding him for a reason. If only the hero could finally see how important he is. But the truth hit hard. The so-called hero didn't realize he was the same one who brewed all 43 bottles of the legendary potion. If so, the three of them could finally kick back on a proper date. Flowers, holding hands, the whole sweet thing, and Belcia blurted, "Nope, this isn't a date," even while insisting he's definitely not the joking type. When the young man finally stepped into the city, he spotted it instantly. Almost no demi-humans anywhere. Demi-humans were those smart, non-human species, and right then the knight leaned in and demanded what he knew about them. He told me he grew up in an orphanage packed with half-human kids, and yeah, Liffen's a halfling. That's why Belcia forgets it every time because she looks so normal. Trouble is, people discriminate, and in the barracks most folks can't stand the fur. She's convinced it's all about old ideas slamming into new ones, and Liffen admits he's met tons of demi-humans, while the young man insists she's the kind of person who fits anywhere, like she's their living mascot. The girl froze at how the guy called her name, and right as her heart skipped, the hero sensed danger and snapped her focus toward a meat skewer nearby. He promised he'd treat them, and LaFawn swore she could feel he was trying to dodge the real, pressing problem, so the hero nodded, said she figured he was up to that, and then dashed off to grab a meat skewer. He handed Belcia a kebab, then slid Liffen two like it was nothing. She demanded why she only got two, while he cradled just one. He shrugged and said, "You'll need to eat a ton, unlike Belcia." The girl burst into tears and snapped that he had zero delicacy. Just like this morning, she reminded him she was an adult too, and then the guy practically pleaded for her to skip the second skewer, offering to take it instead. She snapped that she'd eat, because yeah, she's a total glutton. Then Belcia told the guy he'd never be popular, and they marched straight into the Gandar Adventurers Guild. Liffen and Kraft froze in shock when the guild leader showed up. Then it barked their names right out loud. He said it felt great seeing them healthy, and LaFawn admitted it had been ages since they'd last met. So the hero pressed him on why he was here, and he shot back that it was all because of that guy. He got promoted and suddenly landed the top seat, guildmaster of the city, with the new guild and regional adventurer headquarters under his name, and even though it didn't fully click for him, he still turned and congratulated his boss. So yeah, the report says it plain. Every single medicine got handed over to the authorities, and the hero made sure of it. Aichi believed this was the smartest move, and the man nodded along, because if he misused even one, it would have sparked major trouble. He even took down that dragon. What a flawless feat. Then he slid 2 bags of coins right in front of them and told them it was a special reward just for the 2 of them. He stared at that huge number, stunned, and blurted out, "Are we really talking about this much?" Then he snapped back, "I'm not worried about the cost. I'm worried I'd be able to stomach whining about such a paltry payout for everything I've done for you, because that sums nowhere near enough for an alchemist this good. If there's anything he can do for him, he just needs to hear it. He'll throw himself into it and do everything he possibly can." Kraft said, "All right, I've got one request. Trust me, it might sound wild, but I want to rewrite my contract." That contract pins him to the border village, so he can't make it to the new settlement. He's determined to go with Kyle instead. Kraft straight up announces he wants to roll with Kyle. He knows it makes 0 sense, but he still wants it, because the guild leader told him he can stay with Kyle, and the boy just stood there, stunned, asking himself why he even assumed he'd be the only one to stay. The young man blurts that his contract forces him, since he's in the guild, to stay in the exact area they assigned him, and he then dares the man to get Liffen to explain it all. The contract traps him in the settlement for a long haul, and the price is his name tied to it, so even if he hates it, he's forced to stick with Mr. Kyle for the Golden Dawn for Kyle, and for the village too. Liffen swore that Mr. Kyle would never, ever leave him behind. The guy suddenly remembered what he'd said a minute ago, cheeks burning red, and yeah, this was exactly the topic he'd wanted to get into. Then Kraft noticed the young man was still, unmistakably, young and snapped at him to shut up. The guild leader lined in and told the boy, "Don't panic. Nobody is going to take you away from Mr. Kyle." And just like that, his final worries melted away. After the guild wrapped up, the heroes headed straight for the orphanage, because that young man remembered it all too well. After all this time, the church still had its hooks in him, so he decided to slip out, just to satisfy his curiosity. Suddenly, he caught the kids badmouthing the half-humans, and they went wild, grabbing rocks to start throwing stones at them. The half-humans fought to keep one another safe. Then Kraft snapped up a rainbow barrier just in time. Stones tore away from the wall as it burst into existence, and they slammed those projectiles right into the people who dared throw them. The kids suddenly realized this wasn't just a wall, it was a magical barrier, and it totally killed the vibe. Suddenly, Kraft locked eyes on them with pure menace, and their fear was gone, totally wiped out by that glare. The kids bolted, and the young man was left staring like, what kind of life is this? No matter where he went, trouble like this kept finding him. He strode up to the half-humans, demanded how they were holding up, and realized, somehow, landing here by accident was the best break. But the kids were totally stuck on that blazing wall. They kept calling it awesome, while the boy just stood there, mortified. The kids leaned in and asked if that old man was a magician. Then the hero nearly choked, stunned that they'd even call him old, because he was only 20 years old. Then a girl popped up and demanded to know what that loud noise was from the guys. Then she locked eyes with the boy and realized who he was, Kraft, and the boy immediately clocked Azul. Belcia leaned in and asked, "Do you two know each other?" And he shot back, "Yeah, we grew up together." Kraft snapped a question at her, then watched as his face turned colder with every second, only to realize she hadn't grown one bit. She still didn't catch the meaning, so Kraft finally told her she'd misunderstood him. He clocked it the moment he saw her clothes. She'd become a priest's apprentice, and the hero froze in shock. Lafont said it was brutally hard for half-humans. Azul shot, "Who's with you?" And Lafont stepped up, saying, "It's me." Belzia, pure muscle, his bodyguard. Then they rolled in beside him to make the donation. Azul lit up with excitement and insisted they follow her. She'd brew them tea, but the heroes shot the idea down. The shelter looked absolutely wrecked, like it had been left to rot and crumble. It's less shelter and more real end. Azul even apologized for the view, because the whole building is ancient and falling apart. The place is so wrecked that not even Kraft's money can save it, and the kids are begging him to show his magic again. Leifen leaned in toward the kids and asked how old they were, only for them to claim she was barely older than them, then tease her for trying to act like one of the adults, calling her short. The girl snapped in anger, started screaming that she looks like that but she's way older than them, and the kids bolted as fast as they could, while Belzia just stood there, totally baffled about what was even happening. Then one of the girls stepped into the night and spotted the real sword. She gasped and called Belzia cute, and her cheeks went bright red. Kraft clocked it. This girl was already old enough for people to start taking notice, and that night blasted the kids with one warning: stay out of adult business. Azul arrived with food and told him straight up that the young man was thriving with the kids. The girl lit up, telling how her hard work earned her that promotion, how she gave every ounce of herself to back the parish priest. Crafter even called it like a child, but everyone could tell she was a genuine tomboy. After the donation, he figured he'd split, but now he can't shake the urge to help somehow. Lafon steps up and offers to handle the repairs here. Azul snapped back, refused to budge, and warned them the shelter would shut down in no time, and the heroes just stared, shocked. Turns out it's the same old heartbreak. This church is kind, but orphanages cost a fortune and don't bring in much, so if they can't scrape together the money, they shut the doors. And that girl swore they found brand new homes for every child. But then, one by one, they'll all be ripped apart. The kids started shouting that they weren't going anywhere. They wanted to stick with Azul, and the girl stepped in, begging them not to be selfish. But they don't want to let go of everyone. They just can't bear to be away from Azu, and the tears start falling. They still don't get why they can't stay with Azul. She's trembling and begging them to forgive her. She still wants to stick with them all, but she can't keep everyone safe. Half human and trained as a priest's apprentice, all she can do is hunt down new homes for them. She fought back a flood of tears and kept apologizing to the kids, over and over, even as her voice shook. Kraft paused, then leaned in and asked the kids if they were ready to blast off to faraway lands and carve out a new home, so they could stay close to Azu. They promised they'd de-hunt her down no matter how far they had to go and pull every string they could. And yeah, that was exactly the answer the guy had been waiting for. Lifan demanded to know if the guy's plan was real, and when he said yes, he swore he wouldn't let them split. He'd stand between them and danger. On departure day for Golden Dawn Village, the zoo crew and the kids hauled up to the estate where Kyle and Kraft stood, and the girl blurted out an apology for the delay. Turns out packing everything took forever. One kid blurts that he never saw this coming, then turns to the girl and demands she stand taller and act prouder, because she's the chief priest of the new settlement and the orphanage's fearless leader. And then the boy leaned in and asked the hero how he pulled it off. He shot back that Kyle had first invited the church and the orphanage to their settlement, so when they arrived and there wasn't even a church yet, they snapped up the chance. Then Kyle penned a recommendation letter for Azul, and with that push from the note, the church swung into action and decided to promote Azul. Then the cardinal stepped in and told Azul, "This is because of the grind you've put in so far." The church had already crushed discrimination against demi-humans, but society's old, rotten biases were still dragging her back from the next step. And yeah, this moment felt like a win for them too, because they finally got to praise Azula's priest's loyalty. The cardinal even leaned in and wished her nothing but luck in her new home. Kraft and the kids stared at the chaos. Then a hunter strode up to the hero and demanded, "So who's this adorable priest?" The young man spilled every detail to him, and he couldn't believe it when she agreed to go with them to the brand new settlement. The girl locked eyes with the guy. He snapped red, grinned, and sprinted up to her to introduce himself as Gerardo, her bodyguard, and right there it was obvious. He'd already fallen hard for her. Kyle threw out a quick sorry for the wait, then said his goodbyes to his father. The boy finally realizes he won't be back in Gandar anytime soon, and Baylor just watches it all from the window. Kraft still remembers the second Father Ultros demanded the hero protect Kyle, and in his head, he can hear the hero reassuring him, "Don't worry, I'll keep Kyle safe." Then the half-human girl turns to her friend and warns her not to do anything that could shove Azu into an uncomfortable spot. Kyle finally clocked who they were, and Azu thanked that boy from the bottom of her heart for his unbelievable kindness. The kids started doubting they had the experience for this, but their faces lit up the moment they met him, and before anyone could blink, they begged him to look out for them. Kyle clocked how polite they were, and Kraft realized he'd just fallen for every last one of their tricks. Azul frets about what this long haul might do to the kids, but Gerardo, Alfred, and Belcia snap them out of it. "Don't worry, this trip won't last, because they're holding stamina potions right in their hands." Carriages thunder forward at breakneck speed. Alfred unleashes Stormstrike. Gerardo surges with never-ending onslaught, and Belcia keeps pounding the fight with non-stop attacks. If it keeps going like this, it'll run like clockwork, and nobody's getting hurt. Azu blurts that this power and this speed are way beyond normal, and she can't pin down a single logical reason. Liffen just smiles and thanks her, since he'd already wiped the how abnormal this is from his mind. And yeah, they still ended up arriving only a few days later. Zed rolled into the settlement called Golden Dawn, and he just couldn't wrap his head around it. Why was it so eerie? Why was there not a single soul in sight? The guild master swears he's been waiting on the real master, then slams for answers. Where the hell did the entire 1000th settlement vanish to? Kyle said he'd pay 5 gold coins every month for a whole year to anyone who held on. Right. The leader fired back that Mr. Yakio had announced it to everyone and posted the notice himself. But even after Mr. Kyle walked out, nobody stayed behind. Zed laughed it off, convinced they were just messing around, like they'd never seriously want to walk straight into the same brutal frontier Kyle was headed for. 2 weeks before Zaid showed up, Kyle ripped into the villagers, telling them Zaid would rule and that Kyle himself was riding off to new lands. The crowd erupted in pure outrage, and the boy stepped in, urging everyone to calm down. He told everyone to look ahead to the future, saying they could follow him and start fresh in the new lands, but before he even finished the sentence, every single person shot their hands up and shouted, "Of course we're coming." No one wanted to stay here. Kraft shot them a warning. Were they really sure? If they stayed, Mr. Zed would cough up the full payment, and the villagers erupted, swearing they'd make their village even greater than this one and knock that aristocrat off his high horse. So Kyle steps in and orders everyone to gear up, because relocation is happening, no delays. Kraft figured most people would rather stay put, and in his head he praised Kyle like, "I get how you bring folks together." But the kid didn't have a clue what that look on the hero's face was saying, probably because Kraft's fame was doing all the talking. The heroes line up before the crates, and Kraft fires off a quick rundown of everything they're packing and taking into the fight. Well, they're forced to ditch almost half the stamina potions, and the village won't let them carry a single resource out with them. At least Keeler's shop had already snapped up half the stock, so they're not walking away empty-handed. Kyle finally snagged the supplies for blacksmithing and alchemy in Gandara, and with those materials in hand, they could always forge more whenever they needed. Under the guild contract, he's trapped here, for now, Once things finally get better, they'll open a brand new guild branch and relocate the head of the Adventurers Guild over there. They tore out of the village and charged into the unknown, starting their journey for real. They were headed for where the district people lived, an awful, barely mapped stretch of land where danger lurked around every corner, and a trip like this would have taken months normally. But with potions, they became untouchable. Reiduka told everyone the pests were already dealt with, and the other guy, full of extra energy, pushed on and built a road they'd be able to use later. They sped through it with zero trouble. And just like that, they were there, blink, and it was over. Kyle thanked Leifin and Alfred for sticking around, and the girl lit him in on the news. The nearby monsters were wiped out. Then they mapped out exactly where the houses would go, and Kyle grinned. This is perfect. Now we can start building temporary homes. Everyone in those settlements rolled up their sleeves and got to work. No one sat back while the construction went up. Kraft realized on the road that they were wildly off, and after everything they'd already survived, they were still grinding through hard work like it was nothing. It's just a theory, but he pushes himself to strain, then crashes into rest, and repeats the whole cycle. Then the potions kick in so they can move nonstop without burning out, and after that kind of grueling grind, they finally forge muscles so incredible you can't help but stare. Reddick steamrolls the Cyclops solo, and Leifon finally figures out it's all thanks to that legendary potion. So she grabs the moment and pushes them to stop handing it out. Kraft had already warned Kyle, if the fallout got too brutal, the military would come knocking to recruit them, so they'd be smarter to dull the potions handed to regular people. He's relieved they've got strong arms, so he grabs Lefan and demands a full explanation. Then the girl nods and fires back about the potions sold to adventurers, asking for the strongest ones possible. He tells her to sell them like normal, because those muscles won't get in the way at all. A few days later, Merchant Akindo can't believe how lightning fast they're building everything. Kraft thanked them for showing up, and once again, after that brutal long break, Akindo snagged an amazing deal. Right on cue, he hauled in volcanic ash and lime like it was pure fire. Then he shot them a question. So, why do you even need this? As long as they cough up the cash, he's all too eager to make the deal. Kraft shot back that their real purpose was plain weird, because this stuff usually turns into a disaster when the rains hit, so they sell it dirt cheap, and moving it in huge batches is totally no sweat. Ash and limestone are the two key ingredients you need to forge that crucial building block. Mix limestone with alchemical reagents, fine gravel, and water, then throw in volcanic ash. Watch it thunder into a hard mass that looks like a boulder, and if you shape it before it sets, you can turn it into a solid building block. Akindo pressed him on how strong it would end up, and Kraft shot back, "Come on, take a look for yourself." They built this as a test run, and look, it already has a dent right on this side. The block shrugged off Radok's sword swings, and fury exploded in him, so he slammed into it with everything he had. But getting slammed by Radok and still not going down, that strength is unreal, so what are they planning to forge with blocks like that? Kraft shot back that they'd raise the greatest fortress city the world had ever seen, and Akindo didn't even flinch, like this was just another Tuesday for him. Kyle's plan said it would take 20 years. Then, while the hero was flipping through Teacher Jarvel's books, his cross suddenly gained a brand new power, and the alchemically tempered stone was put under the microscope. If they can forge boulders, then forget hauling rocks around. Construction gets way cheaper and way faster. The catch is simple. They're going to burn through a ton of ash to make these rocks. Honestly, it's almost too easy for them. This deal is unbeatable. Does Kraft agree to keep working with them? Yep, he says yes, and he trusts them to bring in top-tier goods. But he demanded total secrecy until they finished, because if word got out, prices would skyrocket and chaos would follow. A kingdom says he's trustworthy, and the order comes straight from Kraft himself. Safety is their rule, and they'll deliver everything as fast as humanly possible. The traders storm out, and one of them can't help but say, Kraft is seriously fascinating. He's thinking on a whole different scale, but for them, this deal is pure profit. So yeah, they're celebrating hard, until the boss shuts it down and says they don't get to until they finish the next case. The guild leader whipped around to face Mr. Zed. He said a caravan was barreling toward here from the direction of Mr. Kyle's settlement, and the guy flashed a sly grin. Akindo lit up when he finally met Mr. Zade, because the moment he clocked all those leashes, he knew this dude was a big-time trader. Zed pressed about it, now heading out of Kayla village, and you could tell something terrible had hit them there. The merchants were still stunned, and honestly, did he really think they'd just come back after that disastrous trip? Akendo says he'd love to finally settle here, if anything's happening yet, but Zed tells him the truth. No new settlers have arrived, so the guy jumps in and offers to buy the merchant's goods. Inside that barn sit 4 barrels of mithril and 9 barrels packed with stamina potions. special stuff forged by an alchemist named Kraft. Akindo got fired up. Zide figured he'd flip the gifts Kyle left behind for a ridiculous price, rake in double the settlement's original funds, and cash out big. The merchant realizes there's no way to lowball him, but he still can't help thinking, will this price even be enough? Zed's eyes snap wide open. A kingdom can drop everything it owes in one go. Is he really always hauling that much money around? The merchant admitted he'd heard a ton of mithril had been found here, so he came to scoop up every last reserve. It was a tiny drop next to the settlement's first pile of money. Z signed off on that huge sum, so when the merchant finished thanking him, he leaned in and boldly demanded a 5-time PN. He's basically saying, sure, this might look risky after what I did for you, so will you actually let an in-guild be founded here? If he grants his company's hotel exclusive perks here, they'll pay a full 10% more in taxes. The payday from those ends won't be huge, but if he's set on trying, then fine, taxes hit either way, and that's why, honestly, he's got the better end of the deal. He decides to wring every last bit out of this deal, snaps that 10% is nowhere near enough for a monopoly, then pushes for 20%, and the dealer finally gives in, so the exclusive agreement gets sealed. Zid never expected to rake in this much cash off Kyle's stuff, but his own cleverness did it, selling everything for way more than he'd planned, and now he's about to rub Kyle's face in the gap. The assistant questioned whether that was the right move, but Zed looked like it was tailor-made for him. Akindo insisted he never realized what monster lurked in those potions because he sold them off without ever using them. Jarvel burst into the city, swept his eyes around, and took it all in. She couldn't wrap her head around why this place was packed with hotels, and Zid snapped that she was late, and that it was all because she hadn't shown up. No matter how hard he tries, all that ever goes up here are hotels, because the place basically runs on a bar, a store, and a cart repair shop. Adventurers skip town, and settlers just roll through without staying. He gets exactly what's going on, and he can't let the village grow like this. The girl snaps back that she doesn't need anyone explaining anything to her because she's just arrived herself. The merchant's assistant swears that after every last tax gets carved out, they still rake in a massive profit. He can't even believe how he pulled it off. Akindo drags him to look at it, a document laying out the purchase of potions from Mr. Zed. He slid those potions over for way less than $1,010, like he had no idea what they were really worth, because the profit hit huge, and the truth is these things were absolute gold, since Kraft only sold them in tiny, limited batches. But here's the part Mr. Zide totally missed. Every adventurer and settler rolling through is on a one-way mission to Golden Dawn, drawn there by talk of Mr. Kale, and they're never planning to stay here. A normal person couldn't reach that new settlement for several days if they didn't know how to craft potions, roaming through the wild, but if there was a village to stop at along the way, that would be the perfect spot for an inn. The assistant finally got why he'd signed that exclusive deal in the first place. Akindo was right. People were still slipping through, and these hotels were booming. Zid pressed Jarvel to dig up what was going on here and why nobody wanted to live in this place. Then the girl blurted, "Wait, aren't I supposed to be an alchemist?" For a merchant, his nose is his lifeline. He has to sniff out easy prey before it slips away. Tonight, they finally get to drink to it, so crack open the celebration. But Zed loses it, screaming that everything should have turned out different. In a tiny town, several girls crowd together, staring at something like it's about to change everything. Then one of them leans in and asks if the main character is truly sure about his choice. They stare in awe at how he built this gorgeous church just for them. The girls even clock how massive it is. Then the young man grins and says, "We're planning to build a whole massive city, so we'll need a church big enough to match." He asks if she's even worthy of something like this, and the protagonist tells her to go all in with everything she's got, while the little boy steps up too, ready to help, and the young man stares at him, stunned. The boy fires off the question, can the young man teach them magic? The protagonist freezes, unsure what to say, but then his promise to the boys hits him hard, and he nods, agreeing. The protagonist promises they'll get a few basic lessons every week, and the heroes whip around to stare at Kraft, ready for a fight, only to find him surprisingly on board. Then the young man smirks and admits he'd already planned to teach them anyway. He grins, tells his brand new students, "Listen up and remember everything," and the girl stares at him with pure admiration, realizing he's finally rock-solid reliable. Then one of the guys blurts out, "We can call you Azula." The build of the Golden Dawn Castle City is blasting forward at full speed, and the goal is huge. When it's finished, it'll be triple the size of the capital. Word is spreading fast. People from everywhere are rushing here, chasing the rumors, and every single one of them hits the moment with their special skills, weaving their powers together with fierce words. His girlfriend leans in and asks how things are going, and the young man flashes a quick smile. insisting everything's fine. They're perched on a towering wall, staring out like the whole world's laid out just for them. And the protagonist can't help but gasp that the view is unreal. Their growth is happening at lightning speed, and even the water supply is already being conquered by everyone. The protagonist stares up and blurts, "What kind of tall building is this?" The girl says, "It's a home for immigrants made with a brand new building block," and he's shocked she even supervised the whole build. "With this many people already lined up, that can't be easy," he says. The heroine nods and fires back. "So, do you know what privileges come with trying to get permanent citizenship? People like them get offered either support or housing, and the moment the word spreads, a bunch of masters rush out here," while she stops to thank everyone for making the trip all the way to this remote place. The hero turns to the craftsman and demands to hear their story, then immediately asks one thing: "Are you getting housing?" The hero grins and says, "I already built your houses," and then adds, "And I even lined up classy homes in the city for anyone who throws their work down like they mean it." The girl whips around to Mr. Kailu and tells him he has to pass this straight to the craftsman, and when they hear it, they're stunned, because if they do the job right, they'll get a high-class house as their reward. Everyone bolts into action, each one grabbing their specialty. One storms off to handle the plumbing and flood every house with clean, top-tier water, while another tackles the high spots, tearing through the scaffolding to set it all right. The girl beams because everyone's fighting spirit is alive, and Mr. Kyle hyped the workers so hard it's obvious even to the naked eye. The hero throws out his best wishes and good luck to everyone. The heroine claims that, like clockwork, craftsmen just can't afford to live in fancy houses, so everyone cheers when this guy lands a real home, and the young man can't help but beam at the news. But Kyle, turns out he's already way too clued in on how all this works. Day by day, Kyle keeps winning hearts, and his next options are downright terrifying. Then, boom, one of the heroes yells that the stamina potion effect has changed. The girl confirms it, and she can't sell anything stronger to ordinary people anymore. They're still carefully made, so they won't spoil, and their effects last all day. The protagonist says he thinks it's still a great deal, and the man replies that if that's the case, he'll buy everything for that amount of gold. The protagonist turns to Silura, greets her, and says she seems great. She lights up with pure delight. Then he asks if she really bought the place, and she admits it must have cost a fortune. He confirms it absolutely did. Thanks to Mr. Kalu, she could pay it off in installments with no interest. Then boom, huge orders started pouring in, and everything finally looks like it's going great, all because the protagonist teamed up with the Craftsman's Guild to supply potions wholesale. The girl's eyes light up, and she thanks him with all her heart. The young man grins and says he's just happy he could help, no worries, and if anything goes wrong, the girl shouldn't hold back. Then another guy steps in and introduces himself to the craft. It's Radak. He laughs that he's right on schedule and says he has something important he needs to tell him. The young man grins and congratulates his buddy for snagging B-rank adventurer status, saying it's totally earned. The hero boasts that he was the key to slaying the dragon and that he'll take down a Cyclops solo. Then his companion snaps back that it's all thanks to his potions and tempered mithril. The hero demands, "And what about my reward?" The warrior pivots away, lets his sword clatter in view and tells him, "Is this what you mean?" The young man smirks and says the prize could have been perfect because he's never found a ball that fits him this well. Now one savage swing can drop a Cyclops, and this blade was forged by packing a dragon tooth into timbered mithril. The hero's grinning because his friend finally loves it, and the swordsmith girl stands there with full faith that he'll prove himself. Reddick swears he's gonna swing that thing and cut down a Cyclops every single day. Then the protagonist just stares, thinking, "Sure, go ahead," because he knows you'll regret it fast if you keep messing with that sword. A kid explodes into the protagonist's room and blurts, "You hunting?" And when the young man says it twice, he still doesn't get why he has to go, not because he's refusing, just because he's got stuff to do. The other kid shoots back, "Big herd of wild boars just got spotted in the forest." He says once this is over, he won't be able to haul everyone off all at once, so he decides to ask the main guy for help, because the only thing his comrade needs is someone who can tap into spatial storage. He pops to his feet and says he can always use a bit of exercise, but right out of nowhere, the protagonist freezes and demands, again, which herd of boars they're actually talking about. He can't wrap his head around why his friend won't just bring them along, so he presses again and demands, "Wait, who am I even talking about?" And then, finally, everyone shows up. The man says these are brand new hunters, and he's even wondering if the protagonist can help guide them through the forest while they hunt. Then the protagonist grins back, "Nice to meet you," and everyone jumps at the chance to team up with him today. The hunters demand to know why kids are tagging along with their squad. The young man says they're from the church and asks to check out their magic training, and the posies grin that they can't wait to team up with real experienced hunters, yet they can't shake the worry that bringing them along might be a bad move. Still, The little ones are buzzing with excitement, and the head hunter starts weighing it in his mind. The hero leans in and asks what he stumbled upon. He answers that he found tracks that look just like orcs, and the hunters instantly go pale, demanding what it all means. The hero says there are tons of them and points to this exact group. Then the hunters cut him off, admit they're not doing too badly, and warn, "This place is brutal, we have to head back." The main hero whips around to the kids. "All right, now we're hunting orcs together." The adults fume, completely offended. They're baffled that anyone would talk to kids like that, then act like we all came here for the boars. The hero cuts them off with a sharp gesture and tells them everything's okay, no need to panic. He hasn't forgotten the boars at all, he just thinks they can handle the orcs too. And yeah, the other heroes can't believe he's being so careless. Before long, they were crouched in the bushes, eyes locked forward, ready to ambush whoever came their way. The hunters start trading numbers, and when they count it up, there are only about 6 orcs. So yeah, it's not some endless nightmare. Yet the main character still insists it's not that bad, while the hunter beside him shakes like he's staring down a monster even at that count. Not long ago, he was shaking with fear himself. Then one of the kids snaps to the main character and asks, "Can we really survive all these enemies?" The young man flashes a grin and tells him, "Don't worry, everything's going to be okay." He tells the kids, with a bit of practice, based on what you can already do, this won't be a problem. He's convinced that when they haul those materials in from the orcs, that girl's going to blow her mind, and his words light a spark in the kids. They swear they'll do it, and the heroes are already geared up, ready to launch into battle. The adult hunters snap into panic and blurt, "Are they really tossing children into the battlefield? This is insane." Then the main character's students square up, crack their nerves, start the fight first and barrel straight in, boosting their agility with pure speed. The men stare at it in terror, like their souls know they're doomed. Kids wield the icicle and storm shot like weapons, launching relentless attacks. Thanks to that brutal combo, they smash down one orc hard, and the hunters can't believe their speed. Then one of the kids charges straight into a whole swarm of enemies, yelling that it's his. With his deadly cutting technique, he carves his way through the whole crowd and leaves them crushed. Then the sky rips open with a blinding flash of lightning. Seconds later, the opponents are basically wiped out, and the kids sprint straight to their teacher, yelling, "We did it." They cheer because they wiped out their foes themselves. Then the hunters stare at each other, shocked like this can't be real. While the kids slaughter every last orc in the blink of an eye, the main character insists everything's fine, but they ask again, this time in pure horror. The man blurts out, "I'm totally abnormal," because even adults gamble their lives just to fight orcs, and only a few special kids can handle them with ease. The hunters lean in, so who are they? The young man swings around and admits, straight up, that those kids chug mana and stamina potions every single day, and that he's been hammering them to train hard. The hunters are stunned, blinking and asking, "Wait, so they really drink your potions every day?" The protagonist says he's been telling them about the mage once a week, and even the Rayadok group threw their weight into the training too, so they pushed harder than anyone else and somehow shot up fast, growing stronger in record time. Their gear is forged from tempered mithril, every piece, from the armor to the gloves and boots, even the alchemy reinforced fabric, is crafted from that special material. The hunters stare in shock at the kids' gear, and the protagonist snaps that it feels way too extravagant for children, but the young man refuses to let them get hurt, no matter what it costs. The kids sprint up to their teacher, bragging like they just won the whole world, and the young man nods, saying, "Yeah, you really crushed it." But they're still miles away from fixing their mistakes, so the kids start doubting themselves. Did we mess up the teamwork? The young man snaps back, "No, that's not it. You just didn't read the situation right." A surviving orc crawls from behind the bushes, and the hunter immediately lets an arrow fly. Down he goes, and the kids spin around, faces filled with pure terror. The man snarls that they've missed yet another chance, one that could have put their lives on the line, while the young warriors slump in bitter disappointment. The protagonist tells them, "You kids who handled those orcs, you've already blown me away." Then he grins and says they did an amazing job, so now they can claim their materials as their reward. The herald nods and vows to tear the orcs apart for parts, then they can finally see what he'll get paid. The children beam like crazy. The hunter calls it a sweet sight, because Golden Dawn Village is the kind of scary that makes your skin crawl. The maid slides in with a bright good morning, then addresses him right away as her master. Before Ryuko is even created, the girl drills the protagonist about the dragon material doll, and he tells her, "Yeah, this is basically the kind of doll I want to make." He admits it'll be his first real shot at this kind of work, so he asks her to help him with it. Kliushka snatches the blueprint and fires back, "Why do you need a doll like this?" And then he forges one, using materials meant to build the strongest skeletons, golems, and gargoyles, so powerful it outmuscles the bosses of ancient dungeons. The main character basically says, "I need someone who can keep secrets, run around this house, and keep people safe," and then he calls it what it is, an assistant maid. The girl swears he almost scared her out of her wits, and then you've gotta ask, if he only needs one maid, why doesn't he just make that maid his familiar? Make it familiar. Once that maid steps in, she'll instantly have everything she needs, and it'll hit even harder when it comes to understanding him. The girl admits that something still gnaws at her, then decides to put that feeling to use and crafts a gift for the main character. The girl cracks open the box, and a massive, priceless gemstone bursts into dazzling light. The protagonist blurts, "What is it?" And the girl answers, "A personality stone. One touch of it gives the doll its personality, its character, its behavior, basically the brain that drives everything, and it's so rare in this world it's almost unimaginable. And inside this stone lives the personality of the kingdom's best maid, so when the protagonist catches sight of it, she freezes in shock. The girl asks if he's happy, and she did everything she had to, giving his future doll this stone with purpose, because it was never meant to be a deadly killing machine. He's stunned and deeply moved that she handed him something this important. He squeezes his teacher in a tight hug and thanks her with all his heart. He says she's the best teacher around because not everyone's willing to burn that much for the kids. And before he can blink, the heroine shoves him aside and tells me, so casually, to just hug her. The young man panics, apologizes, and admits he didn't even realize she was a girl since she looks like a child. All right, she hands it to him at once, then warns the girl, "Don't you dare mess around with that doll or cook up anything weird, and he better not try to teach her any combat tricks." The young man grins and blurts that he can't wait to ask Lifan to forge him a body, because he's determined to craft the best maid in this whole world, while the teacher just shakes his head, thinking, what a sweet, clueless simpleton. She whips around to him and blurts that she's got something else she absolutely has to tell him. She wants to talk to him about the research work, but he admits he hasn't even given it a second thought. Then, without hesitation, he promises to pass every last result to her, and they both agree the heroine will be his co-author again this time. The offer hits him hard, leaving him genuinely touched. The girl starts nagging him non-stop. He shoots out an apology, and just like that, he gets the stone from the teacher. Because of that, he finally crafts his first doll familiar, and the thing even greets him with a cheerful, "Good morning." The maid storms into the protagonist's bedroom and yanks the curtains back, ripping open the view from the window. She asks where he wants breakfast, and he snaps back, "Bring it into the living room." He's absolutely thrilled. Ryuko just creates with zero misses. She gets it perfect on the first try, so he can hand her anything and never sweat the outcome. It feels like pure divine luck. The young man bows to his teacher and blurts out that today's breakfast tastes insanely good, straight up delicious. The maid grins and says the day kicks off with dinner later, right in the company of Mr. Kyle. Meanwhile, the protagonist's mind snaps back. Today is supposed to bring intermediate results from the dry individual fields, and he knows they'll need to talk about it. The young man gets sent out to work the fields, and they're hoping it'll pay off big. Then the hero digs into his meal, thanks them, heads out, and asks what that doll will do while he's away. She says she's got plans to set things right, and the hero begs her, don't let him down. Even the doll chips in, wishing him a safe journey. The young man can't stop thinking, what does cleaning even mean when the place is already spotless? Is she really going to scrub even the spots no one can see? And yeah, the hero's impressed. He's genuinely happy with his maid. After the hero slips away, two people on the roof keep their eyes locked on him, praying they can snag those legendary potions next. They're plotting to snatch him as a hostage and cash in, while they argue over how beat up he is, and whether he even took part in the raid on the dragon. Suddenly, a doll pops up behind the robber and addresses the dear guests like it's in on the whole thing. But when they ask the men how they can help, don't you wonder, did they really show up on some official appointment? The men explode into battle at once, shocked as they stare, because they can't figure out how those dolls slipped in from behind without a single sound. One of the men swings his hand up to smack Togo, but the moment he tries, everything goes sideways. Sure, when the sword plunges toward her, she twists at the last second and turns the tables. She grabs the blade with two fingers like it's nothing, and the maid blurts out that it all makes sense now. Yeah, they're thieves, the real kind. The maid slams the ball into the air with one violent sweep of her blades, and the man just stares, dumbstruck, because he can't fathom how she grips that blade with such brutal control. Then the doll barrels in to attack. She closes in on the second robber and lands a brutal slap across his face. The robber snaps to a side turn fast, and the girl with his partner just stares, watching him vanish. Lafon and her master don't just build, they forge something so sturdy that breaking in is way harder than they ever imagined. Trying to pull this off in shoes is brutal, because the maid will not let it slide, and the robber is left completely stunned. He bolts to escape his opponent, then out of nowhere, something slams into his path. He snapped his head up and found the maid right in front of him, then spun toward her, scrambling to talk his way out of trouble, but the girl stared back with a cold, empty look. The ship didn't realize the girl was dumping a mountain of dragon materials. She had her own version of best world and maid, because that part of her personality wasn't quite what everyone expected. She didn't just become a maid, she rose up as the strongest one, with a personality so unmistakably hers. I hadn't noticed a thing yet. Then the girl tells me the cleanup is already finished. A voice calls out to the main character. A kid on a horse shoots him a bright "good morning," and the young man fires back, asking if the kid can really ride. Then the child grins and admits he couldn't do it a single day ago until now. Because of the main character, his health finally bounced back, and now he's diving into writing lessons. Mr. Kyle is a total grind. He can't gallop just yet, but he's already nailed the art of walking. The girl blurts out, "Let's go check the fields." The hero blurts, "What's wrong with your animals?" And the heroine jumps, because she swears she asked the merchant for 2 top-tier, highly functional racehorses, and that's exactly what they handed back. When they call out to the bird, she coos that it's weirdly affectionate, and the hero jolts at the racer's wild, unusual name. He's relieved she didn't pick the village's name. Then the heroine squints and asks what's wrong with his face, because did he seriously want her wing? Suddenly, the hero gets swept into a tight hug by a little girl, and he blurts out whether Mina's coming too. She grins and says, if he thinks she'll get in the way, they'll just ask to have Mina sent back. Tears surge to the little girl's eyes, threatening to spill. Men rush up to the heroes and start yelling at the young man, blaming him for making his mistress cry. He snaps back, telling them to cut it out. He's done nothing wrong. And he insists Kyle was the one who painted him as the villain. The boy finally apologizes. The protagonist leans in close, dares the girl to stop the tears, and pushes the idea that they should slip away together, while he's totally wiped clean the memory of those overprotective knights' cruelty, because if he ticks them off, they'll cut him down right there on the spot. So the protagonist demands, what went down out there in the fields? And the boy shoots back that it's all about the brand new plots that were just sown. Something unreal just ripped through the fields, so the protagonist grabs the moment and demands, wait, what the heck happened? He thanks the women for saving the heroes, because the ones who got smeared finally found their way back to them. The young man says he overheard something serious going down in the bedrooms. She snaps back that it's way easier to see it for yourselves than try to explain it. And then the woman shows them exactly what happened. The hero freezes, completely stunned. The young man blurts, what is this? And the woman grins, it's all wheat. The heroes can't make sense of it. Why did the wheat sprout into a whole forest? They planted so much it should have only grown grain, not a jungle. But the woman insists it's normal. Regular wheat really can ripen just like this. She suddenly remembered something that could change how their wheat grows. Anna recalled that they'd gotten a special fertilizer from the main character. And last month they planted wheat treated with his product. Then the first shoots popped up insanely fast, and they were over the moon. Before they could even blink, the wheat had flipped into the shocking thing they were staring at now, and the young man just couldn't accept it. Yeah, his fertilizer sounds amazing, but could it really be that powerful? He starts wondering if it's the fertilizer mixed with the land they planted the wheat in, because the soil is packed with nutrients. He can't believe it. So the boy straight up asks whether the wheat has been tested to be safe. The woman shoots back that for the test they cooked up a whole lineup of dishes, no hiccups at all, and every single one got rave reviews, like that pastry made from the wheat, and then she calls everyone over to try it. The hero takes a bite and his eyes light up. Whoa, that's insanely tasty. The moment that stale bread hit his hands, it felt weirdly soft and springy, like it could stretch forever. So when he bit in, it was so smooth and satisfying he almost forgot to notice the taste, until the warm comfort rushed through his whole body. This bread wasn't food, it was art. The boy blurts out that he wants a shot too, and the guard snaps, telling him to back off, right now. He tells them, go on, see for yourselves. This wheat is not asterisk normal. Stick around and watch a little longer. And just then the girl grabs a piece of bread and tastes it. Scary doesn't rush to Mrs. Maina, and the main character leans in to ask if it's tasty. Mrs. Maina's a total gobbler, snatching the bread and nodding like, yep, delicious. The boy blurts, can't I? But the guard shuts him down, and the kid starts sobbing and pleading, spilling out every excuse like it's all the truth. The protagonist told him nothing's going to happen. He even let the kid take a tiny shot at it, and when the guard demanded he stop those baseless claims, the protagonist shot back, there's nothing to fear, trust the workers with me. He claims he gets it, this is a man's job to say that, but if he tells the boy no bread, then what? the kid will just grow to hate him, and so the man finally caves to the boy's pressure. He decides that no matter what hits them, they'll still have time to react. Then the kid takes a bite of the bread, lights up, and says it's incredibly tasty. If the wheat is this good, they can expand the sowing area. The workers shout that they can replant it if they use Mr. Krath's fertilizer, and since the land's already thriving and doesn't need to lie fallow, they can blast sow wheat several more times this month. While the hero grins, calls it amazing, and pushes them to expand the fields and harvest every single bite of the crop they've got right now. The boy shoots a question: can the protagonist really cook up enough fertilizer for the job? The young man grins and says, yeah. He promises the harvest will feed everyone, then leave even more to sell overseas, and just like that, the Golden Dawn's power keeps exploding as the fields keep spreading. Wheat grown with special fertilizers has been flying off the shelves like wildfire. Thanks to the main character, traders keep flocking in to try to steal your supply, and now the hero, even stuck on the idea of changing the name. Days later, the action explodes inside the adventurer's casing. Then the cat girl beams and wishes the main character a great day. She tells him like it's obvious, this isn't about turning at all. Then the girl grins and says, gentlemen and adventurers who have heard the rumors keep lining up one after another, and that lately she's been working for the Adventurers Guild. In the Golden Dawn, everyone finally lives in peace, and the protagonist can't stop smiling as everything runs smooth as silk. The girl leans in and asks what he wants today, while they stack up rare specimens like treasures waiting to be claimed. The hero gets cornered with a question: can you really pull off just one top-tier stone in this case? The heroine fires back, wondering if the rest aren't any good. He answers by showing the collection. Most of the stones are plain, average, or straight-up low quality, and the girl just stands there, stunned, like she never even saw it coming. The cat girl blurts that this city reeks of weird materials, so her detection magic won't touch them. Then she's thrilled when he agrees to help, but he snaps that he never agreed at all, and just because he can use detection magic doesn't mean he has the right to, so she counters that getting an official order will cost a pretty penny. She swears it's all fine, and if anyone learns that Kraft himself picked those materials, they'll eat up her story. The protagonist presses, saying, so you're telling me my opinion is just a punchline to you? Her answer is ice cold. The resolve of someone who wasn't even allowed to do this is actually what can be trusted. Then she snaps back. He just doesn't get who she says he really is. The hero declares she'll do whatever she wants, but makes it crystal clear he won't be the one paying for the fallout. Meanwhile, the protagonist's student is grinding like crazy in training. He controls a blade like it's already mastered. Every strike lands sharp, perfect, and deadly. Skilled hunters clash with kids, and it's brutal. The girl snaps her bow back and lets a storm of arrows fly. The hunters swear they've got them boxed in, and the adults start whispering, are his students really just kids? Meanwhile, the young man blinks in shock, staring straight at whatever just caught his eye. He greets his acquaintance, and the young man blurts out why the kids are training with adventurers. Reddick laughs it off and says he just wanted to test their strength. The legendary stamina potion hits like a monster, so villagers only get a weaker batch, yet somehow these kids are still beating the same legendary potions the adventurers use. The protagonist had no idea how this would end, so he grabbed Radok and ordered him to keep watch over the kids. The boys can't wrap their heads around it. Why are the kids this wiped out if they're supposed to be fueled by that potion? The protagonist tells them, you're training today, no legendary potion. And when the dust settles, he realizes the two adventurers who battled the kids are C rank, while the other two are D rank. That's why these kids, true power, can throw a wrench in the plans of even foreign tourists who think they're untouchable. Because of a mysterious incident from the past, the top 3 ranks are only granted after a ruthless, no stones unturned exam, and the protagonist hits back with this. For countless adventurers, just getting that far is already the wildest dream. It's all because he pushed his students way too far. So now you get to see what they can pull off even while the Golden Dawn's pros are keeping watch. The hero tells himself he'll have to adjust to this place's wild rhythm and its twisted logic, until his comrade cuts in and demands he forget it all, because the kids' growth wasn't luck at all. They train nonstop, powered by his legendary potions, and yeah, his alchemy is the real kind of incredible. A guy sprints up to them, grinning like he finally cracked the code, and the young protagonist realizes it's the head of the Adventurers Guild. Then he gestures them over and invites him to walk together. The protagonist says, that rush reeks of something that just hit the city, and the man nods hard. Yeah, we've got to move now. It all goes down inside the Adventurers Guild, and the hero leans in, asking the guy what urgent disaster he couldn't wait to talk about. He answers that he'll say it straight to your face. Right now, terrifying cockatrice swarms have been found all across these lands. The youth fires the question again, because right in front of him, a royal Tamil beast made of dragon and serpent with a rooster's head feels their breath, and its living body starts freezing into crystal, stone by stone, until it hardens. Their reach is huge, but nobody knows the exact number, only that they're everywhere. The protagonist snapped his head toward his comrade and asked how he was holding up against crystallization. His answer was wild. With light breathing, he could stand it. Even adventurers at his level wouldn't be able to fully stop crystallization, though. The hero blurts out, "So what's the rough number of Corallusks?" And the man snaps back, "There's no exact data, so it's only an estimate, but it could easily run into the thousands." The main character is absolutely horrified, because no one has ever seen a crowd this massive, ever. The hero realizes one truth fast: if that many enemies swarm the city at once, there won't be a single thing left standing. They raised a fortress built to block those raids, but the real nightmare is crystallization. If they can hold off that curse, then they've already pulled off a massive win. They've got to shield everyone living in the Golden Dawn, no exceptions, no excuses, not even if it costs them everything. The protagonist says they've got to talk to Kyle, and the man promises he'll dig up the answers. Within days of spotting the cockatrices, they were already hammering out plans to fend them off. The main character proposed a terrifying Antichrist ritual: lick the crystals, then peel them away. The maid whips around to face him and tells him, straight up, that the main character needs to crash and rest. So yeah, he basically did nothing. The Antichrist's licking potion isn't some mass-producible miracle, and with the creature's life hanging by a thread, he's the only one who can brew just one more potion, so the protagonist can't rest. A cat girl rockets into the room, bursting through like a shockwave. She shrieks that a whole flock of cockatrices is swarming them like a living nightmare. They're charging straight toward their city, fists clenched and fate on the move. The main character snaps, "Where's the flock?" They reveal the exact angle of the enemy's assault, and then the young man snaps on farsightedness. Across the way, a massive stampede of mythical creatures is charging toward us, and the ground feels like it's shaking. If nobody acts now, there won't be a single soul left alive, so the protagonist snaps, asking whether everything's already been handed to Kayla, and then they tell him the messengers are on the way right this moment. As for the defense plan, Mr. Kyle is still drilling his troops, so they can only gamble with Alfred and Belcia, and right now, there are roughly 20 adventurers who have signed that contract. These people just don't fight back during the raid. Then someone steps in and tells the protagonist to calm down. One of the adventurers says, "If you're willing to raise a blade when trouble hits, then you're ready to stand guard and defend this city." Working in tourism means danger is always lurking, so they stay on high alert about every risk, because their life comes before any paycheck. So if you dangle big money with even a hint of danger, they'll shut it down without a second thought. Jera insists their teams never signed any contract with the city, and the man fires back that some folks are still thankful to this place for everything it's given them. Then they swear they want to stay on the same side as the main character and Mr. Kyle for as long as they possibly can. They swear they're not here to chase glory, they're here as protectors, ready to defend their home and the friends they'd never let go. They push the question, do you really have to pay anything to save a friend? The protagonist shoots them a thank you, and one of the adventurers shrugs, saying there are only a couple hundred of them, but he swears they aren't the kind who fight in some giant army. First, the main character hatches a plan to wipe out the devil haunting the foreign tourists. Then he vows that if the cockatrices' behavior shifts even a bit, he'll want someone to run straight back and report it. In the Adventurers Guild, Kyle strides up to the main character and fires off a question. How did you end up like this? Kraft is hunting down his buddy Radak. Only one of the men tells him Radak isn't here right now. He's out of town on a mission that's officially been approved. When Alfredo's gone, it hits like an entire army vanishing. He's sprinting to evacuate residents, rushing them into blocks packed with reinforced materials. When things get serious, residents' safety is the first rule, but this time the threat hits a whole different way. The main character tells everyone the wall building isn't done. Those walls aren't finished yet. There are 3 of these points in total. One sits up north, one lurks out west, and the last holds the south. This place should have been bristling with fortresses. The protagonist claims their army is just 300 people, then barks an order to load the strongest adventurers and send them west, only for the man to slam back. Do we really have to strip more than half to one spot at once? Then we'll have barely anyone left for the other 2. From the tower, the hero claims he watched the cockatrices up close, and they were downright brutal. With humans already in their sights, they're not about to suddenly split up their forces. So they all rush at anyone standing in the west, right then, all together. The hero whips his attention back to the phone, apologizes, and warns that every anti-crystallization potion has to be shipped to the west. The man snaps back, then what happens to the other parts? The protagonist blurts, "We've only got 200 anti-crystallization potions. There won't be enough for the North and the South." And the guy snaps back, "So what are the rest supposed to do?" Then the real question hits hard. Does the protagonist actually plan to feed them to the cannon fodder? The young man slumps into his chair, eyes locked on the file, and he can't even breathe as these brutal decisions press down on him. He tells them to plant Belcia in the north and Alfred in the south, because with them there, even a tiny squad of fighters can somehow hold off the cockatrices. The hero snaps that there's no more land left to fight the Antichrist, but they still hold potions that can undo crystallization. He's just started brewing them, so it's scarce right now, yet it'll be enough once time catches up. Belcia and Alfred's squads are bringing those decrystallizing tools for the petrified people. Then the man snaps back, saying you're too insane to run a rabble, and they'll need time to set it up. But the hero just smirks and vows to keep brewing potions in the meantime. Everyone there can't figure out why he's trying to send warriors to hell with skills this week. It's way too risky, and Balsh snaps that for her. It's no big deal. She claims they're made for the job, because as they patrol and guard the city, someone has to stay watch over Kyle. The Kurds interrogate the benches about what they'll do if the Kuroyski bursts through out of nowhere, and he can't stop thinking about what'll happen to Kale and Mama once the chaos erupts. The girl blurts out that she's a bodyguard, and she has to keep Kyle safe no matter what. Meanwhile, the boy insists he values every life in the Golden Dawn and won't let them lose their city. Then he turns to the girl and asks if she'll go defend the walls. It's a brutal, high-stakes job, and nobody else can pull it off, only her. But if she lets her thoughts drift to him, she has to remember everyone he loves and everything he's fighting to shield. The boy begs her to promise she'll come back, and Kyle snarls that if she won't stand up for him, he'll never forgive her, even for a second. He leans in and asks the girl if she'll do it for him. She snaps a salute and declares, "If this is what my master wants, then I'll carry out my duty and prove I can live up to every expectation." She tells her friends to breathe easy, swearing her powers make the cockatrices a cakewalk for her. Then boom, Kraft pulls out a wild tactic that's almost too insane, and Kraft better realize just how far his limits stretch, because right now, everything hinges on how fast he can move. The heroine tells him to trust her, and he swears he'll deliver the Antichrist transformation potion, no matter what. With those words, the clock snapped, and the fight with time truly began. The protagonist bursts back home, and the maid snaps to attention, greeting her master with a bright, respectful bow. The young man whirls toward her and yells that they've got to hurry now, and the adventurers have to help him, because the potion is already set and ready to start brewing. To make the anti-crystallizing potion work, you can't skimp, you need a whole bottle, and if you're talking north of south, you'll need a whole barrel instead. With the way he brews it now, there's no way he finishes before Togo, and to cure 100 people, he'll have to burn through his magical powers until he's completely wiped out. Even if he fails, brutal casualties will still spill. There's no escaping the cost. The young man snaps out of his daydreams and declares it's time to move, right now, then orders everyone to fall in line and obey the maid's instructions. The workshop is buzzing nonstop right now. Everyone's locked in and the work's flying. The main character pushes every last bit of his strength and skill, sprinting to make it there before time runs out. Finally, he drops the news. 1 barrel of anti-crystallizing potion is ready to go. He's demanding they ship it north and south, and he wants it done right now. Now he starts brewing a potion to wipe out the crystallization. Then loud stomping crashes through the street, and the protagonist blurts out, "Hey, is it really that noisy out here?" Then a horrifying idea slams into his mind. He bolts into the yard, desperate to see what just happened. A young man spots smoke ripping into the sky from the western wall. He stares as the guns get loaded, and then the truth hits hard. The cockatrices have already slipped through the breach. I can tell you this, thankfully, not all of them slipped through, but a handful still burst into the city. 3 sections of the defensive wall are under construction, yet the walls are barely in their first stage, and the hero can't stop himself from wondering if they'll even hold. The maid shoots him a quick question, does he mind? Then she asks if he'll scope out how the wall defenses are set up. She warns that if the walls don't go up, his procession gets cut short. Right now, they have to verify it for real. The hero snaps back that she's just a maid, and he can't send her away like that, so the girl insists, "Trust me, leave it with me." The protagonist nods and agrees, then tells her to check what's happening with the Mabels, the main group of foreign tourists. The heroes push back into their work and snap to it. He must not leave, because his battlefield is in the workshop. They've got to start brewing potions right now. If he had just 1 ingredient left, he'd already be done cooking by now. The hero can't stop thinking, Where on earth is he supposed to get a cockatrice egg? Just a few days before the attack hit, one of the main character students can't hold back. She tells her friends to run out there and smash the orc. Her friend blurts that she still doesn't get why they were called here, and she finally snaps into action. She hurries off to call the hunter. But the cat girl insists they're going alone, just like before, for a simple picnic. She shoots back, "If you're not strong enough, then prove it, because we can handle things perfectly fine without adults, especially with the way we've got potions down," and Kraft's brother right there too. She tells them, "Remember, you were allowed to take as much as you want," and her friend shoots back, "Yeah, that doesn't make it any safer." Then the girl grins and says, "Okay, let's just walk over to that big boulder." Without any adults around, it turns into an all-out adventure, where their mission is simple: smash the orc, grab the magic stone, and deliver it straight to their sister, Azu. The girls can't stop picturing how their little sister will shower them with praise. She asks if the stamina potion's ready, and when she gets a clear yes, the girl fires back, "We're set." Then the heroine barks the order and they launch. She pitches a wild idea: race to the mountains and make it a sprint. Meanwhile, savage battles are raging right beside the city walls. The commander roars at his soldiers, "Don't you dare rush, hold your ground and fall back in order." A colossal monster barrels through the sky, straight at him. The man hacks his own head clean off. The monster crashes down hard, smashing into the ground and taking out a handful of soldiers with it. The knights tell their comrades, "Trust us, lean on us," while the commanders bark that nobody can stand around when battle is about to start, and most adventurers can't even coordinate as a team. He knew it'd be rough, but not this bad, and now he realizes the only way through is to seize control of the whole situation. They might scrape by with what they've got right now, but the second the enemies hit together in a full-on swarm, they're not surviving. Tiger the fighter fires off the question, "Should I follow them?" And the commander shuts him down. No, he doubts they'll stop, not even when they act like they're done, and Tiger's left staring, totally clueless about what comes next. A stranger strides up to him and demands, "Tell me, are you really Commander Degard?" The man snaps his head around, and in the next heartbeat, horror locks him in place. The maid bolts straight toward him, sprinting at full speed. She blurts out that she's got messages for the commander, and the man immediately snaps, "So what are you doing here?" The girl insists the whole wall won't fold under the cockatrice's attack, so they're saying their protection is useless now, yet I can still leap insanely high with my wings. The enemy can't just soar over those walls, so breathe, steel yourself, and keep fighting to the last breath. Then the commander nods, thanks you for the heads up, and says every second spent defending that breach matters. He whips around to the nearby squad and barks an order, "Don't strike, lock in and form a defensive line." The maid clocks the situation as bad news, and the man nods, no doubt about it. He says it'd be great to at least put real numbers on these groups, then contacting them would be way easier. The maid leans in and asks if she should hand the adventurers the squad numbers. He's stunned to learn she's just a maid, and he refuses to let her slip into the vanguard. She smirks and tells you, "You're no trouble," then says she'll borrow their axes. The commander snaps at her to stop. She's stolen his spare axes. But the heroine is gone. Now she's nowhere to be seen. One fighter blurts out, "When did this commander switch to one hand?" Only to find out it's a two-handed heavy axe, and half the crowd can't even lift a single one. But the maid grabbed two at once like it was nothing. The commander lines in and demands, "So who is this mate anyway?" Right now, in the area where the leader hasn't been knocked down yet, the battle is still raging. The soldiers charge in like a storm, fighting the Karalisks with sheer courage. Cockatrice ducks behind the weaker enemies, using them as cover. The soldiers spot him and slam him with the full crushing weight of the enemy. A colossal monster unleashes a gaping mouth, ready to swallow everything in its path. The soldiers scrambled to protect themselves, but the truth hit them fast. Things were way worse than they thought. Then the monster's eyes rolled back, and it slowly crumpled to the ground. The soldiers snapped to attention, completely baffled by what's happening in front of them. A blur of a maid rockets through the air at impossible speed, slicing her opponent into multiple pieces, while everyone below stares in stunned silence. The girl lands right in the gap, slicing between two axes like she owns the space. She scans the room with burning, battle-ready eyes, like she's ready to start a fight with anyone in her way. In a split second, the hero snaps to the truth. This is made by the main characters. She surges back with insane speed, rockets straight at her opponents like a streak of lightning. She expertly yanks the supports into place, then tears through and drops several more monsters. The girl whips around to the stunned soldiers and tells them, "Now you can finally talk in peace." She whips around to Mr. Lactone and snaps that his group did this. Then the cockatrices smash through the defense line like it's nothing. She warns them that if they keep drifting away from Mr. Degard, they'll eventually scatter into tiny groups, perfect targets, easy to slaughter, while they still won't be able to take down the cockatrices' leader. The man shoots her a quick apology, saying they've really separated now, and the whole squad has to rush back to the defense line. The girl then declares, from this moment on, Lacton's crew goes first, Edziffair is second, and you and your squad follow every order we give. The hero snaps, stunned, and demands to know how the maid even knows his name. The girl drops a wild claim. She swears she knows the name of every single resident in the city. The soldiers stare in awe, and the heroine snaps back that this is exactly the maid's job. She begs for forgiveness, then slips into a new mission. I still have other messages to deliver, and prays the battle will end in victory. The moment her plea lands, she rises and vanishes into thin air. The squad leader snaps the question to his soldiers, who saw it. No blood stains her, not after everything she's pulled off, and Lacton fires back, so that's all you noticed. While everyone else fights, the girl keeps going, mission mode locked in. She helps the squad take down the Karalusks and turns the tide with sheer numbers. The message is cut out, the line snaps back, and the girl goes dead still in a combat-ready stance, because she knows this is it, time for the real fight. A sharp hairline faces a long, pitch-dark corridor, like it's staring it down. Meanwhile, the whole city gets evacuated in a rush. People who know better are begging everyone to stay back, don't pack the streets, and keep the order from breaking. Inside the hospital walls, they rush in and patch them up with first aid. Azula wraps bandages around the girl's arm, then snaps to her and demands if the baby really is suffering that badly. She coos the child, insisting everything's okay now, while the protagonist gets a warm cup thrust into their hands and is told to sip carefully. The girl whips around to the boys and orders, when you're done, check the street, look for anyone hurt, and the kids nod right away. Someone yells her name, and the heroine dashes over without a second to spare. The girls locked eyes, then started asking each other what they were going to do next. The cat girl urges her friend to go and get it back, but does snaps, it's too late, because she was dying to talk to her sister Azu, only Azu's slammed with something right now. A friend jumps in and says, then we hit the guild, but Kaggle warns, if you do, Azur's sister will blow up at you, and that's before you deal with everyone else. She warns that they, and maybe even their little sister, could get shoved out of the city for good. The girl drops to her knees, hands flying to her head in total panic, and the kid blurts that he only wanted to make his little sister happy, but everything detonates and goes horribly, completely wrong. They should just quit this whole adventure, life for good. The kids shoot a look back at that cabinet, because inside is something only they understand. If they hadn't been swept up in sheer adventurism, they never would have lugged that egg all the way to Ural City, and that single egg became the spark that lit the whole catastrophe. The action rockets back to the main character's home, then a man barrels up to him and blurts, is the petrification removal ready? The young man spins around, shouts, yeah, we'll have it ready right now, I'm just finishing it. He asks where the men came from, and they snap back that they're with the right-wing squad, Alfred's crew. Then the protagonist realizes the warriors are already starting to abandon their positions. The center's already blown in, most of the cockatrices are here too, and they're badgering him nonstop for fresh potion supplies. But the main character can only breathe because at least the left wing is finally steady and under control. He blurts out, asking if their commander can't wait just a little longer, and the man hits back, demanding how he thinks it'll play out. Then the enemy storms in like pure rage, launching straight for the mind, and even Alfred can't keep his footing. The protagonist blurts in horror, did we really break into the city? And the warriors snap back, no, we're keeping them pinned for now. But the adventurers who charge the fight get hit and instantly turn to stone from the breath of the cockatrice. And these Carillions didn't just beat them, they annihilated them so brutally that all that was left was dust. The protagonist blurts out that he just brewed a potion to stop petrification, and his voice cracks with pure despair. The man freezes in shock, demands proof, and orders him to hand it over right now. The young man snaps back that he won't comply. He'll hand over only a tiny share of what's been prepared, and the rest will be sent straight to the center, while the other man fumes in pure rage. He demands to know how that tiny move will even help, then snaps into furious curses, claiming they'll all die there because of the main character, until his comrade grabs him and shuts him down. He snaps that the young man needs to think with his own head, because no matter how you spin it, the center matters most in soul, and if they push through there, an unfixable flood of enemies will pour into the city. The main character pours non-stop time and blood into it, so if they're forced to wait for the next game, they're not making it. The man admits they'd first considered taking it all for themselves, but says it isn't that simple, so he begs for understanding. Meanwhile, the protagonist pants hard, then folds over, gripping the barrels. One thought crushed through his mind: brew as many potions as fast as he could, right now. Then he heard a name being called. Was someone looking for him? A girl bursts into the room and blurts, "How can I help you?" The young man jolts at Liffin's look, then fires back, "Did you finish the fence?" She grins and says, "The last touch is done." They demand an update on the petrification medicines. Then the men start pouring them straight into the main character's sadi. She clocks exactly how the young man's feeling and jumps in to lift his spirits, telling him the hero can't afford to wallow right now. He's got to push through, do everything he can, and squeeze every last bit of strength out of himself. No matter what, he can't magically get what he needs, and in a moment like this, everyone's got a limit. She begs to let someone else lend a hand, asks why she's doing it, and stares like, "We're all here, aren't we?" The young man felt her words hit straight in the heart. He claims if that's true, then the medicine has to go straight to the right wing. She'll move way faster than the others, so she should do it. Then the heroine snatches the barrel out of the men's hands and snaps, "You should have talked about this way earlier." She demands he trust her, swears she'll get the barrel back to him as fast as possible. Then the protagonist cracks open the mono elixir. He throws everything he's got into it and pushes until he finally snatches that medicine. The story slams back into the defensive line. In the left wing, the commander stares out at the horizon, and with a sharp voice, he announces the enemy has finally arrived. She barks orders at her warrior, "Stick to the tactics. They need to brace themselves and get ready right now." The girl hops onto her steed, whips around to the wing, and tells him she's got big hopes for him. The opponents sprint straight for the wall at full throttle. The whole squad rockets into the battlefield, and at the very front, the heroine charges on her steed, screaming a war cry that rallies everyone. Fight to the last, no turning back. The cockatrices thunder forward without pause, and he slams himself in their way. The girl kicked her steed into a sprint, her wings shot up like a banner, and those ruthless opponents still refused to back down. The heroine charges straight into danger and starts swinging her blade at the cockatrices with pure, unstoppable force. They shriek out these awful, jarring noises. Then the girl snaps her sword up, points it at them, and declares, "This is your dead end." The opponents stall for a split second, then start breathing hard. The squad's warriors stare in disbelief at her skills. Belzia Sand taps every move the wing offers, and just like that, she grinds the cockatrices down to exhaustion. And here's how the left wing planned to crush them. While the team's leader herds the enemy into one tight pile, the others rain arrows from far away, warriors standing guard for their commander, shouting at the girl to mow down anyone who tries to break through and stop them from passing. The heroine keeps swinging her sword like a storm, crushing her opponents into a dead-end corner. Once they all crash together into one ugly heap, the girls scream, "Now we strike," and the archers snap their arrows into place. They unleash a massive volley of arrows, mowing straight into their opponents. Explosions rip through the area, and the squad erupts in cheers, convinced they've won, until the heroine cuts in, sharply demands they don't drop their guard. A cockatrice suddenly drops in right beside her. The monster gapes wide, then the commander squirms free, clocking the truth. This is it, the end, and right as dread hits, an arrow comes flying in and nails the enemy. She clocks him straight in the head, spins around, and bam, finds the hunter staring at her. Then he asks if she's okay. The heroine blurts out with pure joy, then thanks the young man for saving her. The young man backs the warriors and tells them to smash the second wave just as hard, and the squad leader shoots back that maybe next time she'll finally introduce him to a night girl. The young man grins at her words and blasts out, "I'll give it everything I've got," while the heroine stares in shock, realizing he actually heard her. A young guy yells that he'll wipe out every opponent, and the girl can't help but believe they'll last. Then right on cue, a fresh squad of enemies barrels toward the wall. But with that kind of pressure bearing down on them, the defense won't hold for long. "Right wing, right now." She calls her commander's order and fires instructions at her subordinates. He tells them the boys haven't swallowed the potion of fortitude yet, so there's no need to force their way forward just yet. They've burned through every last petrification cure potion, and there's no room for more losses. So tell me, who in their right mind wouldn't bet on a guy like that? The warriors demand, "So does that mean we're leaving him to fight by himself?" The commander answers, "Pretty much, he'll stand alone." Then he slams the reality down, "But you still have to make sure every wounded enemy is finished." He leans in and declares his fighting style is about to be something special. He dug his heels in, snapped his reins, and rode straight for the front. The man rockets to insane speed, thrusts his spear straight ahead, lets out that signature battle cry, and barrels toward the cockatrices. The enemies don't even hesitate. they launch forward in a straight charge straight at the commander. Diving right into the enemy's range, he starts spinning the spear like a whirlwind, then slashes and batters his way through the massive monsters blocking his path. He pulls it off, then drops a whole crew of them one after another. His subordinates crowd in, eyes glued to the fight, cheering their commander as he carves straight through every opponent like it's nothing, so don't get too close while he's still handling that spear. He grins, swings back toward his steed, and praises him for a job well done. But he never counted on this. His opponents could fly, and then a massive bird swooped straight over his head. She charges straight at helpless warriors, while the young ones scatter in every direction, desperate to escape. The commander barks orders and rips into himself for that careless lapse. He spots that cockatrice towering bigger than all the rest, and fear hits him. This situation is bad, and he might not make it in time. Then he whips his head up, yelling, "Where's that voice from above screaming that he'll handle it?" The girl bolts over to help her friend right away. Using the rock-crushing technique, she slams a devastating blow straight into their heads, and the whole crowd gapes in pure shock. The monster crumples to the ground, and the heroine drops down right beside him. She whips around to the driver and tells the boys, "I've got the cure for petrification right in my hands." Warriors can barely hold it together. They're so overwhelmed with happiness, they almost break down crying. The commander strides right up to the girl and calls out to her, and she answers with fire in her eyes that she'll fight alongside them. The girl who's built to wear that jacket, she's gotta be a hammer master, and she'll be their saving grace, letting the heroes last longer, but the man still can't shake the worry gnawing at him. Everything's got a breaking point, and right now, it all hinges on how fast they can brew those potions. The chaos cuts to a church, where a girl presses bandages onto a battered, wounded man. Then a maid sneaks up behind her and calls her by name. She asks for a minute with the heroine, and the girl spins around in shock. The girl stares at her guest in total shock. It spots the maid's face and snaps, "Is that really Ryuko-san?" And the heroine's jaw drops at this sudden arrival, while they press water to explain how he can help with the maid. The maid glides in with her usual grace and asks the heroine if she'll let her meet the 4 kids raised inside the church. They hammer on the door, and the girls snap around, asking right away if they need help. The girl slumps in an apology to the maid, saying she's exhausted but the children are her hope and they'll step in to help her. Now it's back to work, she has to go. As she walks out, the maid stares after her, then turns to the kids and vows that she'll handle the name from here. She bends toward the girls, eyes locked on them, and demands to know if they'll hand over what's hiding behind them. Behind it sits a cabinet where the egg is stashed, and the heroines stare at the maid in pure terror. The girl leans in and tells him, "You need this, right now." She promises that the girls will march straight to the main character with her, but the little ones start to protest, only for the maid to cut them off mid-argument. The girls burst into tears, blurt out apologies, and swear they're desperately sorry this happened. The maid is stunned by the reaction, then snaps back to her senses and rushes an apology to the children too, while the girl explains, "I was just in the middle of a battle, so I didn't even have time to process what was happening." She flashes a sweet little smile and bends down to beam at the children. She admits her face is covered in worry, and she's about to get hit even harder than the housework, because they swap her out again for being confused. She just wanted to tell the girls what to do. She swears that everything's going to be okay, and the main character proves it with his kindness. She smiles and assures him that the young man will absolutely, no doubt, forgive them. The maid thrusts her arms wide to scoop the kids into hugs, then urges them all to rush to him together. Meanwhile, back at the main character's house, potion making is still in full swing, heaving breaths, shaking hands, and he refuses to quit. He barrels up yet another batch of medicine and declares, now it needs to be delivered. The man nods and agrees. The hero realizes he can't waste a second. He has to whip up the medicine right now. Then his head suddenly starts spinning, and the moment he turns around, he calls out the young man's name. The man gapes at the protagonist in pure horror, but there's no time to react. Then the young man drops, and just like that, someone catches him. The maid swoops in with lightning hands, cradling him in her arms as she asks if he's okay. And the young man can't help smiling because he realizes the girl saved him. The main character grins and tells her, "You're tougher than you look," even though she's got that delicate vibe, and now everyone's got to factor in the power of his maid too. She bows, then thanks him with real respect. She tells the protagonist that beyond the walls everything's still fine, no fires, no wreckage, and the enemies haven't wrecked a thing yet. The protagonist lights up, calling it the best, most encouraging news. He pants hard, realizing the truth. Problems are hitting him now, even if the protagonist keeps chugging mana potions, because fatigue and brutal magical exhaustion slam in anyway. This is the cost of brewing legendary potions in bulk. She realizes one thing can flip the whole situation overnight, so she snaps her gaze to the main character and blurts, "I've got one more piece of news." The young man blurts out, "What are you talking about?" And the heroine whips around to face the kids, demanding they stay brave. The boys can't bring themselves to look up at their teacher, because shame burns so hot in their chests they'd rather die than admit they messed up. The maid gives the cat girl a gentle nudge and tells her to slow down, she can take her sweet time. The little girl squeezes her eyes shut, begs for forgiveness, and admits the monster's attack might have happened because of them. Then she trembles so hard she can't even meet her teacher's gaze. The main character freezes in pure shock and stares at the object the little girl thrusts into his hands. The girl cradles a cockatrice egg in her hands, and the stunned man can't stop staring, glued to every second of it. The kid keeps the egg in their hands, insisting they came for an adventure, sure they'd earn it as a trophy, but not like this, not this fate. Then one of the men sneers and calls the girl a cat, snatches the egg right out of her grip, and snarls that she has no idea what she's done. The kids shake with terror and spill out desperate pleas for forgiveness. The main character yanks the enraged man by the arm at the last second, stopping his swing before it can land on the child. He tells the young man to hold up and snaps that he's dead wrong, while the protagonist insists it's not the kids at fault and that someone else is behind it. He keeps crushing the man's hand to stop him from hurting the girls, while the maid throws herself between him and the kids to keep them safe, and the protagonist blurts that these aren't the only monsters out there. For instance, there are some creatures that pop out of eggs, and yeah, the rumor is the Viasilisks and Karalusks lay eggs so delicious they're worth a fortune, so selling them could pay you a pretty tidy sum. The main character dropped that exact line during one of his lectures, and the moment he said it, the girls' eyes lit up, because they instantly decided, we're getting that egg. All of them were hunting for him, and when the main character finally laughed, he told them, maybe someday we'll find each other. That wild, curious kid energy was so young and so innocent it instantly grabbed your attention, and then he admitted flat out that he didn't even realize stealing eggs is forbidden, because he was the one who never bothered to warn him. The young guy flat out admits it. He's the one who's fully to blame for the attack, while the other man tries to object. His friend starts to stagger, then collapses onto the ground, utterly wiped out. The young man drops to his knees in front of everyone and begs for forgiveness. Then he snaps the blame right off me, pleading, please don't scold anyone. The kids whip their heads toward the teacher, and the man pauses, thinking hard, then admits he's guilty too, because how could he ever have the nerve to attack a little child? The shaking kid edges up to the protagonist again and begs for forgiveness, and the protagonist ruffles his hair, then asks if he'll give him an egg. The main character flashes a confident grin and tells everyone, don't worry, everything's fine. Leave the rest to me. The kid shoves the egg into the young man's hands and he shoots back. What's he gonna do with it? Kraft grins and says, trust me, everything starts right now. He demands to know what they're doing, then snaps that it's time to start prepping. He whips around to his assistant, and she says they've got to mix the 6th and 9th potions. The protagonist grins and declares it's perfect, then they can finally begin. He stuffs an egg into the barrel and launches wicked magic spells to make it work. With this egg in his hands, he can pull off the impossible. The entire room erupts in blinding light, all of it pouring out from that egg like radiant beams. The main character clenches his teeth and tries to hold the magic back. Finally, he blurts out with pure joy that he's pulled off exactly what he set out to do. The protagonist announces, Panacea the cockatrice ready, and the man snaps in shock. Wait, what panacea are you talking about? As the protagonist throws his voice out and demands everyone listen to him, dead careful. He swears this potion is the real miracle. When it reflects, it reverses every effect opponents dish out. Breath returns to the ones who were left helpless, and even the petrified snap back to their old selves. Everyone in the room whips their eyes to the main character, stunned with mouths hanging open in pure admiration. The man clamps onto the young man's hand and squeezes it so hard it feels like he's trying to crush the strength out of him. He asks, don't you feel scared to breathe anymore? And the moment he says it, his eyes well up with tears, but the man refuses to believe they can save anyone who's already been petrified. Still, the protagonist snaps back, yes, you can, and demands they spread the potion right now. They all break into happy agreement like, yes, let's do it. At least we don't have to worry about what those cockatrices do, but the danger isn't over, because that whole herd is still out there, and if they just show up already, we could finally deal with them. The fight shifts straight to the Golden Dawn's toughest squad, because if Redoc's group shows up here, they could flip the whole situation in an instant. He throws out a furious swear, and declares the only thing that matters right now is figuring out how to reach this group. The girl claims she has a hunch about where the man's group might be hiding, then the young guy stares at her in shock. He clamps the heroine by the shoulders and demands, "Is it true?" She nods. He fires back, "Where are we right now? Tell me," he insists. She answers, "The day we didn't find the egg downriver near the forest, we spotted a camp." The protagonist flashes a grim nod. "I get it." This rest stop was the last breath of peace before the monster hunt exploded into action. Between rest stops and quick prep breaks, the adventurers kept moving. Then the main character studied the map in full, locked in, and decided they had to be close by. He barks at his friends, "Move, come with me to the guild right now." The hero jabs a finger at the map and insists this spot has to stay on top, and the moment he says it, the Celts swarm everywhere, sprinting around with stacks of documents, while the cat girl stares at the map, eyes widening in pure shock. She demands to know what happened, and the young man snaps back, "I'll tell you, right after I gather everyone." The protagonist greets Kyle, checks in on how things stand, and says every panacea potion is already handed out and the formation's back, until one ugly snag rears its head. The healing potion is nearly gone, then the protagonist blurts out, stunned, "I made so many." He hangs his head and apologizes, saying the potion ingredients are completely finished. Kyle grins and promises, "We'll figure something out for sure." Then the protagonist starts telling his story. He drops a plan, straight up tells them how to flip the whole situation, and every hero stares at him like they've just seen the impossible. The young man snaps open the map and declares the odds of finding the Redox group in this area are insanely high, then jabs his finger at a specific spot. So the protagonist leans in and says he's determined to crack a way to reach him. How does he confirm that those men are really there? The young man snaps back, "Yes," then gestures toward the kids and tells him they spilled the truth to them, because they didn't hear it from anyone. They watched their camp with their own eyes. The young man insists that if it isn't true, they'll waste no time getting it handled before evening. And on the Redrick side too, they can hit with a brutal surprise strike, coming down from both sides at once. If they move right now, they might still catch up, so the protagonist asks, "Is there a way to slip past the enemies without getting noticed?" But the other person shakes their head and admits, "I'm afraid you can't escape them unnoticed." Suddenly he snaps into action, orders everyone to wait right here, and points at the map, "Follow this route, and you'll make it through safe." The protagonist snaps in shock, asking if there's really a way, and the young man smirks, "Yep, the hero can slip right through the sewer network." The protagonist is stunned to the core, then whips his eyes to the sewer diagram. "Yeah, head for the sewer system. Just cut off the water, and that part's easy. Then you can slip out without going far, right near the camp where the guy and his squad are posted." That young guy swears that if you slip through the sewer tunnels, you'll slide under the enemy without a sound, and link up with the Redox squad. The sewer maze is a nightmare to navigate. If they don't find LaFonson and get answers from her, they'll be trapped and vanish. The protagonist whips around and demands everyone call her, right now, urgently, and the maid instantly obeys. She burst out of the room and the protagonist almost asked his foreign tourists for help, but then he realized this is just as good for him. Still, one thing gnaws at him, the heroine's blistering pace, because if she keeps moving that fast around the city, it could turn into real danger. With LaFonson, he swears they won't get lost, so he tells the girl to push past the city limits for sure. Then, out of nowhere, one of the kids grabs his attention and begs the young man to take him too, and the protagonist freezes, shocked, and stares down. Edo stared at him with those huge, tear-soaked eyes, and everything about him begged, "Please, take me with you." The main character sprints up the stairs, not wasting a second. A young man grips two riders tight, preventing them from slipping off his horse as the girl whips her head toward the main character and warns, "There'll be a street up those stairs." The young man nods like he's got it, then digs his heels in and pushes his horse forward, until the child tries to speak and he snaps, "Quiet, don't bite your tongue." For now, he can count on him. He insists the kid can help, and the protagonist asks straight up if the child will actually show him how to reach their allies. The kid just grins. He's like, "Yeah, of course I'm gonna prove it, no doubt about it." The time is here. Our heroes are rushing back with reinforcements. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a monster hunt is raging. One man blasts a giant beast, then warns that its screams could wreck their mission. He decapitates him, then demands he slip out of this life in total silence. A stunning warrior launches herself off it like a rocket. Using a special magical tool, Seal and the others haul the monster's severed body up, higher and higher, until it vanishes into the sky. The young man tells them to drop a bit, then hurries over and asks his colleague if they're finished, while the girl promises she'll climb higher and double-check just in case, and the other two slowly lower the monster down with total care. Trading silence for survival is brutal, yet it keeps them from running into a single cockatrice. Today they've got 3 missions: snag potion ingredients, wipe out monsters that are stirring up trouble in the city, and scout how fast the cockatrice army is moving. They tried to slip through the battle like it was stealth mode. no noise, no eyes on them, and that plan backfired hard. They never ran into a single enemy, so they couldn't get any real intel, and the team leader decides they'll have to push deeper into the forest. The scout admits she's not 100% sure, but she swears a huge pack of cockatrices is moving in one direction, so the boy shoots back, "Aren't they going to the city?" And the girl shakes her head, no. She insists they're taking a whole different route away from the city, and during the stampede, they were meant to hit it straight on, to tear it apart. So tell me, what could possibly be more tempting than the city? The man snaps that their path just got rerouted, and the heroes waste no time, chasing their opponents right after. Right now, the only thing we can trust is this. They might not be able to hold the city, and if they manage to get ahead of the enemy, they'll finally see what's really going on. As for what happens next, nobody knows, but one thing's almost guaranteed. A sudden, shocking attack is coming. Hero, they all nod and swear. If their leader commands it, they'll obey without question, and they'll even accept the pain of leaving this place behind. The young man just smiles, saying he already knew they'd say yes. The man thanks them for their understanding, and right behind him, the forest is crawling with monster traces. The hero barrels in and slams these massive tracks, only to find them already swarming with footprints from a bunch of opponents who got through before him. He fires questions at whoever's nearby, demanding where they're headed and what's going on, but the answers stay fuzzy. Worry grips the man's face, and these tracks reveal almost nothing about whether this panic flight was real or just a brutal misdirection. If that were true, the tracks should have been all over the place, but these are perfectly coordinated. As they march, everything's already back to normal. His partner snaps in shock and asks if it was already fixed when they came through here. The hero jabs his hand to the side and grins, saying, "It's right there, already close." He can feel it, one tiny step more, and they'll finally crack the truth behind the cockatrice's real madness. The girl blurts out, "Why is everyone panicking like this?" She points out that figuring out why their opponents are acting like that is literally on their checklist. Then she snaps, "Hurry up now." She repeats it again, and just like that, she freezes. Every hero locks eyes at the same moment, because nobody can figure out what's going on. A towering tree, twisted in the weirdest way imaginable, loomed ahead of them like a living nightmare. The hero halts dead in his tracks and throws his head back to get a better look at the weird phenomenon, while the squad leader's body breaks into a cold sweat, and he blurts, "Wait, is this really the same tree?" One of the expedition guys swears that his old teacher once told him about plants that can make animals lose their minds, but he's got zero details to back it up. Then boom, a colossal monster crashes out of the forest like it's been waiting for the perfect moment. The heroes slap on masks in pure terror, praying they won't get hit by his cursed breath. Then a giant cockatrice rockets straight at the mysterious tree at full speed. The squad leader tracks every move, and when it finally reaches the plant, he topples to the ground and starts rolling on it. The hero stares, totally lost about what's going on, while the monster claws at the tree's roots like it's digging for something. The squad's leader stares at everything, panic clawing at his chest. This is the first time he's ever seen something like it, and then the monsters start surging up right in front of him. The massive bird's eyes bulge out of their sockets, and a formless, impossible liquid spills from its mouth. Eventually, the bird crashes to the ground, its eyes whirling like they've lost control. The bird keeps violently thrashing, and thick foam spills from its mouth like it can't breathe. The heroes freeze on their feet, terrified to spook the strange creature. Then one of them blurts out that Bardak was right after all, like every wild thing is playing out exactly the way he warned. The heroes finally crack the truth. This monster isn't running in panic for nowhere. It's the tree, and that's what's driving it. The heroes stay planted and stare up, until the leader snaps out of his daze and shouts that they need to inspect these plants first. Then he orders his assistants to sweep the whole area, while the girl drops to the ground and spots glimmering treasures shining through the grass. She reaches out, grabs one, and holds it to the sunlight. Then the heroes gasp because it's a dragon scale. The young man stares at everything with laser focus, then blurts out that he finally gets what it all truly was. One of the soldiers whips around to the captain and demands he look at the roots, because right there, claw marks dig into them, and judging by the size, those aren't any ordinary claws there from a massive dragon. The man insists the tree had to be dragon food, because they just slaughtered it, while everyone else gasps in horror, screaming that it can't be true. The young man swears it's real. After he smashes the dragon, the area around that cursed tree becomes safe for everyone else in the forest, and that's when they start getting swallowed by its madness, all at once. One of the young guys claims they changed the tree's own ecosystem, but his teammates snap back that they didn't slay the dragon just to make things worse. Then the machine shrugs and says nobody's totally sure. Yet for now, this is the closest explanation for why everyone's bolting in panic. That tree is trouble waiting to happen, and they need to burn it before it claims anyone else. and the hero nods along right away. The squad strikes a match on the tree and watches it blaze slowly, and when it refuses to burn down, they all realize they're in for a harder fight. So the young man snaps, "All right, we've got to push ourselves way more than that." They have to torch it before every enemy crawls back to this spot. Then, out of nowhere, the girl spots something. She can feel it, something S about to blow up big. The heroine insists it's huge, but the man instantly labels it a monster, then squirms away and demands they get more time. He snaps orders at his comrades to keep the tree blazing, then bolts off himself to head straight for the monster, because he knows this panicked retreat can't keep going. He plants himself in front of the colossal monster and screams, "No one's crossing," and then the hero's eyes widen as multiple people suddenly tumble off him. The protagonist loudly praises the black dragon, saying he nailed it, job well done, while the squad leader stares at the young man in shock, demanding if it's truly him, and the young man nods, saying they've finally tracked him down. The baby launches onto the man for a hug, and the squad's leader can't believe their sudden arrival. The protagonist admits they never found the camp where the detachment last saw food, so they headed straight for the smoke, and the moment they did, he's over the moon, convinced he wouldn't be able to handle it. He tells the child he tried his best, but the heroes don't have a second to waste, so the young man promises he'll explain everything on the move and orders the warriors to name their comrades. But all he could think was, once the tree's here, the trouble will vanish. But the stampede is still raging, and it's getting worse by the second. Vaughn says he heard the potions to counter the nuts would take weeks to brew. He asks the protagonist how it's going, and the protagonist snaps back, "I found a way." Then he admits there's one thing he'll have to beg his friends for. He tells them he needs their help to take down the raging opponents. He says, yeah, this request is tied to the risk of death, and the heroes can refuse, period. Then a young man cuts in and interrupts the protagonist. He leans in and grills the young man, asking exactly how well they know each other, and how long he thinks their bond's been building. The protagonist stares off, thinking hard, then the warriors snap back. He's a little late, but that just means he'll give the opponents the full slaughter in return. And that young man, he's overflowing with gratitude for his friend. The knight's jaw dropped. Somehow the kid knew exactly where their camp was, even though they hadn't even tried to hide him, and it sat way too close to the city. Then the protagonist snapped, saying it all happened because of his own blunder. If someone had that kind of power at that age, they'd be off chasing adventures too. The brave writer snaps that, yeah, in this case they've got a responsibility too. They let it run wild and push the training too far. The girl from the team nods but fights back. They should have taught not just strength, but responsibility. Because even if adventurers run their own lives, they're still just kids. Now the protagonist finally gets why Kyle kept hammering home that education matters in raising kids. Because raising children is no walk in the park, and he turns to ask why everyone looks so crushed. Right beside him, the girl fires back, yelling that they're about to kick the opponents out, demanding everyone lift their spirits and fight on. She shrieks that they'll never push her around in her own house again, and that she'll make them remember who runs their city. The knight chuckles and calls that attitude perfect for the guild's boss. Then the protagonist whips around to the kid and tells him not to worry. He swears they'll protect the city no matter what, then asks the girl if he's still worked up. She tells him to keep his chin up, and the young guy even shrugs and jokes that maybe the kid's not in danger. Maybe he's just scared of the enemy. Right here he snaps into instant screaming mode, straight up denying it, claiming he's not scared of anyone at all, while the main character fires back, saying this is a whole different situation, and urging him to head home just like this. The comrades march back home with fire in their hearts, still pumped to keep fighting. And now this is it. Their greatest moment is finally here. The hero barrels toward the house at full speed, and the young man grabs Edo by the shoulders. Duck down and hold tight. Edo nods, and they both lock in and follow the plan. The main character rockets to the front, blasting a war cry that rallies everyone into a full-out attack. He reaches out his hand, and a blinding glow pours from his fingers. Your opponents have one fatal weakness, and the knights finally figured it out through brutal recon, but it only hits after dark. That's exactly what their plan needs, light. Under the harsh night glare, they'll blind and shake them up for a long time. They're confident the protagonist can pull it off. No doubt, just pure momentum. Now it's go time for his secret plan. He has to blast the light straight at his opponents, and the hero pulls it off using the power of the sun. The monsters snap to a stop, stare straight up, and start scanning the sky. Where is that light even coming from? The knight loudly hypes the main character, praising his incredible work, and then, right on cue, they manage to throw the enemy off balance and totally disorient them. Now the monsters have flipped into ordinary chickens, so this is their one shot. The friends sprint in and launch the attack. He cranks up his speed and turns his body into something tougher. Then, boom, he lands a single devastating hit. With a roaring battle cry, he charges straight into the fight. The hero smashes with one crushing strike, unleashes a hurricane storm, and finishes it off like a mountain trimmer cutting the peak. With their powers synced, they slam in together, hoping to crush the enemy for good. The main character barrels forward, launching a full-force assault on the last remaining opponents. He hurls gifts at him while blasting his eyes with a relentless storm of light projectiles. From the outside, this battle looks absolutely massive and unreal. The knight roars that they've smashed through the formation, and that the heart of it has to be right around here. He blasts out orders, demanding everyone clear space for the craft. The young man whips around to the protagonist and flashes a clear signal. Now, right this second, you've got to act. No, Poppy should burn every last drop of magic in a fight. Once it's gone, he's wide open and helpless. But now the hero is seconds from unleashing magic that will drain every bit of power, and there's no potion to patch him up, only time. But he doesn't even flinch at being wide open on this battlefield. His brutal, loyal comrades got his back, so he can cast magic without a shred of fear, and the hero drives the young man forward. The main character unleashes the scorching, fiery hell, a gust of inferno that tears through everything in its path. Flames swallow everything around him, burning the whole world to the ground. Flames roar through the battlefield, turning every opponent to ash, and the heroes just stare in shock, because they never once imagined the main character could unleash power like this. The young guy flashes a grin, then collapses, drained to the bone. His friends snatch him up and cheer like he just won the whole war. He threw everything he had into that battle, and now the heroes get the message. They stop pressing him because he's officially burned every last drop of energy. The warriors demand to know if it was his magic, then order the protagonist to rest, swearing they'll take care of the remaining enemies themselves. The knight pulls the protagonist aside and asks for a few heroic deeds, and the protagonist flashes a fist in pure friendship, then thanks him for every bit of help. The warriors slam into the enemy's shattered remnants, moving as one friendly horde, and one of the main character's comrades yanks him back, insisting, "You can't fight right now, so you're staying beside me." The young man shoots back, "Shouldn't I go help the others?" Then he snaps, "Or did you forget who's standing next to you?" The main character grins and blurts out that he honestly forgot. Warriors clash with pure joy, pumping each other up, and taunting their opponents like it's all part of the fun. So they're basically like, did the enemy seriously think they could do anything to us? And yeah, tonight they're even cracking open rotisserie chicken for dinner. They lay out step by step exactly what they can do with the catch and how to prep it. Ordinary warriors rush into the fight too, shrugging off the shell-shocked enemies like they're nothing. And yeah, they've even slain dragons before. So with everyone pitching in, the Golden Dawn got saved. Every enemy was wiped out to the very last one, and when the dust settled, the warriors who had fallen in battle were yanked back, resurrected, unfrozen, and ready to fight again. The hero drags every monster corpse into one massive pile, shoves the bodies into the soil, and sets them ablaze with a flammable potion he prepared, fast, before the rot takes hold and the whole thing starts breaking down. After that, a sea of magical stones sprawls out in front of the heroes, and they shoot the idea down, no burning a single rock. They grab it all and keep it for themselves. The kid rushes up with empty vials of a flammable potion for the main character, blurting and fussing nonstop, desperately trying to make up for his guilt, then scrambling in every way to help, thankful that the main character took his mistakes so nobly and understood him. The girl yanks him to a halt and flashes a hush sign, so the kid freezes in shock, then whips his eyes over to the young man. The exhausted hero sprawls right in the middle of the room, and yeah, he's earned it, so the girl hands the baby over to give him a real break. He crushed it, and with that, the whole showdown against the opponents is finally shut down.